PETA. The Last of Us. Which version now? Is this PS4 Pro, PS3, PS5?
I don't know. I just like this music. But yeah, that's right, folks. This is Monday, a very special episode of Tales from the Dorkside. We'll be diving in, mushroom head first, into The Last of Us with my boy Blue. Blue Collar Losers joining me.
My boy Blue.
We don't need to do a big 2-minute intro like normal. We just do it like this. Hello,
balls deep.
How's it going?
I like that, my boy. I need to get a raptor avatar.
Stop the music. I also got, like I said, I got rid of the taskbar, technical prowess of myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that you're just here because honestly, I had 2 weeks ago, I wanted to do the stream last week, but couldn't finish the show in time. And I also wanted, had a few people expressing interest in it, but we wanted to wait for spoilery discussions.
Yeah.
And some of those normie friends of mine, they couldn't make it today because either A, they didn't finish the show, or B, they just straight up ghosted me, no interest at all, or B, or C, they're not available.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I'm glad that you're here because this means we can really nerd out. We can really go deep into it because originally I was thinking I might have like some friends of mine who didn't play the game and not too familiar with it. And I just didn't want it to be me and you just like berating these people for 3 hours about why the game is better.
Yeah.
In the game, it was like this. And in the show, it was like, but now it's just me and you. We can do it.
Yeah. I've done a couple episodes with my girlfriend and I'm still waiting to do the finale because she
watched all of them.
Well, she hasn't played the game, so but with our schedules, sometimes I can get her, sometimes I can't. But I'm a week behind because I really want to have her say her opinion on the finale because I knew what was coming, she didn't, and it's good seeing a non-gamer's opinion. So
no, totally. I mean, that's why I watched it with my mother, and it was the same thing. Like she had valuable insights, but as far as like, I mean, overall thoughts on the whole show without getting into the nitty gritty, the show's good. Obviously, the game's better, but
I agree.
There's so much, like there's a lot they added that was unnecessary, and there's so much they sacrificed and got rid of that really, it's why it falls kind of flat for me in terms of comparing it to the video game. But obviously, you gotta it's like, can you not compare it to the video game? It's like, well,
exactly.
It's hard.
Yeah, I plan on seeing it when I do my season recap. Those were my exact words, exactly how I feel, dude. It's like I want to say that it's good but not great. It's fun, or it's fun but flawed. And the critical drinker, he played the game. Guys like Mauler did. They agree that Mauler's like, I like the show, but I like the game better. That's just how it is.
Yeah, so. I mean, there's definitely like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'd give it 3 stars. I think I'd give it like 2.5, 2. It's good. It's okay. It's not great or excellent. I mean, and it is. I mean, it's definitely the best video game adaptation of all time right now. As of right now, hands down.
I agree. Yeah.
Best video game adaptation ever. But the thing is, it's like, it's so hard. Oh, hey. Farrell's here.
Hey, Farrell, what's up, man?
Glad you made it, buddy.
But yes. Some Jack Daniels lemonade. I guess it's like Mike's Hard, but it's Jack Daniels version. So.
I'm drinking some Topo Chico ranch water spiked with a bunch of tequila.
Nice.
And a little bit of that pina colada Jumex.
This is me warming up. We're gonna get drunker as we talk about The Last of Us. And
I actually finished like a bit of alcohol that was in this glass before. I was like, I don't want to throw that away from last night. Last night, me and my cousin watched Encino Man. So I'm hoping that'll be like our watch from this video this week.
I love Encino Man.
It was just like Suburban Commando, where it was fun, but like so much like
deep cuts,
logistics. The logistic fucking backstory makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just back in the 90s, you could just like turn in a little dog paper, and that could be your foreign exchange student. You didn't need any. It's like, what?
Nobody cared back then.
Yeah, but anyway, as far as like The Last of Us overall, I remember it's funny because like, I got a lot of lady friends who didn't play the game and they love the show. But it's funny because like my Aunt Darla and some other people, it's like they hated the ending.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that who haven't played the game.
And I think the ending's like the best part of the game. But I think the reason why the ending falls short in this show is because the danger is so downplayed. Like by the end of the game, you have killed so many people.
Yeah.
Or at least avoided being killed by so many people.
Well, that's the thing. If you watch
zombies.
It's like, well, Joe at the end of the game, he's holding Ellie, but he's running and people are still shooting at him because
I wanted to, I mean, like, obviously there's so much to talk about, and like that's something I want to talk about during the last episode is like just like little nitpicks, but like, yeah, the montage, the music in the game, like the montage is when he grabs Ellie and he's running out, but in the movie, he's like, as he's storming the building and there's no drama, he's going to get to her.
Definitely.
It's just like, dude, like that was the thing, is the last level of the game. It's the last level of the game. And then, I mean, I guess we could save that for later, but like getting into each episode. And that's the other thing is like, originally the way I wanted to structure this stream was like, I guess we'll talk about it overall objectively without the game for half the stream
and just go from beginning to end.
Talk about the game, but it's like, no, now we can talk about both at the same time. We'll talk about it like episodically, because that's the way the game is structured too. There's like episodes structured around the action set pieces.
Yeah. I think it's becoming overall, because people like, video games in the grand scheme of entertainment, it's still pretty much a new medium. But I feel like us as gamers, this is like when someone's like, hey, listen, I read the book and now I can't help watch the movie and not compare it to the book. That's how we are as gamers, because this is our books nowadays. Because how many people of our generation and my kids' generation aren't reading books? They're using video games as their new form of books. It's how it is.
And every single person who played The Last of Us was like, this would be the most excellent movie or mini series ever. And this is all obviously before the second game, which I never played. I know about certain obviously big spoiler things, but it's just like the backlash.
I think me and like all my friends, we were different. We always said that we don't want a Last of Us TV show for this exact reason, because you're going to take out a bunch of shit you should have in there. And the game itself is already a big fucking 15-hour movie. Why transition it? Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to keep changing things that you don't need to change.
Right. And that was the thing. I got to say, like, my opinion shifted. After I watched the first episode, I was very worried about the pacing. Because it's like, dude, there's so much that needs to be talked about, and they're adding all this extra shit. By the third episode, I was worried, but I did kind of get warned. I mean, even though the pacing was a little too tight for the last two episodes, the last two episodes were so like faithful. And that's what I was saying about this is like, okay, people want to be surprised. So if you play the game, you don't want to be, know every turn. But at the same time, the most surprising thing at this point, out of in the year of our Lord 2023, out of how many fucking adaptations we've had of video games and books and remakes of other movies, what would be most shocking and most surprising to the fans if it was literally 100% faithful remake? Like that would be the most surprising thing. Like you'd be shocked. You'd be like, I can't believe they're really just doing everything exactly the same way as the game. But it's one of those games that it's so fun to replay. So like reliving it in the form of a TV show would be, just as fun as replaying it almost.
I dare say that this happens with my friend Carlton, who's a big into Wheel of Time. They would always say that, he's like
he's
Carlton. Like, but he's like, well, he refuses to watch the show. At some point, I want to do a StreamYard with him, but that's separate. But he would say that, the TV show is such shitty that'll make more fans want to buy the book. Now, even with my girlfriend, she's like, you know what, Chris? Okay, now that I watched the show, now I really want to play the game. So now I can compare it. And I said, honey, I guarantee you when you play the game, you're going to like the game better.
But also like not even playing the game. Like what I did last night in the fucking 5 a.m. is I went through, I tried to relive the game again by going through the 6-hour like YouTube cinematic movie walkthrough, plus like a little bit of gameplay here and there. And just like burning through that at like double speed, skipping scenes here and there, taking screenshots, just like every scene, like you reminded, like, oh my God, like I forgot all about this and that. And overall, the main thing about the show, fucking so many less zombies. Fuck, there were zombies at every fucking turn. And I think that was the problem with the show. The big things with the problems with the show is like overall, like this is like all episodes problem. First of all, the spores. Like, there's the spores are an issue because it helps. It's why the fucking infection spreads. It's why. Hang on a second.
Got problems. So I'll keep talking. Well, before you start commenting, Farrell, I like the JD Jack Down Punch. LOL. I haven't tried the Farrell. Try it next.
Yeah, what's JD Down Home Punch? Is that an alcohol?
There's two. Well, this is the lemonade. There's a
Jack Daniels.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is that you did Mike's Hard Lemonade? My Bull Band cream cheese. We used to.
That's basically this. Just a Mike's Hard Lemonade called Jack Daniels.
There was like a tradition that they would do, and I never took part of it. Like it's like the whole band wants to chug a Mike's Hard Lemonade before the show, and I'm like, gross.
Before we get to the spores, do you ever watch the after credits episode where the directors talk about why they changed things for?
No, I didn't because I don't want to. I don't. I could guess why. I imagine the main reason is because Pedro Pascal doesn't want to spend another show as a front runner wearing a fucking mask the whole time.
According to them, which I talked to my girl about, she understood.
Sure it's a lie.
Really? They were saying that spores, even though Druckmann's like in the game, it's easy to make spores inside of a building, but realistically, spores are airborne. So like if you walk into a building, once you open the door, the spores wouldn't sit in a building. They're going to be going everywhere. So he's like, we changed that aspect, which I'm like, he's not wrong because spores wouldn't sit in like an apartment complex and not leave. They're airborne. They scatter. So I'm like, okay, I can give him that, like
true, but that's like there's so many great elements around the spores. Like for instance, the bloaters, in general, like they were explained at least. Like that was another problem I had with the show is like they say specifically in the show that the infected only live for a few months and then they die. And it's like, no, so they are literally zombies.
Well, I have to mention it's been 20 years.
Right. So that's the thing. It's like, but in the game, it's like they live for years and years because they're not technically alive. It's like those dead ants, they're not really alive. There's just like a mushroom that's like tinkering, sending electrical impulses in their brain and using their fucking body as like a puppet.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's kind of a mix between 28 Days Later with the Rage virus, but also it is a zombie thing because they're literally dead. They're corpses like running around and like you said, after in the game, like a clicker is like years of infection. Yeah. And then like a bloater is like what, a decade of infection? Like who knows?
Something like that. So, like you said, you want the only person criticizing that eventually they start making the infected aren't like even, especially episode 8 and 9. It's like they're not even a factor anymore.
Yeah, and when they do show up, they're like not a threat at all.
Yeah.
And or the fucking what was the episode where like they're the infected show up and help them save the day. It's like the Jurassic Park T-Rex. It's like, oh god. Yeah. When the infected show up, it's like everyone's in danger. Everyone is like now rallies together all of a sudden. That's how it should be. But then again, it's like, I mean, we'll go into like the specifics of each episode, but like, another big problem I had with the show in general, like, no spores. The zombies are just not there because they've all died off. But also a big problem was the guns. Right at the very in the first game, the first level, post apocalypse, you get to know they do a great job of the world building. Joel wakes up and fucking, Tess shows up. She's been in a fight. We don't know anything about who Robert is or what the hell. It doesn't matter really. And then they go to the tunnels and they get their backpack and it's like he's got an old rickety fucking 45 and the bullets. They make a very specific point in the show to be like, oh, there's a factory. It makes bullets and pills. It's like great, but still bullets would be hard to find. And every bullet. That was the thing about the game. It's like the show is definitely the game on fucking super easy mode.
Oh,
that's my huge problem with it. The game was so hard. Like you watch Joel die 100,000 times, like 100 different ways.
They definitely make it inside the game resources. Like there's certain points where, if you, depending how you're playing, you're either going stealth or using like the melee attacks because bullets are so scarce.
Yeah, 100%. And exactly. And also every time you fire a fucking bullet, it's like clickers show up. Exactly. Fucking raiders show up. That was the other thing.
A lot more stealth in the game.
They definitely do like in the game. The first thing you encounter is like in post-apocalypse is like people, but they make a point in the show, first thing you encounter is like bad guys, but like in the game, it's like, no, first we deal with the zombies.
Yeah.
Because
it's
the bigger
lag issues.
Sorry. In the game. Yeah. I was saying in the game, like the thing is fighting zombies is one thing, but people like raiders, it's way harder. Like we have guns and they're trying to kill you, The zombies are kind of stupid. Another thing, like I noticed watching the game through the gameplay is like they didn't do this in the show, but like the cordyceps, they kind of like glow in the dark, and that was something we haven't seen. And it's like maybe they'll do that in the second series, but I don't give a shit about the second season.
That's gonna be fun when that comes out.
I am also overall the big thing about the overall season is like everyone that loves the first season that hasn't played the game. It's going to be so funny when the second season comes out and it's super faithful to the game and all those same people like jump ship. They're like, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
The same thing that all the gamers had, the same criticisms the game unceremoniously, spoilers, kill the main character off, you know, and then we have to like empathize with the villain somehow, Cruella de Vil style. Nobody likes that shit. And like, it's going to be so funny when all these like, you know, they finally, HBO like tapped into these like, you know, soccer moms basically to watch the show, and they're loving the show because it's got, you know, emotion apparently. But like, it's going to be so funny when they're all called transphobes because they don't like the second season, you know?
According to Neil Druckmann, his exact quote was like, "I don't give a shit." And it's like, hey guys, now we're starting to see Neil Druckmann again. Now the show comes out, and now he's being Neil Druckmann, where it's like, hey, fuck you to the fans, shitting on the fans. And from Jeremy Geeks and Gamers to Nerd Rock, they all call him as Heels versus Babyface. They call him Neil Cuckman because the guy's a fucking prick on
it's like
on
these
the internet.
names, these nicknames like Jar Jar Abrams and Ryan Roundhead Johnson. They fucking earn their nicknames. We didn't come up with the nicknames. Like the nickname fucking formed around them. Neil Cuckman. It just fucking formed itself.
Yeah, it's definitely this happens all the time with Hollywood and now with the gaming industry. It's like, you know, instead of having some kind of civility, be nice about it, explain to the fans why we made certain creative decisions. It's no, we know better. You're stupid. Go fuck yourself.
But it's funny because like if the show was great, if the games were great, both games were great, we'd be calling him Neil Struck Goldman. You know, we'd be like, whatever. Like we'd come up with a better nickname for him.
Yeah. Now there's a reason Last of Us 2 got the hatred it did, but you can tell that he was a lot more involved with the second game versus the first game, because the first game you can tell he had a lot more input for part 2 because there's no
first
way.
Game. You know? That's the thing about the game, like you said about Joel, because I did watch all your episodes last night, and like first of all, like you said with like Joel, just like the panic attacks. What is that all about?
Out of everything I've done, that's the most dislikes I've gotten. That's why I was like, I laugh because whether it's as Heels versus Babyface, I think because he's got 400,000 subscribers. If he says it, or Gary Nerdrotic or Mauler Drinker, no one fucks with these guys. But me, I call Joel a pussy. I get fucking like everyone's slaying me like you piece of shit, and you don't understand.
First of all, as and all those zeros, like Mike, like fucking, it's so funny how they got upset for being called it was like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. It's like him and a bunch of zeros that orbit him is what Ethan Van Sciver said. Yeah. And that caused like the fracture in the fucking fandom menace or whatever. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But honestly, like as you know, the guy, I mean, he's extremely British or Australian or whatever the hell. It's like his stick.
I think my thing is like, cause I watched Az because he does with that girl, I forgot the black chick with the avatar, Nina there. But it's like I watch his takedown, and he calls Joel every single name I called Joel. But I think because he has a higher sub count, it's like his comment section is different than my comment section because I have like 200 subs versus 200,000. And I think once you hit a certain aspect, people can't fuck with you.
At least you get comments. Shit. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I plan to do some more of these like shorter videos like towards the end of summer. But I'm definitely having a fucking blast, like cranking out these Wii Watches and these podcasts every week, because it doesn't even matter if people are watching them, because I just enjoy nerding out. Like if me in blue collar, first of all, we can't go fucking meet at a bar because we live on opposite sides of the country. But even if we lived in the same city, it's like, hey, you want to go to a bar, talk about The Last of Us for 3 hours and drink? And it's like, kind of, but not to the, you know, not really. And then also, let's say we're at a party or something, and I just run into you there. Hey, you want to talk about The Last of Us? It's like, we'll talk about it. I saw it. It was good. It's like, no, I mean, really talk about it. Like break down every episode. It's like, no, I got there's people here. I got to mingle.
I'm looking forward to when we get to episode 6, your takedown, because man, I've been wanting to like. It's
is that the episode with
that's the panic attacks, and I said it.
That's the Brothers Ranch area, right?
Yeah, I haven't super chatted to Critical Drinker, and he gave me like him and Mueller were kind of like nicer about it, like, well. Yeah, we'll get to that later, but I still stand by it that I called Joel a pussy. I'm sorry.
No, he is. And also, the thing about episode 3 and episode 6, those are like the two tales of what could have been. Because like I said, I ran through like technically what should have been episode 3 and 6 in the game, and it's like so much more exciting. So, but like, as far as like, you know, as far as like more overall stuff, like, like the issue with the guns, another issue with the guns is like working your way up. Like, first of all, where the fuck's the bow and arrow? Where is Ellie with her bow and arrow? Like, she's basically totally useless, you know, pretty much until, and she, that's the other thing is she commits to violence like too early. I remember, we'll talk about that stuff later, but like, there's just like the idea of the game is like you slowly work your way up to like you don't get
Yes.
the assault rifle until the end when you're fucking saving Ellie at
Yeah.
the hospital.
It feels earned, definitely.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
you know, like I said, every bullet, like every time someone fires a gun, it should be like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
why'd you do that? Like, stab the guy, Molotov cocktails, nothing like that. Brick in the head. None of these like fucking famous kills in the game or even you know mentioned. Apparently, just everyone's got plenty of bullets, and that's the other thing. When they're getting in firefights with other people, they're exchanging bullets like no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say overall, because especially with things like Facebook now and Twitter and YouTube comment section, this and Wes would say this in the Critical Drinking group that it's weird that Last of Us has become such a very toxic fan base because it seems to be the extreme where, like you said, some people will say, "Well, this is 1 out of 10. It's the worst thing ever." No, it's not that by any means. But also, people I've seen on Facebook are like, "This is the best thing I've ever fucking seen," and it's a perfect adaptation of a video game. And I'm like, dude, you've never played the game if you think this is a perfect adaptation.
Perfect,
You're full of
best.
shit.
It is the best, but that's only because video game adaptations are so notoriously terrible.
Exactly,
it has nothing to do with like video game. Oh, it's like it's so hard to pick the best video game adaptation. It's like, no, this is clearly the best one ever done.
Yeah.
Like because of just in terms of popularity and in terms of critical acclaim and all this stuff. There's just no doubt about it.
I mean, I want to be like the drinker when I do my season recap where I just want to say it's good, but not great. I liked it, but I have criticisms. And what's wrong with having criticism? I'm not saying I hate the fucking thing. I'm just saying
the thing is, I kind of like go back on even calling it good because one of the things that's also very lacking, like what's so fucking shitty is they sacrifice so many great action set pieces, so many moments where like a horde of zombies are showing up, and what do we do? Or we have to like sneak our way through a fucking building filled of men with guns that are trying to kill us. And there's so many scenes where like, oh, you want to get to the hospital? Well, there's a fucking tunnel full of zombies before we get to that hospital. Yeah. Like you got to be rewarded. So like the problem is like all that stuff is sacrificed for more of these like scenes of people emoting in various locations. But like still somehow the connection between Joel and Ellie is not nearly as strong as it was in the game because A, they 100%. Haven't gone through so much danger, and B, like we're sacrificing their specific story to tell these other character stories that weren't in the game. Like you got that lady from Heavenly Creatures who's like the leader of the resistance.
Oh yeah, I know.
In what town that was? Pittsburgh.
Total waste of time. Yeah.
But the thing about that was like in the game, it was like, no, it's just like there was a Fedra type place and it was overrun by looters and raiders. And now it's just like all over. There isn't like some kind of leadership cast. It's just like, hey, people with guns and military equipment roaming the streets, killing what they call tourists.
Yeah, I mean, I call it good only because you can see this if anybody YouTube's say episode 7, 8, or 9, because there are sometimes a 10-minute sequence where they verbatim copy scene for scene, line for line from the game. So that's why I would rate it as good because they did change things, but like I said, the ending's the same, the opening's the same, and there's a lot of segments. Like I said, you take a 40-minute episode. The good part is they'll take 10 minutes and make this verbatim for the game. But the problem for guys like Wes is like, dude, well, I've seen videos where they show shot for shot comparison. No doubt that's cool. But then you don't hear about the 50% they cut out. That's why I'm calling it great for.
Well, I was saying like, earlier on, I remember we talked about it and I was saying like, oh, this could have been like 2 or 3 seasons if you really wanted to like really pad it out, but that would have been bad too. Like really unnecessary pad it out like they were doing, like explain the origins in Taiwan or whatever the hell it was and explain all that stuff. Sure, then you could have made it like a 2-3 season arc, but really now that I've seen the whole thing, it's like it could have benefited from maybe like 1 or 2, maybe 3 more episodes because like
easily. Yeah.
First of all, like as far as like the prequel episodes, 3 and the mall episode 7.
Episode 7 Left Behind. Yeah.
So 3 and 7, like I don't know if you played the 7, the prequel in the game.
Yeah, I did.
But like, the game came out, it was great, everyone loved it. And then like a year or 2 later, they released this prequel episode. So that's what it should have been. Like you have the fucking 10 episodes of the story, and then after the end of the first season, we have a bonus episode 13, and that's like the whole mall episode after the fact. Like that would have been fun. And then the whole Bill and Frank episode, like as far as like that, it's like, first of all, like the fact that Bill is dead, because the whole point when we were watching Bill and Frank's backstory, I assumed we're just gonna the end of the episode is Bill and Joel and Ellie finally being together on frame, but no, it totally subverted. And I mean, we'll get more into 3. There's a lot to say about 3.
Yeah,
but more overall stuff. Like I said, just like working your way up this ladder of games. some things about the game that obviously, you know, we don't need too much of or any of is like the game is basically these various logic puzzles, you know, how to open this door, and also the fact that Ellie can't swim.
Yeah.
Like that could have been important in the show, but that's so fucking annoying in the game. You're constantly having to like swim with boxes or fucking move rafts and boards. It's so silly.
I think the main thing, like telling my girl, was that the biggest difference I see, because of his criticism, is that when you're playing through the game, it's 99% Joel with a little 10-minute segment where he's injured, so you're playing as Ellie. But the entirety of the game is Joel/Ellie. Versus the show, this is not Joel and Ellie's story, because how many times are Joel and Ellie not on screen? Versus the game, it's always them.
Not even on screen. It's like all that stuff about like the resistance where they're looking for Henry. Like in the game, Henry was just a tourist, Henry and his brother. And like, they're just random people who are trying not to get killed also. But because they've been in town longer, they kind of know the routes of these people. So like they could use each other's help because it's like, you know, Joel's got the guns, but like all this shit about like who this lady is and who these people were and the fact that they took over the Fedra camp, it's like, great, not necessary. Doesn't matter to Joel. People are still trying to kill him regardless. It's better when you don't know who these raiders are.
Well, that's what she's asking me after we watch the episode. She's like, honey, did X, Y, and Z happen? I said, honestly, I don't know what's going on even watching the episode, because if it wasn't through the eyes of Joel and Ellie, this didn't happen in the game. So as you said, we're getting all this unnecessary backstory and added footage that was never in the game because it wasn't important.
My favorite cope I heard was or saw was like someone posting like, well, the game is how Ellie remembers it. It's exaggerated and more larger than life and fun and bombastic and more action packed. But the show is how it actually happened.
Oh God!
It's like, God damn it! What do you know? Come on! Like just
people are in fucking denial about
this
show.
Just say it's different. You know, it's fine to be different. This idea that like, you know, these creators of these shows are super genius. Like, let's get real. Pedro Pascal, the Spores thing is literally so Pedro Pascal would not wear a fucking mask. That is it.
Could be true.
You're going to tell me any other bullshit? That's I'm sure that could have been part of it.
Yeah.
But I know Pedro Pascal was like, I'm already the Mandalorian. I'm already fucking taking another child through a wasteland of some kind. I can't also wear a mask.
I don't know. See, the things like Drinker would say, but in his defense, that's got to be the best paycheck on the fucking planet. You walk into a sound booth and talk for 2 hours a month, and you get paid like
like he's not the guy in the suit, right?
No,
on Mando.
So it's even more beneficial because he's doing even less work. He walks in, talks into a fucking mic, and here's $1 million.
But isn't it like Clint Eastwood's son who's the Mando in the suit?
I think they changed.
That guy's like handsome as hell. Why don't you just have him be the guy in the fucking? It's like Darth Vader all over again. You know?
Yeah, really.
But also that's the thing. I mean, let's get to the cast. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Look.
Oh boy.
Look, there's nothing wrong with being unattractive. Okay, I am not a best looking guy in the world. I'm a fucking 6 at best on a good day. But like,
it's funny. The Critical Drinker was on that other guy's podcast last week. I forget his name now, but I subscribed to him. And
you're talking about what's his name?
The Southern guy, the Southern accent.
Yeah, handsome dude. What's his name? I know his name. Camelot.
The first thing he says to Drinker, and I copied, I watched it twice. He was Drinker. He's like, well, you cast Bella and she looks like fucking Sloth from the Goonies. And I busted out laughing. Like, dude, he's got 200,000 subs so he can say that. I'm not saying on my channel because they'll fucking slay me. Like,
I don't give a shit. I'll say the same thing. I mean, I'm not gonna say she looks like Sloth from the Goonies, but yes, she's an ugly little girl. And this is what's fucked up is like they say, and the thing is, I didn't say it. My mother even said it. When we first started watching it, the first episode, she didn't. At the end of the first episode, she's like, "That's not realistic at all." Like all the Fedra camps, like burning the bodies and shit. She's like, "This is ridiculous." And that was kind of her reaction. And then at the end of the episode, but by the end of episode 3, she was like, "I want to watch. Are we going to watch more of that show, The Last of Us? I like it, except for that ugly girl." That's literally what she said verbatim.
Yeah. And I tried to even be nicer about this. And listen, I don't care about Peter.
Prompt
cutting out.
It's
lag.
Sorry, that's like totally unprovoked. Nowhere. I didn't ask her anything about her thoughts about the girl. She just said it out of nowhere. Like, I love that show, except for that ugly girl. And to be fair, there was like a moment, and you addressed this, where like she pivots and becomes like the Bella or the Ellie we kind of know, because the first few episodes she's too fucking bitchy. She's a fucking spoiled 100%. Brat. She's being way like, I don't like her. Like, I don't care. And then on top of that, she's fucking demented. What the fuck's up with her? She really wants a gun. She like goes and finds a zombie and like cuts it up and stabs it in the eye. It's not
that,
even
that
like
the entire scene with that zombie is stuck into the wall was creepy as fuck. I'm like, what is that's not nothing. Ellie would
I
never do
loved
that.
the setup, like just seeing
Yeah.
a zombie, and it should have been like I'm gonna put him out of his misery kind of thing.
Or it should have been like the drinker would say horrifying, because like you said, episode 1, Joel obviously has to protect her and he beats the guy to fucking death in front of her. In the game, she's just like, oh
Yeah,
shit. But
right.
in the show, she's kind of like, just it doesn't.
She's ready. She
Faze her.
can't wait
Yeah.
to fucking get a gun and kill somebody with
No.
it. And then that's the other thing that's big difference between the show is like, if we're gonna call it episodes, she kills somebody like 2 episodes too early. The first time she kills someone, she's saving someone. This is during the whole Henry. Like so before they meet Henry, they get crashed in that laundromat, right?
Yeah.
And they get, so that's where she first kills someone in the game. But in the show, sorry, I'm going to say that a lot. I'm going to get those mixed up a lot. But the first time she kills someone in the show is in that laundromat, and that was okay. But it's two episodes later, basically, when you and Henry and the brother who isn't fucking mute in the game, I don't know why they made him mute.
I'll get into that.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, but like we'll get into that later. But like they go in, and it's like that's like around the time where they're like trying to escape the city before they get into the sewer. That's where Ellie first kills somebody, and it's like again like saving Joel. Joel's getting drowned in a puddle, and it's one of those like press X to survive scenes, and like.
Well, you said with the casting, it's like, but I try to be more nicer about that and said, listen, I don't care whether the girl is ugly or not ugly. In terms of appearance, she looks nothing like Ashley Johnson, because obviously with the mocap and stuff, and you see Ashley Johnson later on, it's like Bella Ramsey looks. People say, "Oh my god, she looks just like Ellie from the game," and I'm like, "Are you fucking blind?" Like,
no. Like I mean, she's wearing the same clothes, maybe.
I mean, like Pedro, yes, Pedro doesn't look like exactly like Joel, but at least they make him look pretty similar.
But Pedro's also kind of ugly. I'm sorry. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, when Bella Ramsey played the little girl in Game of Thrones, it didn't matter because the show is littered with fucking sexy people and ugly people. So, like, when you see an ugly little girl, you don't even react. Plus, she's so great in every scene she's in, acting wise, you kind of love her. But in this show, it's like these are the fucking only 2 people we're staring at for 92% of the time. Why can't you make them like I saw we're supposed to be Jamie Lannister and some other random girl?
That's so I've seen that on the internet for the past 5 years and verbatim.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like fucking pound for pound facial hair. He's exactly like that would have been the best live action Joel.
But what's even more upsetting is they even got the original Joel to show up, which means he was available. It's like, why didn't you just have why'd you make this guy a star? How about instead of like paying for fucking Pedro Pascal, how about, hey, you were already loved in the game. How about we just be extra faithful and just make.
I 100% agree, because the thing is, that's what mocap now. Mocap, like Joel looks like Troy Baker because they modeled Joel after Troy Baker's face. So that would make sense. I understand you can't get Ashley Johnson because this has been a decade, so she's 10 years too old to play Ellie. But
that was a great cameo where she plays Ellie's mother.
Which I was fine with that. But like you said, there is 10,000 actresses that look verbatim like Ellie.
Right.
So it makes you feel
and
like
that's the thing is Ellie. They say, like, oh well, you just don't like that your main child actress isn't sexy. It's like, no, dummy. It's just like. You just want an average looking child. You don't want a weird looking kid that you got to stare at and you're constantly
I'll say it a million times. Like, look, in my lifetime, Johnny Depp and Denzel are my favorite 2 actors. When I want Johnny Depp to play Joel, fuck no, he looks nothing like Joel. I wouldn't want Chris Hemsworth to play Joel. I can name you Robert Downey Jr. wouldn't be a good Joel. They look nothing like them.
It's also not like, oh, we've got to look the exact same, but at the same time, like it's more like you want your main characters that you're staring at most of the time to be aesthetically pleasing. Like, look at all the effort they took into the set design and the costumes. And that's another problem though I have with the show overall is like, if you play the game, the set design, the world building, everything is decrepit. Everything is fucking covered in mildew and moss, and all the wood is rotten.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about like Bill's town in the show. It is like this shimmering beacon on the hill. It's like it's literally like fucking Pleasantville in the world of shit. Whereas in the game, it's much more realistic. It's like another shithole, but it's fenced around.
Well, what's funny, before we move on to, besides rounding out the casting, is look at Marlene. Marlene,
they got the same actress.
So why could they do it for Marlene, but not everybody else?
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, oh, Marlene, I mean, she looks right. She's a little thicker, but the voice is spot on. And then like, oh, it is her. And that's the thing is like, same thing would be with Joel. You'd be like, man, Joel, like he looks a little different, but the voice is spot on. And it's like people react more to voice and smell than their eyes, you know. That's why like smells will send you like on nostalgia trips like nothing. But like
the casting was up and down, but like people would say, well, episode 1 casting, you know, Pedro, then obviously his daughter. It's so. I just felt like, guys,
that daughter.
This is 2023. You never feel like they're casting somebody for the right reasons. It feels like a fucking political message.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, they don't do it in the game. Like in the game, it seems to make more sense because we spend less time with them pre-apocalypse. But you know, we spend a whole day with them, and we never once find out what happened to mom. But you know, the daughter in what's the daughter's name?
Sarah
is Thady Newton's daughter from Westworld and Interview the Vampire. That lady, and when you know that, you're like, oh god, she looks just like her. You're right. But yeah, I mean, that was the one thing I did like is like in the game, it takes place kind of like in the Fredericksburg area outside of Austin. In the show, it's just straight up Austin. That's fine. But yeah, all that stuff with like. Yeah, you know, the whole first. Let's just dive into the first episode. I mean, we've got first of all the global warming messaging at the front. You know, that weird.
That felt kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie.
The game does such a great job with the expository stuff through like dialogue. You're walking by someone and you're just overhearing them chatter. Or also another good expository stuff is like finding the notes, finding the little journals throughout the game.
Yeah.
So much world building in those little like diaries that you fucking find remnants of the world past. Also, like in the game, you'll see a sign, a quarantine sign. You can walk right up to it and read it. And, you know, fucking what does it say? You know, what's going on? And like the first time, like in the game, like post-apocalyptic, when you're walking through the city, you're getting all this great exposition of like day-to-day life. Like the ration line isn't open yet, running out of food probably. People are getting like checked for cordyceps outside some building. They're testing positive, getting shot. So it's like, oh, more people are getting infected. That means more people are sneaking out, you know? Because that's the other thing in the game. In the show, it seems like infected are just very common, but it's like, yeah, like the infected themselves would be common, but people getting new infections, you'd think that would slow down.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the show starts off episode 1 versus because the game starts off, it's just we have Sarah in her bedroom, but the show we have to have a whole 15-minute explanation build up, and much like
cordyceps, global warming, when temperatures get warmer, they might mutate and get in our brains.
Which I'm like, I mean, okay, you want to explain fungus to people that need to get into this world. Okay, I can give you that. But like we'll get with the rest of the season. I felt like with Sarah, because it's that was when the first Last of Us came out, the video game, everyone I knew was like, holy fuck, this is setting a bar because the main character dies. Well, main character's daughter, 10 minutes in. But in the show, we get a whole like basically 15 minutes extra of Sarah. And I'm like, do we need to spend so much time on a character that's going to be dead in a few minutes? Like,
right. And that's why it hits so much harder in the game. Like it's so good. It's like the opening of Up or the opening of the Last of Us game. Like I don't need to show you an hour. I mean, like how long is it before we cut to the 20 years? It's probably like 30 minutes or something, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah.
It's so much better to have an opening scene as opposed to an opening episode.
So they keep it pretty much the same. No difference in small things like what was it? Inside the game, Joel and Tommy, car gets flipped over, but then inside of the show, an airplane goes by. And even when I was watching Melanie,
fake out where you think the car is going to knock him over, it's like, oh, it missed, and then the big plane explodes. We gotta have a big explosion.
A small thing that Melanie Mac said when Melanie Mac was on the Drinkers channel for episode 1 is that why inside of the game 4, Joe grabs a gun. It's a Texas thing. You grab fucking guns. Inside the show, Joe doesn't grab a gun, and she's like, there's no fucking Texan. It just doesn't have guns at readily. To them guys, but
that was the first thing you see Joel. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, in the game, I mean, in the movie, it's like we see the 1968 news setting with Nelson Baghetti from Silicon Valley. That was a great cameo. It was him as the TV host. But you know, then it cuts to present day, and we've got like school starting. And this is another thing I had a problem with. It's like the daughter is clearly like when you watch the game, it's that night. Daughter wakes up. Dad comes home. He's obviously been working.
Yeah.
She gets him a birthday present. It's very clear that like they are, you know, it's
cutting out. Yeah, the birthday present in the show and the game is a watch that Sarah gives to Joel. So, and would you come back? But
sorry.
but that's a setting is like inside the game. The first thing we see is nighttime. Nighttime, so we're
Yeah.
getting a sense of dread instead of atmosphere.
Dawn of the
And
Dead.
that's what made it more scary, I think, inside the game was that, when Joe comes back, he's panicking, freaking out, he's grabbing his gun, and somebody crashes through the glass window
Yeah.
there versus inside the game, Sarah already basically seen a zombie early in the daytime. So it wasn't as impactful when she
Right.
sees
We
it at
see the old
nighttime.
lady acting weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
it's
and and you know, that was something like they kind of make up for the fact there's no spores by saying, oh, it got in the food, supply,
yeah.
pancake mix killed everybody. It's like, okay, fine, but at the same time, like what I was gonna say was interesting is like the game, you know, in the show, basically what happens is we meet these characters and this girl, but what's fucked up is like, oh god, I forgot where I was going with that before I my shit. Oh yeah, the thing is like basically what we're seeing is from the daughter is like she's kind of raising Pedro Pascal. She's like telling him his alarm. She's got to drink vitamins. He's like, again, it's like the same thing where it's like my dad's a fuck up, but where would he be without me?
Yeah.
Whereas like in the game, it's like they seem more like equals. Like I said, like this guy raised an upstanding kid who takes care of herself because he's busy, you know. And that's the thing is the first thing you see Joel do, like she wakes up that night, she doesn't know what the hell's going on. There's like news reports, an explosion in the park down the way. Walks downstairs, you hear the dog like yelping, going silent, and then fucking Joel runs in, shoots the neighbor inside the home, inside their own home.
That's what I like about it is very fast. So within the first 10 minutes, we're already into it. There's a threat where let's get going. We don't need unlike the show, in the fucking game, a half hour of exposition. It's just let's go. We're doing.
But also,
shit,
like you said, like Joel doesn't have a gun, and the first thing the zombie they see, like what happens? They encounter that zombie outside in the neighborhood, outside of their house, and then what do? They didn't even shoot it. Tommy shoots it.
Tommy shoots. Yeah, Tommy shoots it.
Yeah. Tommy's got to be the one.
Yeah.
So
I do like afterwards we come to the part where this would happen in a situation where now they're driving, they're trying to get away. You're seeing a barn on fire, and of course people are on the side of the road, and Sarah's like, "Dad, we have to stop."
On from the game.
Yeah, but I like the tension in both is that Pedro/Joel is like, listen, we can't stop because right now it's like, no, in this situation, it's got to be every man for himself. And we don't have time to stop for people, help people out. And of course, we would get that. I'm assuming you'd have this thing where it's, everybody's going the exact same way, so they have to go the other way because the highways are fucking backed up and everyone's panicking and shit. So
that was another thing. Like there's like, this is like the only, foreshadowing we get if you look at the newspaper. You see some police go by, some missed calls, and then we're right into the action. And then like you said, like you got the burning building, and like one thing I noticed like going through the game is like even the dialogue was better, especially like the Bill stuff. But then you get to the roadblocks and it's just crazy. And as far as like all that stuff with the town and everything, it's pretty damn accurate, but again, it's more stretched out and we got more. This is like the most zombies we see in the whole fucking show. Unfortunately, this is what kind of sucks because like you're so excited for all these nests of zombies. And I thought about taking screenshots of the show, but I never got around to it. So
well, it's the same thing, but right here, this is the infamous scene, and I don't know. I've said this before with the rest of the series going forward is that it could be Troy Baker's delivery, it could be the emotions, but just something about Sarah dying in the game. It's her squealing, the way she's crying. Something felt more impactful.
She dies way quicker too. She's like, he tries to move her immediately, and she's out. And it's just like, whoa, dude. Like,
and I've always said people who watch a show like they're shocked because they didn't see it coming. But now I'm like, guys, go back and again, watch side by side comparison. It seems better acted in the game.
No, I gotta say the acting and the dialogue is superior in the game, dude. And also, baby girl, I remember people freaking out about baby girl in the show, but it's like, that's supposed to happen at the end when he's taking her out of the hospital, not, when he rescues her from, that was the one scene, the crazy preacher scene. That's the scene where Ellie's finally supposed to take care of herself, but so then we got this title and it's just like, it hits so hard. And I got to say one thing about the show
sorry, cutting out.
Well, keep
I would wait till you get back. It's lagging. Well, at least right now inside the game one again. Okay. Are you back?
Sorry. Yeah. I was saying one thing the show did do well was keep the score.
Yeah, and that's where we get this. This is the difference in the game. The game, this is the opening, the prologue. Now it says The Last of Us, and now we get a whole basically like mid-credit scene where
the was like all the stuff about the fireflies, what the government is doing, and honestly, if they kept all this like radio stuff, like riots are continuing, like during the credits of the show. That probably would have been better, or at least maybe on the first episode.
Yeah, and it's basically showing the next 20 years of like how humanity just went to shit as what would happen in a situation. So
right, and also it ends with that whole like we are the Fireflies, join the resistance. In the game, it's like we don't really know what's happening, and like in the game we start off with Joel 20 years later, and it's so shocking. But in the game, it's like Tess 20 years later, she's being tortured by
which I gotta say, and the Drinker said this as well, is that because the game you can add different facial animations. With Pedro, you guys could have like de-aged the makeup or something. He looks like 5 minutes went by inside the fucking
he's
show.
got a little gray. I mean,
Yeah, but versus Joel in the game, you can tell that the animations of Joel 20 years have passed by. You can see it in his face and his beard and shit. So
and it's like, again, it's like I said, you'd get so much exposition just by like walking by people,
Yeah.
And I understand, like, that's the idea, is like you got a fucking government totalitarian area. Because in the show, it's like Boston was one of the lucky places because it was up north. All the places in the south, they got infected, didn't know what the hell was happening, and by the time it spread to this Boston, like they were aware what was happening, so they were able to lock down the city,
military and shit,
not bomb it like fucking. Well, actually, Boston is bombed. It was they're in like the suburb area, right?
Yeah. But we get a very big setup of the world. Now we see things like curfews. We see things like there's military out in the middle of the street and shit. And they talk about rations.
We've had bombings and stuff. Like it's obviously like a world where like everything's a mile a minute. Tess, we're on our way to kill a guy named Robert because he beat up Tess or sent someone to kill her. And
but as you said, right now in the game, see, everything is through Joel's standpoint. Inside the show, we're getting a lot more airtime with Tess that we don't need.
Oh, right. And also, again, ugly actors. Tess, she's not great looking. I'm sorry. And it's not like, it's just like your whole cast is ugly. I mean, come on, have at least someone that's like attractive. And it's like Joel and Tess, they have this like, they've kind of hooked up, but they're not like exclusive type vibe.
Yeah.
But like with these two, the video game characters, it's like, yeah, okay, they're hot. They probably naturally gravitated to each other. They're both good looking, Whereas like in the show, it's like, lonely people need to get laid too, I guess. Ugly people, whatever. But it's just again, like that's the other thing. There's no love or sex at all except homosexual relationships. This is the only fucking relationships showed. And that's the other thing. Like I said, the first thing you encounter, you got to go sneak out of the city to go kill Robert, right?
Yep.
Go take the short way, which is outside the quarantine zone. First thing you encounter, infected, which means, of course, like I said, people are sneaking out also, and they're getting infected. And this is why they're fresh.
Yeah.
We don't know about, and that's the thing is like, we don't know anything about mushrooms or anything.
Yeah.
Like we see a corpse and the masks come on and it's like, okay, now we see, and I understand what Druckmann's saying, like, oh, the spores would be, airborne, but like, that's the idea is like, if you're in a building, the volume of the spores is so concentrated that you would get sick. I don't think there'd be enough to get you sick in the, dissipated in the actual air.
Well, I gave them as long as they can explain it though in a way that at least I can understand. I can't give them shit if they explain it in a way that would make sense. So it's okay.
Plus, like, it also takes away from that great scene in the when they finally, like, that's the thing is they don't really think Ellie is infected at first. They're doubting it, but then after Tess gets bit and her bite gets fucking terrible within an hour, they realize like this bite is like older than that and it looks fine. And then also there's that part where Joel and Ellie are sneaking around some spore-ridden place, and he's got the mask. He's like, "How are you breathing this?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "I'm telling you, man, I am I am immune to this shit." And he's like, "That's the part where he finally gets it." Like, okay, but yeah, again, it's like Joel murdering people, taking people hostage, like literally, and then like that's the thing is they fucking personally killed this guy Robert.
Yep,
like Tess brutally. They break his arm, find out, and that's the thing. The other thing about the show is like for some reason Joel's whole motivation is to get to Colorado to find his brother.
Yeah,
he's got to get a working car to get to his brother, and it's like in the game, it's like no, we need our guns. These are our guns. We bought them.
And we definitely see this. Everyone's talked about this, that you see a difference between Joel in the game versus Joel in the show. Joel in the show has between Ellie and Tess kind of like walking him around, telling him what the fuck to do. Inside the game, he's a lot more aggressive and a lot more
muscle.
he's muscle, he's intimidating. Like that's
Tess is the one who's like break his arm.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing with Pedro. I never one time in all 9 fucking episodes got any sense of like I'm scared of Joel versus like the game. I'm like Joel could whoop my ass. Like,
yeah, dude. Like when Joel tortures that guy with the knife and stabs him in the knee and says, "I'll pop your fucking kneecap off." He says it like I've done this before.
Yeah, sometimes
in the game, in the show, he's just kind of like, I guess the knife goes here. He's got that kind of vibe. I don't know. And again, it's like this idea with like these actors, they got to play heroic, noble, good characters. It's why The Rock's career is going downhill. It's why so many of these action stars, you know, their careers haven't really progressed as much because they don't. And that's why I think Henry Cavill's might go great if he keeps playing these villains like he did in Mission Impossible. And he might do another one in some other movie I heard about. Yeah, I mean, that works. But like I said, like, yeah, you break his arm and fucking Tess just shoots him in the fucking head. Oh, great. Yeah. Marlene's got my guns. And then Marlene shows up and this is all outside. We have to walk across the city through a fucking bunch of troops, either avoid them or kill them just to get to the girl.
Yep.
You know, and again, it's like this is more action set pieces that it's like not only is it action, but it also progresses the plot because it helps show, you know, the state of fucking Boston, you know.
Exactly.
It shows you what this federal rule is like.
Yeah, that's saying like, as soon as you first meet Ellie inside the game versus the show, in the show she's a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, she's a little bitch here, but it's like you could tell there's a relationship going on here. Whereas in the game, she's like talking smack to her, she's talking smack to everybody. She's just like, "Fucking, what did I gotta do this for? Just let me stab him. I want to stab him." You know, it's basically what she's doing. And you know, again, it's like, yeah, Joel and Ellie are gonna go take a nap. And this is like the first sleep of the game. And that's the thing I realized, like watching this game is like, yeah, dude, like the first, what would you call like episode or 2 episodes of the game is like 1 24-hour period. And again, like through the game, it's like, okay, we have to sneak out of the city and avoid getting detected.
Yeah.
But it's also pouring rain.
Yeah.
You know, and also these guards are just 2 random guys.
So for some reason. Yeah, this is the end of episode 1 inside the show.
Right, yeah, we meet, except it's like some other guard we met who he sells pills to or something.
Yeah, like he knows him. Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense because it's like, why are we adding this? Because now the audience is asking, like, we'll talk to him. Yeah. If it's just some stranger guard, then it's way scarier because it's like, okay, well, you're fucked. Can't talk. You got reason with this guy.
Yeah, but so we see Joe. We see Joe kill the guy and beat him to death.
It's like, okay, so all the important beats are the same. Like, this scene is pretty much the same except for the rain, which I assume was like budgetary. That's another thing. Everything they change is usually for budgetary reasons.
Probably, yeah.
A big horde of zombies is expensive, you know? So try to do that only once or twice in the whole fucking series. When literally it should be like every episode, there should be at least one zombie kill or a group of raiders. But, you know, so then we get to this part and it's like, so we kill the dude, but like it's less impactful because we didn't have to sneak through the fucking Boston city to get to this point, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't have to kill a bunch of fucking police people just to get to, you know, here finding out this girl's infected, you know? And you're like,
That's the thing is episode 1 or this part in the game. So we find out, you know, through the technology with they're checking out fevers that Ellie's showing signs of being infected because she has a higher temperature than normal people.
I literally think it's a test that literally tests for the cordyceps in your blood.
I mean, well, I mean, they never say it, but I just assume it's the temperature thing.
If it's a fever, then shit, dude. The idea that they're just shooting people for having a fever, that's pretty hardcore.
I mean, during the virus, even my job, people were, can we say it nowadays? I can't. I don't know.
Go for it.
Yeah.
COVID.
Even during COVID, my job, we started having these temperature checks. And if you had anything above like 98.6, they were fucking giving you all kinds of tests and walking in, this and that. And I'm like, guys, what if I just got a cold or something? No, you got to go home. You're 98.7. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like it's so I could understand if people freaked out that much over fucking COVID, then imagine a world like this. You know?
Yeah, but that's the other thing. It's like we have this episode end right here, right? But then there's a whole nother section where like, oh, backup's here. Now we got to fucking run, and there's literally like a fucking like an artillery vehicle with a machine gun, and like there's dudes with spotlights, and they have to sneak out of another area to get to the toppled over buildings, and of course they get through the sewer. They go through lots of sewers in the game, you know, and then this is where we have the scene in the sewer before we get to the big like weird building that Tess dies in.
Yeah.
They kind of combined that scene and this one in the show, you know.
Yep.
But here it's like, no, we're gonna rest up. We got to find out more stuff. And yeah, we get into the city and it's like, no resting, still got to go.
Yep.
And this is where we encounter our first clickers, you know, like, and in the game, it's like,
inside
I don't
of
know,
a building.
They do a very great job of explaining. Yeah, we see the corpse of one. That's a terrible screenshot.
Yeah.
They're blind. They have mushrooms growing out of their head. We find a dead one, you know, and it's like,
that's to their credit, because I did watch every episode of the Aftermath. Like they did, you know, in terms of the clickers, the sound, the movement, and the makeup job. They did do an excellent job. Clickers, they were verbatim from the game. I got to give them that.
Spot on. You can tell I'm just like taking screenshots at random areas. But yeah, you encounter a clicker, fucking shoot it, and that's the idea. You're like in this teetering building, and I gotta say, I wish my friend Max was here, because he works in movies and he does greens department, so like he does all the plants, and it's like I would have loved to hear his input on this show, because like that's one thing that the show had going for it, was all the set design, like very accurately depicting these sets with all the plant overgrowth and all the moss, except for Billstown, but like.
Yeah,
there's certain sets that it's just like spot on from the game, you know, and it's like, is it a green screen? I don't think it's.
That's why I would say, like, as we keep going, that's why I think this is a good adaptation, because, like I said, there's a lot of small attention to detail from the game.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, we've got, that's like I said, like the one thing that was cool about the clickers is like, yeah, that's the other thing, like this parkour stuff. But yeah, these clickers, they glow in the dark, you know, the mushrooms, they have like bioluminescence, you know, which is cool.
Probably a budget thing.
Because that was, yeah, exactly. But that was something that was so cool. Was like you'd be sneaking through like a hunt tunnel and you just see like these little glowing green things. Yeah. And you realize like it's a fucking clicker just standing there right in front of me, you know? And that's the thing. There were so many moments where it was like, should I, you know, when you're playing in hard mode, there's no debate. Sneak around them. Try to avoid being detected. Try not to kill at all unless absolutely necessary, and do not fucking kill with a gun unless you're about to fucking die. You're like, seriously, like the guns, the bullets are so valuable.
Yes.
Like, so that way when you're in the final levels where you actually have to go through like, dude, one of the final level where you have to go through the tunnel of zombies to get to the fucking hospital that Ellie's in. That is like one of the most intense zombies, because you got bloaters and clickers and you're in a fucking tunnel. You're wide open. And it's so intense. And hopefully by that time you've saved plenty of ammo. You've saved plenty of.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be the finale. So the finale, you want to, everything you save up during the course of the game, it's time to go fucking all out and shit. So yeah, he's forgot laggy here. So.
Don't understand what's happening. It's always when I need it most. But like, it's like, yeah, you know, like the nail bombs and the Molotov cocktails, all that stuff wasn't even in the show.
Yeah.
And but yeah, then you got this like parkour stuff. Again, this is budgetary reasons. We can't have a fucking scene where they're teetering on these you know, what are these called? These window washing elevators.
Yeah. I mean, if they cut things like that out, that's not that important. So I don't mind if they shave that down. It's, you know.
No, I know, but it's like it's just more action, more adventure. And then strangling zombies to death. That was the thing. Like that was like what was cool about them. They weren't, you know, undead in the terms of like you had to destroy the brain, but like cut off their strangulation.
I think it comes down to what's saying, how infected are they? Because like you said, you can't do that to a clicker, but you can do it to you can do it to somebody who's kind of been recently turned.
Yeah, you're right. So, you're right. You know. And then that's the thing, like the clickers, the brains are growing, their brains are just overgrown with mushrooms. So surely that person is dead, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the other thing, like you find a fresh dead body, that's like alarming.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy's still got red blood. Oh God. He's still kind of warm. Oh no. You know, that means there's danger ahead, you know? And that's the thing. All this kind of set design stuff, I understand it's expensive. You know, rubble, Molotov cocktails, lighting zombies on fire in the dark, you know, escaping malls. And this is just to get to, you know, the fucking
you said that's all been cut out right there.
So this is where they first encounter the clicker in the show.
In the show, yep.
Exactly. They're in this building, you know. Yeah. And of course it's like not just a clicker, it's like a handful of fucking zombies. And that was the other thing, like the fresh zombies were kind of horrifying because they're just bleeding out of all their orifices, like the outbreak virus, the Motaba disease. But the shit they say,
I love that movie too.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. But you could tell like they're in pain.
Yeah,
you could tell that they're like garbage. They sound like sound like your average homeless person you kind of see like walking around.
It's like they still have some aspects of speech versus like the clickers or bloaters are too far gone. They're just beyond speech and shit. These guys are still They can still kind of talk a little bit.
That's the other thing. I think the infected in this game have like the most terrifying zombie sounds because it sounds like they're in pain and they're scared. Whereas like most zombies, it's like moaning or groaning or wheezing.
Yeah.
This is like, well, help. It sounds like they're trying to say, help me. You know, it's fucked up.
It could be, yeah.
And they didn't really get that aspect in the show, you know, very well. Because like I said, we hardly see any zombies. We don't get to compare the zombies to each other, you know, and
now, even though we don't see it even inside the show, this is the part where we're assuming that Tess, she gets bit. She gets infected.
I mean, look, it's not like this is a sexy child, but this is not an ugly child. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference here.
Yeah, I think some people said that shit. Like, oh, you guys are attracted to small children. I'm like, no, it's just
we want our leads to be somewhat, you know, easy on the eyes, for lack of better words. I mean, you know, this guy too. Look how much handsomer this guy is to Pedro. Remember when Pedro Pascal took his fucking Mandalorian mask off for the first time? Everyone's collective, like, whoa, like, you know, everyone just collectively just like, ooh, is that what? Oh, I remember him being better looking in Game of Thrones. Like, that's what everyone was kind of thinking, you know, like, ugh.
Yeah. So yeah,
did he get some coke bloat? Did he get like face fat? You know, like,
you never know, man.
Yeah, you know.
So we got a good view right here.
Gotta go to the Capitol building. That's where we're gonna meet these fireflies that are gonna. And the thing, it's like, at this point in the game, our sole motivation is to drop this kid off and get our guns.
Yeah,
that's it. All we care about. In the show, it's like, maybe we'll get our battery and we could take her all the way to Colorado. You know, I mean, she hasn't really said that, but they already have plans to go that direction. You know?
Yeah, it's like that again. That's a weird choice. Like, why take out the gun aspect? Why add a battery? It's like, are you guys anti-gun or something?
That is also it. It's like, we don't need guns. Yeah, that's probably part of it. But the other thing is, it kind of, like I said, it lessens the impact, because what we do is, like, they had no plans to leave the state. They had no plans to go west. You know, their plan was to go drop her off, get guns, and go back. But like, plans change because what happens? Fucking oh yeah. This is make sure the girl is well fed. Keep, you know, these people are collected.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what happens here is, like, you find out Tess is bitten. And you know, she's not going back.
So yeah, so what's your take on the show versus the game?
Well, like this scene, for instance, like, it's much more cynical to show, which is so funny because it's like a fucking, you know, it's the same problem with The Walking Dead. It's so cynical, and it's like, what's the point of going on? You know, whereas like in the game, there's got to be this like glimmer of hope, this glimmer of righting the world somehow. And a lot of that stuff is removed in the show because, like, for instance, you've got this girl, like, their plan was to, she's not going back because she's bitten. And she says, like, I've got, you know, she says, I'm not going anywhere. This is my last stop. Whereas in the show, she's like, it's not my home. And it's just like, and you could tell it hurts Joel. He's like, why would you say that? You know?
Yeah.
But it's not like that's not her home. It's just like, hey, this is the end of the journey for me because I've been bit in the neck. And this is where she tries to plead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll say, well, the biggest thing right here is she dies, but two different ways.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into her death in just a second, because that was so radically different. And that's like the first, like, what the fuck moment I had of the show, her death. Because I mean, you know, Joel needs convincing. Hey, all these fireflies are dead. You got to take her, because seriously, like, this isn't a joke. She's been bitten. She's better off than I have. You know, it's real. You know, it's real. Take her. And then, you know, she gets killed by fucking bad guys. That's the thing. Those motherfuckers that we just had to avoid to get here, they're after us.
Yeah.
And she gets killed, rightfully so, by, you know, these military dudes. And that's when it becomes kind of personal. But the problem with the show, like, she sets up a big suicide bomb and then the zombie kisses her.
Yeah. And that's like the drink everybody said I would go with. You have an entirely room full of like grenades and stuff, and you're going to light a Molotov cocktail. Why wouldn't you just cook a grenade and hold that fucker? I didn't.
Or so many other things. Like,
it's like you're basically going to fucking burn yourself alive, hoping that the grenades will go off instead of just like grabbing one grenade and just guarantee. And like you said, and then the whole zombie trying to like infect her with the kissing thing, and
it's a metaphor for, you know, I don't know. I mean,
that's like what they were saying is they wanted to make it where she went out in a blaze of glory more inside the show, which I'm like, I mean, okay.
She went out in a blaze of glory here. You hear exchanging gunfire. It's not like she just let them fucking execute her. You see other dead dudes. There's another fucking dead guy over here that she shot, you know?
Yeah.
She didn't
I
go.
still think, like you said, I think it's more impactful inside the game only because it's not zombies killing her, and this is showing the world that we often see this all the time in zombie movies and stuff, is that sometimes zombies aren't the scariest thing out there,
No,
you know?
no, and that's the one thing about this show they did right is like, this thing in Alien Isolation was like, okay,
Mm,
the monster's bad. There's no fucking bullets, but people with bullets are a huge fucking problem. They're
mm,
worse than like the monsters,
yeah.
because they have an advantage because they got these bad guys in the game, especially these guys in the SWAT gear. Like they've got supplies. Like how many bullets does he have in this game? He's got 4. He's got 4 bullets,
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like you hear the gunshots stop. You go up to the balcony, you see Tess bloody and dead. That's
Yeah.
not the same as like running away from a fiery explosion.
Yeah.
Season 2, it turns out she got out alive. Who knows?
Yeah.
You didn't see her die. There's like there's a difference there. And then, of course, like it's personal. Now you got to kill a bunch of dudes to escape. It's like I said,
Yeah.
that's the part I was talking about. How are you breathing this shit?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I wasn't lying to you. I'm fucking immune. So,
of course you avoid getting shot at by a fucking car and you run across into tunnels and now you're free. This is where the episode ends, where we get outside Bill's place.
Yep. So this is the end of episode 2, and so now we're on episode 3.
I know, and 3,
boy,
let's just talk about the show because obviously these are 2 different episodes that didn't happen. There's the episode of like Bill and Frank's world, and then there's this episode. Well, like I guess we'll get into the game first because this is like the episode that could have been. What could have been is like we get outside Bill's fucking town, and it's like, okay, wire fence, the overgrowth, the fucking broken down vehicles, everything, nothing is kept up. It's hard to keep up a town. And that's the thing. There's a fire. There's some smoke. Is that you, Bill?
Yeah.
This guy owes me a car. He owes me a favor. Maybe I can get a working vehicle from him.
Yeah.
And again, it's like you sneak into town. Oh, before you sneak into this area, like this whole area is like full of zombies because then we have to get to a second gate.
Like you're saying, it's like Bill's fucking existence inside the game is a lot more bleak. It's a lot more fucking desperate. It's a lot more survivalist inside the game.
Yeah, and he's a totally different character too. I mean, he's a survivalist. That's the only thing that these 2 Bills have in common. And that's the other thing. Look at this, like the walls. Look at the mold. Look at the dust. Look at the fucking arcade. This is what every building looks like, including, and again, this is the sign. Evacuate to where? Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of shit you're watching. This is remnants of the fucking collapse 20 years ago. It's still there. Nobody's cleaned it up. And he's helped us smuggle stuff. He's helped us smuggle stuff into the city, and he knows how to find things. And that's how I know him. And this is where we get our coveted bow, which is like one of the most fucking prized weapons in the game because it's a projectile that's silent.
I agree.
And you use it so many times in the game, especially Ellie. Like Ellie becomes the bow master.
Yeah.
And they really nerfed her, which is like, we want strong, empowered females. Why not? I know how to use a bow. Like just that. And of course, this is the scene. This could have been in the Bill episode where he fucking Joel falls in the trap and he's upside down. And Ellie, you could film the whole fucking scene just like this.
Yep.
And it's like Ellie's trying to cut you down while fucking zombies are coming at you and you have to shoot them. It's so good.
It's upside down, which makes it harder too to aim.
Oh, dude. And it's also so disorienting and fun. And I remember it's like you just hear him coming. You can hear him. And then, of course, Bill chops this dude's head off, shows up out of nowhere, and Raggear saves you. Get off your ass and on your feet.
Yeah.
And he's very like, he doesn't seem like a crazy survivalist. He seems like ex-military.
Yes.
Like he seems way more pro.
Yeah.
And of course, like this is the first time we see Bill. And of course, let's just get into the fact that like these 2 characters even meet in the game. They don't meet. They have a fucking whole journey together. And we'll talk about the show, why that's different. But like, Bill is very who the fuck. He doesn't give a shit about Joel or this kid. He first handcuffs her and he puts a gun at this guy, frisks him. He's not here to fucking play. You come into my house, play by my rules, and it's just like I don't have any cars. Why would I give you to? That's the thing. In the game, he's got everything he fucking needs.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's kind of weird. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But as far as like this, like, okay, here's what we can do. There's a map. This is what should have been the episode. All right. You need a car. There's a fucking government military issue building that was overrun. It's by the school. Like the military buildings are the military is the only people that are still manufacturing new cars.
Yep.
So you've got a car that doesn't have, he says it later. It's like, yeah, get whatever supplies you need. And you're talking about bottles, cans, nothing crazy.
First aid kits and shit.
In the game, he's got a wall of guns. And Joel's like, no, don't take anything. It's like, what? Help yourself. He's dead. You just got a note saying he's dead. Help yourself. Oh, and then of course this is great. Like he's like giving expository dialogue, like asking how Tess is while chopping off a zombie's head. There's a zombie trapped in some trap of his.
Yep.
And he's like, oh yeah, well tell Tess, that stupid bitch, that she needs to fuck off. He's not nice. He's not like, oh, how's Tess? We need to have another wine date. We need to have another dinner date. Like, no. He's fucking, he doesn't care. Yeah. You think this guy knows what kind of fucking wine to pair with duck? I mean,
it's true.
I mean, that makes him an interesting character, but that part of him is gone now, like that, Trouble in Paradise.
I always took it as Bill's one of the guys where, you know what, he may be a prick, but in a zombie apocalypse world, you need guys like Bill.
He's Walter. It's like, look, Walter, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole, Yeah. It's like fucking, But yeah, this is a great line too. It's like, in the game, every fucking car works just fine. It's like, no, the tires are rotted. It's been 20 years, dude. The rubber in the tires are rotted. Every tire is flat and all the batteries are dead. You can't just like get a car. And the gasoline, like there's lots of cars that have gasoline, but the gasoline's stale and it probably isn't going to get you very far, but it's better than nothing. I mean, the car will run, but it's going to be running a little rich. You know what I mean? But yeah, again, this is more of that. Like as bad as the zombies are, like at least they're predictable. It's normal people that scare me, because like who would be normal in this type of world? It's like lines like that stick with you. Like there isn't a single fucking line from the show that wasn't in the game that has stuck with me,
True. Yeah, I agree.
The game has tons of those lines. And then, of course, he's just like, this is where you get your shotgun.
Yeah.
And this is where you hear about Frank. Once upon a time, I had somebody I cared about. Partner.
That's the whole controversy, because people say on TikTok or anything the past 10 years, like, well, did this make Bill gay? And the term, that's the thing. The term partner could mean a lot of things.
I assumed he was gay. Yeah. I assumed he's gay because they just didn't outright say it. But you don't need to fucking outright say it. You understand? And that's the other thing. Bill, I mean, it's very obvious that Bill... He also gives off hardcore repressed, like closeted homosexual vibes. Like he's angry, he's temperamental, he's very fucking, don't touch my stuff. These are signs of like OCD, some type of like, closeted behavior. It's not, I'm not trying to be mean or, this is true. This is like therapy. This is like, psychology 101. But like, let's get on with it. Here's your shotgun. Let's go fucking, here's a nail bomb.
Yeah.
Now we're going to, shotguns and bombs. Let's go. And it's like, we're going to go into untreaded territory to get a fucking school bus. And again, this is where Bill sleeps, in a fucking room of a church. He is not living this like glamorous life that he did in the show, which I mean, I want to talk about. Like, let's just talk about that, because it's like, apparently Joel and fucking Tess have been to this compound, this immaculate, like I said, the gleaming city on the hill, and they've never once said, hey, maybe a handful of us can come live with you, or in one of these abandoned houses, or hey, maybe, why wouldn't they want to? Like, what, you have everything you need. You've got a hardware store, you've got all this stuff. Like, how you're like Wakanda, you're like hoarding all these resources, and we're supposed to just be cool with it. It's like, that makes no sense at all. Like, Bill lives in his area. He's safe, but it's like, I don't want to live here with Bill, sleep in the fucking other side of this building, with church, it's not glamorous. Whereas like in the show, it's like, dude, the guy takes one bite out of the fucking duck or whatever, or rabbit. That's what it was. Rabbit. He takes one bite of that rabbit and he just makes his face like, I'm going to suck this guy's dick and stay here forever, as long as I can, which is what I would do. I'm not even gay. I would take one bite out of the duck and be like, whatever you need, dude. I mean, I don't want to leave. Like, I don't want to go. And that's the other thing. Like, hey, I mean, in the show, let's get into this. It's like, first of all, we got 17 minutes of Bill and of a Joel and Ellie.
Okay. Turn out again.
God.
Go.
I'm
Love the
sorry,
internet.
but it's like
That's all right.
it's pretty jarring cut when they cut to the past and all of a sudden we're like
Mm.
in Nick Offerman's cave. It's like it's not really communicated. I mean, maybe I missed a subtitle, but yeah, 20 years earlier, 2003. And that was another problem I had with the game. The show was they actually dated 2003.
Yeah.
It would have been better if it was 2023 or just not a date. We just assume present day plus 20 years. You know, when you kind of date it, now we're dealing with alternate timelines and it's just like, weird.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's definitely some people would say episode 3 in itself, by itself, it's a very good episode. It's well acted. It's Nick Offerman. It's emotional. Blah blah blah. I, as a critical drinker, would say when it came out, I thought it was out of all 3 of them so far, a very well acted and emotional episode. In itself, it's good. But in terms of adaptations, it's shit.
Look, it is good. And I saw your review about how you were welling up a little bit. Me and my mother were kind of laughing during this episode because it's so, I mean, so for lack of a better word, it's gay. It's gay. Yeah. And it's like not like gay is a bad thing, but watching, 2 hairy men awkwardly kiss in a bed in the middle of my zombie show, especially for that long.
Yeah.
We had to, I'm just so glad we didn't literally see them butt fucking, because it's like, I wouldn't have put it past them.
I think it's more like welling up because it's like so many people nowadays can't get a freaking, especially this generation. Everybody's so freaking Tinder and Bumble and blah blah. Like nobody can keep a relationship more than fucking 5 days.
My biggest, big problems with that episode though. It's like, first of all, like in the game, like I said, it's so vague. So you could expand on it, but like what would have been cool is like, okay, how about they're not even gay? They're just like living together, and because they're lonely and because they develop, it's like a Brokeback Mountain type situation where they like fall in love with each other despite not being gay, and then they become gay. And that's the other problem I had with the show. This is again like a common thing with Hollywood, but like in the game, you're assuming they're lovers, and obviously, like I mean, we'll get into that, but like little spoilers, but like it's not a good relationship what you've heard of. Like he says, like, hey, I had someone, a partner, but I learned I'm better off on my own. That's all you kind of know about fucking the guy, the person.
And definitely that's the biggest criticism I had, though. It's as much as I like the episode and it's well acted and I had fun with it, the biggest problem is that, Bill inside the game, you're interacting with Bill for maybe, I'm going to be generous to say 15 minutes, versus now we give him an entire 45-minute arc that he doesn't need. Like the whole situation with him and Frank, if you want to keep that, like you said, why not keep that for maybe being generous 20 minutes and stuff, and then now at this point, now Joe catches up to Bill and we still go on the same adventure. We can have the Frank stuff, but don't make it the entire fucking episode.
Well, like in the game, we spend like in like game time and like the timeline of the world, we spend probably like late afternoon to early like sunset with Bill.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, it's like we spend 20 whole years with him. And it's like, again, this could have been great, like episode 13 stuff, episode 0, like a kind of bonus episode. But like I said, everything's so perfect with Bill's life. Like, how is he not having constant, like, people trying to come in and exploit him, or just like Tess and Joel are like, oh, well, I guess we'll go back home to the fucking quarantine zone in Boston.
Yeah.
It's nice having a fucking Duck L'Orange here with you. It's like, what? Please let me stay here. I'll give you whatever I can. I'll come back with all the fucking weapons we can. Let us move here. But like with the game, it's like, like I said, they have a rocky, relationship, whether it be homosexual or platonic. But like in the game, they're homosexual. So that means there cannot be any negative aspects represented whatsoever in their relationship. It has to be all ever loving, everlasting, ever triumphant. Every gay relationship in fucking Hollywood is portrayed as better than anything you've ever seen. Perfect.
Which is it's 100% fucking bullshit, because number one, being around anybody in normal real life every single day can be stressful. Now, like you were saying, you have nobody else living there but these two. Maybe they'll get Joel and Tess once every 6 months or some shit. Being around one person 7 fucking days a week for 20 years, you would murder this person.
Every relationship has drama, but when you're, depicting a homosexual, whether it be gay or, lesbian relationship in a movie or a show, it has to be portrayed as like they have a little couple hiccups, but overall they will triumph. They never like break up and implode, try to stab each other. They never try to do any crazy shit, because you can't, and yet it's so funny because like, I mean, I don't want to get political or anything, but it's like gay rights, gay marriage has been around for how many years now? 20 years? 15 years, gay people get married 10% of the time. 10%, and it's like that's already like however, percentage of gay population there is. It's like less than 10% of the population is gay, and they themselves don't even get married. So I mean, it's like this idea that like, oh, gay marriage is gay love outlasts the regular hetero love that we don't even see. The only heterosexual couple that we actually see is Tommy and his new empowered girlfriend.
Yeah.
And again, like there's no actual kissing or loving or there's no sex. 100%. There's never any sex in any fucking shows or movies.
Yeah.
And when there is sex, like in fucking Euphoria, it's got to be twisted. It's got to be fucking some kind of like mental illness type thing, coping.
Yeah, that's what I said in terms of adaptations. Like it's episode 3 in the show was well acted, but I did say that I do feel like this becomes as a drinker would say, socio-political message, because if Bill and Frank were so important, if this drama, this love, this whole thing was so important, why not give these guys a half-hour cutscene inside the game? Because the game, unlike the show only has 9 episodes. The game, you can make this game 10 hours long or 50 fucking hours long.
Yeah, depending on how long you play it. But that's the same with the show. Like you could have really stretched it out for 2-3 seasons. Then make a Bill and Frank episode. But then the whole point is that's really problematic is like, okay, now we're getting back to the game. Now we got to go into the fucking school. And everything from here on out in this cemetery up to the school, Bill says untreaded territory. This is like one of the most zombie heavy parts of the game. And again, it's like that's in the movie, no fucking zombies. Hardly.
Yeah.
And
actually the only time you see an effect is when they go into Bill's trap.
Right. Right. And that's the other thing is like, we have to go through this mess of shit. Okay. And in the game, it's like in the show, it's like, well, just show up to Bill's, like, know the gate code, walk in, pick up my brand new washed fucking running, and old. He says it's a piece of shit Chevy or whatever, piece of shit truck, old 70s truck. He's like, motherfucker, the fact that it has tires is a miracle. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you? It's been 20 years. That's the thing. The showrunners obviously don't know what 20 years of no maintenance means. You don't mow your lawn for a few weeks, dude. It's like, okay, it looks like this after a couple months,
Yeah,
I mean, come on, dude. And then of course, this is another issue. It's like we go through all these neighborhoods, all this zombie shit. Now we got to get to the school. More zombies. And this is of course where, we're being pushed into the school because now we're being chased by more infected. So now we have to go in the school. Now we're locked in with all these whoever fucking. It's a high school, it's full as fucking infected for some reason. This is where we meet our first bloater.
Yep.
And of course, because there's spores, it could literally like tear off shit and throw it at you. And again, like we encountered a handful of bloaters in the game, and each one is like a fucking nightmare.
That's it. It's like the bloaters in the game are a lot bigger of a threat. They're a lot more scarier than the one cameo in the fucking show of 9 episodes.
Well, to be fair, like that one was a threat too, but it wasn't a threat for the main characters. It was like I said, the T-Rex in the Jurassic Park movies. It's like, yay, the bloater's here to save us. All right, we're out of here. Bye. It's like none of the zombies are out following you into the woods. Like you're totally safe. Nobody else with the guns is like thinking to run out away towards where, That's the other thing. Like you could have had a guy like follow them, be like, "Hey, let me join you." I'm sorry, I tried to kill you. Just like there's a bunch of zombies back there. But yeah, this is the part right here. So like we could have done the Bill and Frank backstory, and it would have been great because, like I said, when we're watching Bill and Frank episode, I assume it's going to meet with Frank dies of cancer. Like we could change that, but like it's better if like the point is at the end of the episode we meet Bill. And then we go on this adventure with Bill. And then at the end, when we find Frank like this, it would have so much more impact. We'd be like, oh my God. Like, yeah, Frank, we know that they were married and they had a loving life together. And then they had a breakup. And, that's what we can know. And then at the end, when we find Frank like this, it's like, oh God, we understand Bill's pain. But like here, it's totally implied that they're gay, especially it's implied here, but it's confirmed later. When Ellie pulls out the gay magazine.
Or like even like what if Frank inside the show had cancer and like he snuck out one day to spare Bill and he hung himself because he had
and he got
cancer.
Bit. But I mean in the game he gets bit,
there's different ways you could have added drama to it.
So. Yeah, and exactly like and that's the other problem. It's like the letter, like that message, like, hey, our mission is to protect someone. But now that Frank's dead, I have no purpose. It's like, what are you, a fucking Terminator? It's like, come on, dude. Like, find someone, like, the human spirit. I understand, like, you don't want to lose your loved one. It's rough, especially when you guys built a whole life together. But like I said, dude, if Joel and Tess and other people were living fucking here with him in his massive, immaculate town in the show with like manicured lawns and freshly painted houses and fucking totally working hot plumbing and all the luxuries of the old world. It's like, dude, how many people do you think are really living like that in the entire world? Like maybe 2 or 3 millionaires, and then you've got Bill in the fucking middle of, where are they? Colorado somewhere?
I think so, yeah.
Or Wyoming? I don't remember, but it just doesn't matter. It's like, you know, it turns out that the truck they were going into, the military truck already had the battery missing. So that was like a big problem. That's why they had to go into the school and they didn't know what to do. But luckily they found out Frank had stolen the battery and got this car working. But in the game, that's kind of lucky. But in the show, it's so much more lucky.
Definitely.
Literally like, hey, Joel, here's a letter. I'm dead. And here's the keys to everything. Well, how about just stay there? How about let's not go anywhere? You know, let's just stay here in our fucking fully functioning town that's got a fucking locked in perimeter and running vehicles and gas.
He's got to bring Ellie to the destination, I guess. So.
I guess, but at the same point, it's like, how about we have a radio here? You know, they've already established that Bill and them communicate with 80s songs for some reason, or 70. You know, they communicate with music through a radio. So you've got a radio. Contact someone. Hey, by the way, I've got a fucking girl here with a cure. Anybody with scientists, you come to me. You know.
Yeah. So it's like, again, and the end of episode 3. It's, it is a good episode in the show, but in terms of in comparison to the game, I agree with you that, I don't think it's a good adaptation. And if they would have copied this whole journey with Bill from the game, it would have been a lot more tense.
You could have done this and spliced in the gay backstory at the same time, like back and forth. You could have done so much more with it, man.
That wasn't main criticism. It's like Bill and Frank did not need fucking 50 minutes themselves.
Yeah. And just compare like, oh, it's so romantic. It's the best relationship ever. How you killed yourself with me. We're like Romeo and Juliet. It's like, I love you. And then look at this. It's like, well, Bill, I doubt you'd ever find this note because you were too scared to ever make it to this part of town. But if for some reason you did, I want you to know I hated your guts. I grew tired of this shitty town and your set in your ways attitude. I wanted more from life than this, and you could never get that. And that stupid battery, you kept moaning about it. I got it. But I guess you were right. Trying to leave this town will kill me. Still better than spending another day with you. Good luck, Frank.
Excellent.
And it's like
funny. And as you're saying, I could think about watching Az and Heels versus Babyface. It said exactly what you said, is that it seems like in the show they were so scared to have a gay couple have this kind of controversy.
Right. And exactly. It's like, this is more interesting because they do love each other, because he wouldn't have wrote a note at all. You know what I mean? He still had to tell him fuck you because he still loves the guy. You know what I mean? That's how people work.
Yeah.
People like to have the last day.
Because in real life, gay people and lesbian people, they never ever break up or get into arguments.
They never cheat on each other or fucking. I mean, come on, dude. It's like, this is it's so one dimensional. But like, let's just compare the show, the end of episode 3 to the end of this. Where they have to drive out of Bill's town. All right, in the game, they just get into fucking Bill's garage, get in the car, drive off. And leave the perfect town. And then at the end of the show, they go back to Tommy's town. Why did they go back to Bill's town? It's like, So anyway, it's because they go back to Bill's to Tommy's town because the part 2 has got to happen, right? So in the end of this game, they have to fucking push start the car because the battery is dead, but the cells are still working. So they got to fucking push it down a hill. There's zombies fucking chasing them.
Yep.
They got it's another nightmare.
Yeah, definitely.
They finally get it out and they fucking part their ways. And Bill, he says his final, go fuck yourself. And then they find the sticky porn magazine in the back of the car. And,
that's the next episode, though. The funny part, that's not even, because episode 3 ends with Jill and Ellie after they get into the shower and stuff, and then they leave in the car, but that's the end of that. So it's kind of weird. Episode 4 starts off with this.
They leave right around here. This would be episode 3 ending right here after Bill and Joel say goodbye, and it's like, hey, I don't know you anymore. We're even, so get the fuck out of my town. That's like the last thing he says to him. We don't know if Bill dies or lives his life happily ever
Exactly.
after. I mean, we know Frank's
100%.
dead. That's it. And so now, episode
Now,
4.
episode 4.
Now, episode 4 is the Pittsburgh episode. Now, again,
Yeah.
like we talked about this already, but it's like, I like how, in the game, he's like, this motherfucker, he's not in the game. He says, this guy's not even hurt.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
The one thing I did like in the show in episode 4 is that after they're driving for a while, he tells Elle we have to go into the forest and stuff. And the first thing she says is that, why don't we start a fire? He goes, why am I going to tell you that's a bad idea for?
Oh, yeah.
That part I did like because she's saying, well, what about, infected? He goes, no, infected aren't this far out. He's like, and she's like, people? And she's like, and Ellie's like, well, are they going to kill me? And the way he looks at her, which is realistic, where he's like, listen, killing you is going to be the least of your fucking problems.
Yeah. They'll rape you and then eat you and then kill you. Not in that particular order, maybe, like in whatever order they feel like. But as far as like, that stuff that was added in because we didn't already have like 3 episodes worth of dangerous dudes already. Like Ellie should already know fully well by now, just from like going to meet her. Just from the adventure we had just to meet Ellie for the first time, we should know people are very dangerous. Like, it's very unfortunate that we're barely learning this right now.
Well, in terms of like the aspect of where the show is at right now, I did like that Joe was telling her because this is a girl that's never left the fucking compound. She's been secluded her entire life. And he's like, no, listen, this is more what we should have had for the previous 3 episodes is that, little girl, the world out here is fucked up. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a cold, dark world. And that's the thing. Like they allude to Joel's dark past, but in the game we see it in his present. He kills totally indiscriminately if he wants to. Like he has no problem. I mean, that's really up to you, the player.
Yeah,
there's people who play this game and don't kill anybody. Like you can like the absolute minimum body count is like a handful of people. It's like you can do it.
People say storytellers that sometimes less is more. And that's the thing. Even when you're playing the game, is you don't need exact details of Joel's past over the past 20 years. But it's very alluded to the fact that he's done some fucked up shit, even though you don't have to know every little minute detail.
It never, like, anytime we have cool, mysterious characters with the, with like mysterious backstories, like those characters are always great until you fucking explain their backstory. Scorpion, Jason Voorhees, Boba Fett, who else? It doesn't matter. Whoever, Wolverine, you explain their origin, and all of a sudden it's not cool.
This is my, we'll get into this later. This is my problem with the finale. I did have an issue, but like I said, this right here, I'll say this, the game did, because anybody can YouTube this shit, the game did this way better because in the fucking show, Ellie,
three dudes in the laundromat.
I mean, Ellie has to, before that, the show did keep this part cool because she's like, hey, what's going on? He's like, gun it. She's like, why? And Ellie's like, and Joel's like, I've been on both sides. Joel smells a trap, and which is the bullshit with the second game. Joel is smart enough to know what the fuck he's being set up.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. They see a big roadblock and they're forced to take like a detour. And then both in the game and the show, it's like, I don't like this, but whatever. And of course, they see the wounded guy. It's like, this is a trap. And now they're pinned into a laundromat. And like you said in the game, you got that cool stuff where like Ellie goes and hides in the wall.
Yep.
And then like this is the part where she saves him for the first time. She actually shoots a gun that Joel didn't know she had.
Yeah. Inside the show.
Right. The show, we knew that she had it because we saw her steal it from Bill. But it's like, dude, like I said, why didn't they take this back of this truck should be full of guns, but I guess it doesn't matter because they crash it, they leave it behind.
Yeah.
So all your supplies, I guess like that's kind of one of the things why it didn't matter to take stuff from Bill's house because eventually they're going to lose it all at Pittsburgh anyway. But that would have made it more fucking shitty. You had like maybe a day of like, we're set for the next year. And then you lose it all the next day. You're like, no.
But that was the biggest thing so inside the game, they get into a big friggin' brawl. Ellie is actually, Joel's fighting multiple guys, and like that one scene with the friggin' glass and stuff, and Joel impales him. And Ellie,
dude, I love to like play the game. Anytime there's like a random like press square to live, I would just not press it to just see how.
Yeah. But for the storyline, Ellie's being taken away and Joel kills people and he saves her. That's inside the game. Inside the show, Joel is struggling. He can't take a guy one-on-one because apparently now he's too old and too slow. And Ellie has to save Joel, which is a big issue I had because it's like nothing in the game Joel never would have had to have Ellie save him at all.
Well, it does happen later. Like I said, this is after they meet Henry and they're escaping that city where Joel's being drowned. And like I said, Ellie saves him So he does need her, and he acknowledges it, and we'll get into that part later in this game. But it's like, but the thing with the show, it's like, yeah, she kills a little too early, and this scene is really ideal for showing like how brutal Joel can be. You know, like now our life is literally in danger. Like this is like the first time that we're in danger from humans with Ellie. You know, so we're gonna see, and this is the thing. It's not just in the laundromat. Now you have to go across the street and out of this fucking compound. And that's the thing is like in the show, we're learning all this backstory about these people that want Henry dead. And this area is like overrun and totally running by, some kind of guerrilla faction that have taken over the Fedra base. But in the game, it just seems like there's like a random bunch of marauders that are kind of picking up the pieces of a great conflict that happened here.
Yeah.
That may or may not have been related to them. But they're driving around in military vehicles and they've got all kinds of shit. And these guys mean business. And they're killing who they call tourists. Anyone who's passing through, and they just kill them and take their supplies. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And there's a part later where like you see some of them getting, you witness some people getting killed shortly after you meet Henry, I think. And I don't know if I took screenshots, but like there's a line of dialogue where it's like, it's been busy couple past days, huh? Because they just shot some lady and they're taking all the stuff out of her pockets. And the other guy's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't want to talk about this.
Hey, Wes is here. Wes, like, it's supposed to be real, not a video game.
Yeah. I understand. I mean, that's the thing is like, I understand the video game conflict, every stage, like the logic puzzles. That's something in the video game that we don't need, where we got to figure out how to open this door. We got to turn this knob and find this key and turn on this generator and open this gate. It's like, that stuff's not necessary. I understand. But like, as far as like enemies, like we don't need to be mowing through them all with gunshots, but that's what made the game so great is like a lot of scenes where it's like you could easily have like, okay, here's a fucking compound with bad guys and we got to fucking somehow miraculously like sneak through them, avoid not getting shot. And then you duck out in some building and reminisce on how much you miss coffee.
Yeah. All this part is taken out because inside the show it goes right from Ellie saving Joel to like them going up the different flights of stairs, and they're about to, it's funny because Joel sets up a trap with the glass there, and she's like, "What's that for?" He goes, "Well, I'm gonna hear stuff." She's like, "Okay," and of course he never hears the broken glass.
Yeah. But here it's like interesting because this is technically before the Tess sacrificing her scene. They combined the hotel that they experience with Tess, where really in the game this is where they're experiencing this hotel where he's like, "Oh, this hotel's a little fancy for my blood," and it's like all flooded. And, like I said, they're talking about how much Joel misses coffee, but in the show, it's like he just made some fresh percolated coffee from Bill's place, and it's like, it doesn't have that, like, there's that great line in the game where Joel tells Ellie, like, you have no idea what loss even is.
Yeah.
And in the show, it's like, everything seems to be like, kind of fucked up, but they still seem to have plenty of bullets, plenty of coffee, plenty of gas, plenty of electricity. There's really not that scarcity that was so relevant in the game. It really changed like the first person shooter or the third person shooter really changed this like, kind of gameplay mode. Cause like you really had to think smart, especially when you're playing in like survivor mode.
Yeah.
Cause that is what it is. You survive. You don't win. You don't defeat enemies. You fucking survive. And it's so lost in translation in the game. Like I said, like in the finale, when he says, I swear, you totally understand why Joel lies, because it's like you went through hell to get there. Whereas in the game, it's like, yeah, you had a few like bad parts. You had a few, the show. I'm sorry. The show, you had a few bad parts. In the game, it's like, dude, you had to kill 100 people, So yeah, this is where the hotel scene is. And it's like, again, like escape these Pittsburgh militia people that we don't really know anything about, and, this elevator scene. This is one of these great action scenes that was totally removed for budget reasons. We're going to get on top of an elevator. The elevator is going to crash through the basement. And it's all flooded and it's surprise full of zombies, more zombies. And I understand, like, we can't have this stuff be taking up the bulk of episodes. And, I understand like deleting stuff here and there. I understand it can't be wall to wall zombies, but it's got to be a happy medium where we can't have like hardly any zombies. But
I mean, all this stuff's cut out because right now in the show, this episode is basically it's over like this, but we're cutting all this stuff out. We're going,
yeah. I mean, this is the part where this is the part where Joel gets saved. So a little shortly after, I guess I was mistaken. It's before they meet Henry, but after the laundromat scene. So I mean, yeah, combining a lot of scenes here and there, it's fine for levity to compress stuff. But like I said, if they hadn't wasted all of episode 3 on that, not wasted, but if they hadn't expounded so much on Bill and Frank, maybe we wouldn't need to be like, combining episodes here and there. But like I said, like I understand, like you don't want a note for note remake, but at the same time, like I said, that would be the most surprising thing.
Yeah.
If they just did a note for note. And this is where you finally get Joel gives Ellie a rifle to cover me. And he says, and yeah, you're right. It would have been him or me. And he doesn't say thank you. He says, you're right. It would have been him or me. So and that's where Ellie says, you're welcome. You know, basically acknowledging like, yes, okay, you've proven yourself. Yeah. No, exactly. We've already talked about how like Last of Us is easily the best video game adaptation of all time. Like there's no question about it.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, when we're talking about video game adaptations, it's fucking Citizen Kane. But that's the thing is like the game is so easily adaptable to be a show or a movie. But yeah, here it's like we don't meet this Joan Cusack.
This game she wants to show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I mean, you're not wrong. It's about that.
Well, it's not that. It's yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's like anyone who reads the book shouldn't watch the movie because like the book's gonna have way more information, way more stuff. And I agree. It's just like this is why I'm glad there's me and Blue Collar in here because like I said, if it was like my friends like Sophia or like Megan, we would just be like, well, the game they did it like this, and the show they did it like that. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if Wes has been watching the whole thing, but we definitely touched over the overall opinions of the overall show and why it's good, but we're just kind of breaking down the major differences here. But
well, so for me, all these scenes where I don't mind cutting this stuff out because we have limited time in the episode.
I mean, honestly, like based on like the stuff just went through, like we could have cut like a couple more scenes. This scene of like deadly people, certain stuff before we meet Henry and his now deaf mute brother, which I'd like to talk about. Oh, this is the part where I was talking about where they're like busy week, huh? Yeah. And then we've got a big military vehicle like shooting at them and they're running in and they find Henry and his brother. And the thing is, Henry and his brother are not some like bigger piece to some puzzle. Like, they're informants in the show.
The first thing I did say that like is because this is the year of 2023. It's like making his little brother deaf in the show. It felt to me like we're checking another box because it's like, hey, listen, we have a character who's black, awesome. We have a character who's gay, awesome. Now we have a character who's black and deaf. It's like like checkbox.
Was he deaf or is he mute?
It says he's deaf inside the show.
And he's deaf. That makes way less sense because how the fuck has he survived this long?
Even the after episode was like, hey, listen, we have to have the character that's deaf inside the show. We have to have these handlers and these people. We have to have Henry learning sign language. And it just feels like it didn't add any kind of character development to a character that we know the fate of this character. And I hate to be cynical, but like as would say this, in a post-apocalyptic zombie world, if you don't have all 5 of your senses, it's already hard staying alive as it is. Now you're going to taking away a character's hearing. So how do you hear clickers coming?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought he was mute, which would make more sense because like developmental stuff, he probably didn't go to school. He doesn't talk about of traumatic reasons, but the idea is like you can hear fucking zombies and shit coming up. But if he's deaf, that opens up a whole nother barrel of worms.
I can't see a character that's deaf surviving in a zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely. That's kind of blowing my mind that you're saying that. But yeah, like Wes is saying, the Prestige is a better novel. Also, The Forest Prestige is a better movie than the book. The Forrest Gump book is trash too.
I heard
there's no Jenny in the book and stuff like that. It's like what? But as far as this guy, the reason why we want to go with Henry is because Henry's been hiding out in this building for a while, and he knows their routes, he knows their checkouts, their times, their surveillance groups, and he knows that they're going to be in a skeleton crew in the evening, and that's when we'll escape. And he says it's got to be tomorrow because we're supposed to meet a group of fireflies at some radio tower outside the city. So there is a ticking clock element.
That's funny what Wes just said, but he's not wrong.
Making him mute means he gets paid less as an actor. Yeah, there you go. And more important, if he did speak, it would not have brought more attention to Belly Ramsey mid-acting. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. Why would they do that? There's always like some nefarious reason behind these quote unquote, like, diversity points. Like, oh, we'll make him mute, but really, it's like, oh, we don't need to pay him. Non-speaking role.
We'll get into the ending later, but yeah. So for most part, they give all this extra backstory and so much extra stuff to Henry and Sam, which I feel like it's. I mean, I'm pulling the episode now. First off, the first 10 minutes is all about this side character again. I keep forgetting her name. She had no significance in the game whatsoever. I'm not sure why she's in the show for. What the hell's her name?
Yeah. She was like intimidating though. She's the girl from Heavenly Creatures. She looks like one of the Cusack siblings. But she's also a portly woman. So it's like, is she hoarding all the reserves for herself?
Yeah.
There should be no fat people in your post-apocalyptic movie. Unless they are playing like some kind of tyrant. But she's not a tyrant because it's established that they just took over the Fedra camp. You know?
Yeah.
They were expecting to drive into a Fedra type quarantine base, but they got sidetracked in the show because, like, oh, it turns out the Fedra camp has been overrun by dangerous, what's the word I'm looking for? Revolutionists.
Yeah. Well, basically in the show, we get from 8 minutes in to 18. So it's a good 10 minutes of just Henry and Sam hanging out inside of a attic, just waiting for 10 days for supplies, which never come. So it's,
yeah. I mean, we get to learn about, all this backstory, like that creepy boss from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. He's like that doctor, tell us where Henry is, and all that backstory about like why she wants to kill Henry. That reveal was cool. Turns out like, yeah, he's an informant. They were ratting out to Fedra people. And they got her brother killed, who was like part of the Fireflies, I guess. Or not Fireflies. Doesn't matter. It's just like, so yeah, sneak out of the city. Oh, she's got good. Oh God,
he's not wrong.
Yeah. Karen is still dangerous. Yeah. She definitely had great, she was great at delivering her lines and being fucking. My mother hated her. She's like, I hate that bitch, that witch. Oh God, I hate her. It's like, yeah, she's a great villain, but she's like a bonus villain who wasn't in the game at all. I mean, it's better to. I mean, maybe it's not better, but the idea is in the game, like these are faceless threat enemies, and we don't want to know anything about them. I'm sure they got their reasoning for why they're doing this shit to survive, just like we are.
Yeah.
But like the less you know, the better. But yeah, of course, this is where like Joel, he gets like left behind, and what's his name? Henry and his brother Sam, they like leave him. They're like, sorry, he's on his own. And then Ellie's like, I'm with you. And then they go through a whole nother shitstorm, and they jump in a river. That's right.
Yeah. But that's the main dynamic is like inside the game, Henry and Sam were just side characters versus in the show, they make it where Henry's talking to Joel and he wants to get out of the city because he's being hunted for what he did. And he's like, well, Joel, you don't know how to get out of the city. I do.
And he knows about some sewer that's like not that's empty with zombies now.
Yeah.
And they did a bad job explaining like, what the hell was going on with the zombies underground. Like they're like tearing out the fucking city from underneath them. And it's just kind of a really bad Deus Ex Machina when that scene comes up later. But like here, this is a great scene in the game because it's like, they go into the sewer and you could tell there were survivors there. And this is where they were supposed to meet these fireflies. This is how they know the sewers are empty because you have a group of survivors that are living in the city. And it's gone for a few months. Yeah. The sewers are pretty safe. And this is where I'm going to set up a town here. And they've got rules. And it's like, someone thought they could keep this place safe, but they didn't. Because eventually they find some clickers, which means, okay, they've been gone long enough. And then they get separated. So now you got Joel and Sam. And then on the other side of this wall is fucking Ellie and Henry. So now it's like this desperate attempt to, because like, it's like these people were living in the sewer and they found out that zombies came in. And so that's the great part is like you see it in the show too, where you see like their lived in quarters in the sewer, you can tell like these people lived there for a while and they had a good home there, but it just takes one infected to get in and turn it into a fucking cave full of zombies. And then they have to go through hell again to get out of there. And again, in the show, like, you could expedite it, maybe have like a handful of zombies that they kind of sneak past and get out just in time. But there's that great scene where they get out and it's like, oh God, warning, infected inside. Do not open.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on.
Well, this part in terms of the show, Joel's talking to Sam, and he gives the whole reveal of, which it does add drama to his character. That hey, listen, my little brother had fucking leukemia. Medicine is in short supply. I had to be a prick, and I had to sell out her brother. But
Yeah,
you
that
can't blame him.
backstory was good
You
with
know,
him.
yeah. I mean, I did like that part inside the show. I won't lie,
Yeah,
because
and it was a
like
good reveal, and it did help explain like why Henry's on the run, and it also helped that explain like spoilers where like Henry shoots himself because like you went through so much to save his life.
Yeah,
and now you killed so many people to save his life, and then you killed him like that, and without thinking you killed yourself. It's like one of those things where like Joel should take the gun away from him. He probably would have slept it off.
Yeah,
but that's one of those things where you're not thinking, obviously.
yeah. Kathleen's her name. Sorry, it was Kathleen's
Kathleen.
brother. Yep.
So close to Karen. Yeah, another
Yeah.
K name. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is where you
Mess with
finally
him
got
up.
through a nest of zombies and you go through the town, and now it's like some random sniper and his buddies, and you got to go out there. And again, they did this in the game, but less with the zombies. Go out there, you kill the guys brutally. There is no like, don't make me shoot you, old man. Don't make me shoot you, old man. It's like in the game, it's like, fuck you, dude. You shoot me once, death to you.
Yeah.
You point a gun at me, death to you. Like I don't have time to be reasoning with every fucking person that wants to kill me.
Yeah.
Begging. What are you gonna do? Let this old man join your ranks?
Yeah.
Shoot him right in the fucking cheek and let him die slowly. Like don't. And then of course he points the gun at you and almost kills you. It's like but yeah, of course, like this is where Sam gets bit. You shoot some people, and then a car crashes through a fucking building, and zombies pour out of there. And then because you've been firing this gun, more zombies, they show up, and you escape just by the hair of your balls.
Now the difference was inside the show right here. This was we're 40 minutes in with Joel the sniper, and this is a very good, to their credit, action sequence, because it was alluding to the fact that Kathleen, she was so obsessed with capturing Henry that they're looking at, hey, listen, there's some shit's going on down the basement, and the ground's kind of swelling. There's a major threat, but she's like, fuck that, we'll worry about it later. I want to get Henry so bad. You're ignoring the fact that there's a fucking whole bunch of zombies coming from the tunnels and shit, and we do get a good action sequence with the bloater, which was pretty cool watching that.
Yeah, she does that great. Well, because we had to have a bloater scene because we sacrificed the gym bloater scene. But there is no line of someone saying like, Ellie's got to be like, what the hell's that? They don't even say it. We're just like, to the uneducated, someone who didn't play the game, I would assume like, was that like a 600-pound man who got infected? Like,
yeah.
I don't understand.
I give them credit as well as they did practical effects. They actually had an actor I watched because I was watching the behind the scenes shit.
I saw the makeup, but like he still looked pretty computery in the show. That was what's weird.
I think the way they moved it, but it was an actual actor and prosthetics and stuff. Maybe they just had to add some CG to movement, but it was, but there was a cool symbology with Kathleen saying, oh, it's like your brother, he's just a kid, he's not important. And then what happens, looks over and a fucking kid clicker mauls her ass and just rips her apart and shit. And
that was pretty good. And also I like the clicker crawling in, the little child clicker crawling in the car with her. It's like you're not safe. But that's what happens when you put a woman in charge,
But I do admit this, in terms of the episode versus a game, they changed the sniper dynamic, but I did like this episode because of the symbology. And it wasn't, I said, this part right here didn't change because either way, Sam gets bit. So it doesn't change that aspect.
Right.
So we did get to have a cool action sequence.
But this is something they did change that I did have a problem with, is in the game, it's like, okay, like, Joel and Henry are in there, and Sam, they're trying to have kid time again, and this time Sam is not having it. He's just counting cans. He doesn't want any part of any of this stuff. He's trying to be all, what do you want? Something wrong. And then she sneaks him that little toy he wanted earlier, and he doesn't seem to care.
Yeah.
And in the show, I really didn't like how they tried to add this like, I'm gonna cure you scene, because it's very irresponsible for her not to tell anybody. You can tell Joel and Henry, hey, he's bit, but I have an idea, and maybe we could all watch. Also, the other thing is when you introduce this idea of her trying the blood thing and it doesn't work, it suddenly makes the end sacrifice seem kind of like, well, it seemed like the cure. It seemed like you have doubt to think there could be a cure synthesized from her suddenly. Whereas in the game, you have no doubt to think that the cure could easily be synthesized from her brain. But like, well, we see it fail with the blood, and I understand it's not exact science, but this would have been better without this
I
that.
mean, inside the show, I didn't mind her doing it only because like she's desperate right now, and she's a 14-year-old girl. So in her mind, mixing his blood, it's just her last act of desperation.
Yeah,
But you
kids
know,
love like being right.
mm,
I told you I didn't have to do
yeah.
that. Also, I like to say I pointed out I changed the theme to blue, so because blue collar losers in here.
But I do
Um,
admit that, this scene inside of the show, because he is mute, that he's writing on the chalkboard, like telling Ellie, "I'm scared," and "Are you scared all the time?" I do admit, almost like maybe to Wes was saying about him being mute. I
yeah,
felt like if he would say, "I'm scared," "I'm
right.
afraid," "I'm terrified," saying the emotion has more of an impact versus writing it on a chalkboard or
Yeah, you can't tell like this kid's bothered when he's not saying anything because he never says anything. When a
yeah,
kid normally says stuff and he's not saying anything now, you're like, what's wrong?
yeah. But it's pretty sad. But either way, it's very
Yeah.
traumatic because I'm watching it now. We are 52 minutes in where he asks Ellie, he's like, will you sit with me? And of course, she stays up with him as long as she can before she falls asleep.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, it's definitely way more of a jump scare the game where it's like breakfast. Oh, it smells so good. Every time there's something good about to happen, it's immediately like the rug is pulled out from under you. It's like, oh, breakfast. It smells good. I can't wait. It's like, oh, wake up my brother Sam. Okay, hey Sam, breakfast. Blah blah blah. And then everybody's got a crazy murder suicide. And I did like in the show. One thing I noticed is in the game we watch Joel's reaction to Henry shooting himself. We see Joel like, oh, but in the game we cut to Ellie's reaction and we see her like watch him blow his brains out. And you could tell she's like, oh, I didn't want to see that this morning. I wasn't ready for that.
yeah.
But here's another part. This is where we get to episode 6, right?
Yeah, because I'm looking right now because we are 55 minutes in. Like you said, right now, Henry, he's like, "What did I do?" And he's got to kill himself. And like you said, you hear Joel say, "Oh God," but the whole thing is looking on Ellie and she's crying. It's not Joel's reaction; it's her reaction. So
Yeah, and again, this is like, all the right parts are taken verbatim from the game, but again, because they like change a few things here and there before those
yeah,
parts, it's like there's something kind of getting lost in the translation. And I like I said, I know that because, like I said, my Aunt Darla, she didn't like the ending.
yeah,
Whereas, like I said, if you've gone through all the shit you do in the game, the ending is like, yes, of course
yeah,
you lie to her face. You look at her right in the eyes, you say, I swear. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong, Whereas in the game, you're kind of like, in the show, you're kind of like,
yeah,
yeah. It makes Joel seem kind of, more like a dick because it's like,
yeah. So like I'm looking right now at the after part of like it says they have a guy called a dialect coach and the kid who plays Sam. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a dialect coach. I'm with the director of the ASL." And it just
mm,
I feel like it was done because hey, listen guys, we get to hire more
yeah,
diversity people and people like that are part of like whatever this ASO league and stuff. And it's yeah, I didn't. It's adding Sammy and Dev felt like it was just such a way we can say, hey, listen, we're all diverse and we can hire special needs people for our show because our show is all about diversity. And
yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, Wes is asking like if a carbon copy of the game would have worked. It's like I don't know if it would have worked, but like I've said before, it would have been the most surprising. It would have been more surprising if it was a carbon copy of the game because everyone would have been like, dude, I can't believe they did it. Like spot on.
hmm,
Like, I mean, nothing has really been adapted 100%. Even like the Watchmen adaptation, which is like pretty close,
hmm.
still not 100%. Even when you talk about the ultimate cut or whatever.
Well, definitely, this is always a problem. Adaptations like carbon
Yeah.
copies don't work because I even said The Watchmen. I thought the movie was a better ending than a comic book.
Right. And
I did.
already like going through the game right now, it's like, all right, this action scene could have been deleted. And yeah, I understand why they
Yeah,
combined this
correct.
scene and this scene. It's like it's not like, yeah, it's not an exact science, but like this is a part right here, this episode with Tommy. This is one of those what could have been. I mean, the Tommy episode is like, because in the game, we're going to Jackson County to meet Tommy somewhere in Wyoming, and we're crossing this electric dam. Just happen to be crossing it, and we run into fucking Tommy. And it turns out that they're here to turn on the fucking power to the dam.
Yeah,
And that's like they got a town down the ways on the other side of the mountain, and like they got some experts here that are going to turn on the fucking hydroelectric plant. And he's telling them all about you're telling them about the town. You
yeah.
don't actually see the town, you know. And of course,
Now,
there's this great part that wasn't in the show where Tommy's like,
yeah.
"I've got this for you, this picture of your daughter," and he doesn't want it.
Well, so right now in the show, we get the whole well, this is the opening with we have Graham Greene and his wife and the whole them meeting the older couple, and we get our very first, which I had issues with this, but I guess they wanted to change up Joel for the show. Joel has his first panic attack
Yeah, yeah.
inside the show.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like so in the show it's like he goes and meets some Inuit people, right? And they're
Yeah, I
like,
mean, I just say Indian, but
oh, yeah, I don't know. It's that famous actor. He's in all the Twilight movies and whatever
I
the
say
fuck.
Graham Greene.
There
Yeah,
you go. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know him.
He's wonderful.
Yeah,
He's one of those actors that's just always playing like the same dude, but it works.
yeah,
Like we need like a mysterious, like older, Native American type character of some type. Like I'm your guy,
yeah,
and him and his wife, they're like surviving. And this is like one of those like things that was added that didn't, seem unnecessary, but also didn't seem, detract from the show or whatsoever.
hmm.
Some random people being funny and they're still loving. Yeah, this is one of your heterosexual
Yeah,
couples that okay, so they did do it at least once.
yeah.
They did show at least one heterosexual couple in a loving light. Thank God. But
And even right now in the show, because we're 12 minutes into this episode, this is where this happens again. And Drinker mentioned this with Joel that okay, Joel falls asleep and Ellie's like, oh, I've already been awake and I've been standing guard, and it's like Joel he's losing his step, and Ellie's like kind of like she's like you're passed out. I took second watch. He's like you have to wake me up when that happens, and she's like oh. He's like, you can't do things like I do, but I can because I just did. And
yeah,
right there, it's almost like even Drinker would say, she's automatically saying that she's got holding a gun and I already did it, Joel. I don't need you. And you're making Joel a lot more like vulnerable in the show. It's
yeah. I
okay.
mean, all the stuff when they're like walking to the dam, it's very obvious that like, Ellie has killed now, but she's not like armed and fucking running around still taking
Yeah.
charge. She's, it's like she didn't like, so let's hope she doesn't have to kill anyone ever again kind of
Yeah.
attitude, like, but like I said, this whole ad dynamic with the photograph is very important. And that was omitted from the show for some reason. Cause it's like, if we're trying to milk the emotion, like this is very important. Cause later, when Ellie gives him the photograph, hey, Tommy gave this to me, and I
Even
think you'd
before we get
want
to
it.
the dam, though, we get to the part in the show where they surrounded by the people. Tommy's clicked there, and they have the dog. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
you're getting scared because a dog can
I would
smell
have sworn the
infection.
dog would have fucking noticed because the
Yeah,
dog can tell if you're infected whether you're showing symptoms, right?
yeah. But this is where we get because we're not sure how the dog can tell, but technically she is infected. But okay, I mean, we obviously know that this dog's not going to maul Ellie.
I mean, it would have been fun if it was like the dog starts snarling and then what's his name? Joel has to say something like, "Wait, I can explain."
Yeah,
Yes, she's infected, but she's immune. But then you have to explain it to like a handful of people, and they're like I understand you're complicating the story. How about just not have the dog?
yeah. So this entire scene, yeah, same thing with the dog and this Joel scene. I just like it felt like it was. I don't know why. Of course, Joel has 18 minutes in his second panic attack, which I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well,
oh, okay,
like here in the show, we're seeing the town. We're seeing, oh, this is all could be used. We have liquor from the before time, and we've got chickens, and we were communists. Communism works. It's like, oh God, all right, all that stuff. But
yeah,
like in the show, in the game, it's like we're in a dam. We're trying
mm,
with these guys with the hard hats. These guys think they can turn this thing on, and they have like some kind of fucking crane dropping this thing in, and they turn it on. Yay! And of course, this could have been deleted, but the idea is raiders show up and
yeah,
now you got to shoot these raiders. That could have been deleted, but the idea is you turn on the dam and it's like, yay, hooray. We got a town. Everything's like,
yeah,
we got crops and stuff. And now we got electricity. And then, this is where he'd already told Tommy that he wants him to take Ellie. And raiders are not like we could delete the scene of the raiders, but then it's important because now we found out that Ellie has run away. She's taken one of the horses and run away because she overheard, Joel and Tommy talking.
yeah,
And that's in the show to a degree, but she doesn't run away. She hears the talking and there's kind of a disagreement and she gets to make a choice. But here in the game, it's like we could have deleted that scene of the raiders storming the dam, but now we have to go out into the wilderness and get Ellie. And of course, now there's more danger. Some other raiders, but of course, it's just like two or three dudes. But this is that line. You have no idea what loss is,
And that's the shit people gave me about my issues with my review of the show was that okay, right now inside the game, Joel still doesn't care about her enough yet. She's not important. All she is at this point is a fucking burden. She's cargo. That's it. It's not that he's incapable, he just doesn't give a shit. versus the show. Then we get the whole Joel and Tommy and him breaking down, and he starts crying, and he literally says that, I had to have a little girl save me 5 years ago. This wouldn't have happened. I'm missing a step. I'm half deaf, and I can't protect her. And that was my issues because some people said that, well, he's older, he's not as capable. Do you have a problem with this? I'm like, it's not that I have a problem with it, is that inside the game, Joel was capable. Joel could handle himself.
Yeah, Joel just didn't, he thought that she had better odds with him,
like
with them.
He was more sure of himself in the game. He didn't want to get rid of her in the game because he wasn't capable. He just didn't give a shit. Versus the show was just like, Tommy, you can take care of her because I'm too old and weak and useless to take care of her. And
right, and it's like, again,
that's my problem, is that version of Joel with this PTSD shit, that Joel wouldn't be capable of the end. Because when we get to the ending Joe was a dude's like, fuck this. I got some shit to take care of. I'm going to go save this little girl. Right now, he's doubting himself. I can't handle this stuff. And I'm like,
it makes that better because he goes all unforgiving on everyone's ass. But like here, like this is a good, it is symbolism. Like I know Wes was being sarcastic earlier when he said symbolism, but here the symbolism is like, Tommy gives him a photo of his old life with his daughter. He says, I don't want this. And at the same time, he's telling him, I don't want this kid either. He is not accepting this surrogacy, that he is, fallen into. He's like trying to push it away. And there's a very distinct moment later in the game where he accepts that responsibility. It's after she's like nursed him back to health, Yeah. That's where, he realizes that she is his new daughter. He gets a second chance to be a father. And that's kind of what the whole fucking point of the game was. Whereas in the show, it seems more like this girl kind of finding herself seems to be more of the central focus, whereas it's much more predominantly focused on Joel being like this adoptive father. But then again, that's been done before with Aliens, it's like, okay, so I can understand the criticism of that, like seen it before, but like it's not a bad message to have, take care of these kids. And this is all we see of the town in the game. It's like, there's the town, the fucking base is in Colorado somewhere.
Yeah. Like you said, the theme is very similar, the dialogue, and this is why we said a good adaptation. They do copy the dialogue word for word from the game to the show, is that, hey, listen, it's like, he's like, Ellie, you're going on some mighty fine water, some mighty fine territory, and you don't understand what loss is. And she's like, no, everyone I've ever cared about has left me but you. And I would be more scared without you around. So she wants Joe in her life. And it's
yeah, that was a good part. Yeah, you're right. And then also, I mean, this is around the part where, like, even though this was a weaker episode, it was like right around here where I was getting less concerned about the pacing issues. I was like, okay, maybe this is because, like, it was around episode 7 where I was freaking out because I was like, wait a minute, there's only one more episode left. And I realized, oh, there's 2 more. Okay. So I kind of definitely breathed a sigh of relief because, like, it was around this part of the end of this episode where, even though this was all different from the game, I definitely was like, okay, but we're caught up to now we're going to Colorado. And what I didn't like, though, about this episode was they kind of tagged this whole University of Colorado episode on the end of the last episode. This should have been its own episode.
Yeah, because episode 6, basically at the end, Joel changes his mind inside the show, and then him and Ellie are on the horse, and of course
gives Ellie the choice.
Yeah, and then of course he gets impaled, which it's very similar. It's not a carbon copy, but the same thing. He gets injured. That's the end of the episode.
Yeah, but back to like giving Ellie the choice. See, the end, going out to the wilderness to hunt her down and find her. It's like the proof that I do care about you. Like, you thought I didn't care about you. I went through a horde of fucking raiders to save you because you're hiding up in this house in the middle of nowhere. And now I'm telling you, you can either go with Tommy or you can come with me. And she's like, I want to go with you.
I definitely wonder about because inside the show, they show more like people trying to be normal. They're watching TV and they're having like movie nights and stuff. And people even said, if you rewind it, it kind of hints at the character Dina from Last of Us 2. You see a quick girl that has
the girl staring at her.
She has the exact same complexion, height, build, hair color as Dina from Last of Us 2. Elle looks over. Ellie's like, "What the fuck are you looking at?"
It's the girl that she comments like, "What's she fucking looking at?" The rude one.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I understand like building up to the second one, but like I said, I hope they do the second one totally accurate, so that way, like, the same people that are praising the show that never played the game are going to be like, I don't like the second season, and they'll be called transphobes or whatever. But
the end of the episode does copy the game where Joel gets injured. That's where
but at the same time, it's like all this stuff. This was great world building in the school, because in the game, it's like We go to the school. We encounter we encounter some monkeys, and then there's nobody there, and 3 guys show up, and he gets a bat in his stomach, and he kills the guy with the bat.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that guy was, related to them, the other dudes later. But in the game, it's like, okay, we go into the campus, and the campus is like, first of all, going into the dorms, like looking at notes and stuff. We're learning about what happened during the outbreak here in the school where people were like locked down. This is the thing about the monkeys. We see the monkeys, and in the game, we find a little recorder from this scientist right here who shot himself. He was experimenting with the monkeys, right? And what happened was the monkeys got out, bit the guy, and that's how the outbreak started again in this fucking safe zone, this research center, so those monkeys were infected, and it's a good thing they didn't fucking touch them, but yeah, this guy shot himself, and this is where they find out on a recorder that they've gone to Salt Lake City. And of course, like, you encounter a shitload of dudes. And like I said, this injury seems way more severe, which is, maybe a good thing or a bad thing, depending on.
I mean, Joe still gets impaled either way, but yeah.
Dude, he gets impaled all the way through. Amazingly dodged his liver or something, But definitely, it's hardcore. And of course, Ellie has to rescue his ass on the horse, and they drive off. But this is where.
Here we go.
Like I said, I guess you could have tagged the school thing on to the end of one episode, but the point is, here we go. I said symbology. Oh, symbolics. I said symbolism because symbology ain't a word. When you get older and have been in constant combat, you get battle fatigue. When you get panic attacks. Yeah, I don't mind the panic attacks per se, but
well, that's what I said. But my thing is, I don't mind PTSD and panic attacks if it's part of the character. But my thing is, if it was such an important part of the character, why wouldn't it be an important part of the character inside the game?
Well, that would be bad gameplay where it's like, Joel is having press X to stop having a panic attack, whatever. That'd be lame. But also Joel has a panic attack for finding out his brother is probably dead. He's been looking for his brother, and the Indian guy's telling him, your brother's probably dead. Everything out there is dead, He goes outside, he has a panic attack. But being stuck in a fucking cave full of zombies, he seems to handle that pretty smoothly, being, it's like, what are you going to have a panic attack over?
This makes me wonder when, because the drinker recently was on that guy's podcast, Chris Williamson or something, and he pops up that clip why Hollywood is scared of stoic characters.
Yeah, I love that video.
And Drinker breaks down the entire stoicism and stuff, and that's why I feel like Joel in the game is very stoic.
Like you said, there's nothing wrong with crying at a good movie, but if there's a life or death situation, you do not cry in front of your children, in front of your lady. You have to be strong,
I mean, I took it as there's difference between having panic attacks, and there's difference between that and self-doubting your capabilities. Like I've always said, and I'm sure Wes, because I mean, I'm not as military based as Wes or combat ready, but I have a 15-year-old son. If somebody breaks into this house right now, me defending my son, I'm not having any self-doubts of I'm going to fucking murder somebody to save my kid. And it feels like a tacked on arc to make Joel a lot softer inside of the show that he wasn't in the game. You know what I mean?
Dude, in the show, in the game, he's so hard. He's brutal. He's like a Mortal Kombat character. You know what I mean? He's murdered a lot of people.
I've always said, but a character like him in a post-apocalyptic zombie world, you need someone that's that brutal and stoic, because if you want to survive, it's like if this kind of zombie outbreak happened, there's no time for panic attacks because you will get killed. And like Wes would say,
yeah, no, that's right. I mean, he can't protect her forever. I mean, he worries he'll fail Ellie.
I agree 100% with Wes when we get to that. Episode 9, that's what I'm saying. Episode 9, that Joel is what I guess I was used to how he should have been since episode 1. He should have been that character. It feels like they're playing up and down with his character arc. Like if the panic attacks and PTSD were so important, then it should have been so important at episode 9.
Right. And also that's the other thing is we were talking about Ellie, where she in the first few episodes, she's not really like Ellie. She's a little too dark, a little too annoying, bratty, and a little too spoiled. But then some point, once she gets the joke book, she kind of goes right back to being regular Ellie, where it's okay, this is like a child and she's got this innocence to her. But that's the other thing is people in a post-apocalyptic world, that's the other thing is we shouldn't see. I mean, obviously this is a problem with the game too, but it's you would think a child in this world would be a hard motherfucker.
I
you
kind of
know?
like it said. I feel like if I ever had like if Wes was here, like ever talking to stream, him or Drinker, people give a lot of shit to Last Jedi because in episodes 4, 5, and 6, and even Mark Hamill said Luke is hopeful, and he's there for his friends, and he doesn't give up, and we love Luke because Luke will always find a way, and
Yeah.
Luke. And then we get to Last Jedi. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
I'm a failure. I'm pathetic. I turned on my nephew. I'm gonna sit here and just feel sorry for myself and wait to fucking die. And everyone's like, even Mark Hamill's like, that's not Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker never gives up. And that's why I feel like with Joel in episode 6, we're getting a Joel was just like, Tommy, I give up. I'm too old. I'm weak. I'm pathetic. I can't save this young girl. So you take her because I'm incapable of doing it. That's not the Joel I am
Yeah.
used to getting shit done. That kind of character,
Yeah.
after he would not survive 20 years having that constant self-doubt. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're right. I mean, it is kind of Jake Skywalker-y, where it's like, having a panic, like Luke Skywalker having a panic attack because he can't, it's like Luke Skywalker would never do that. And Joel, yeah, it's like, that's the thing is like, if the second game had been better, Joel as a character would still be held in that kind of Luke Skywalker regard. Or if the second game hadn't been made at all, Joel is one of those great characters until the second game comes along and kind of bitches him out. And that's the other thing is like, we're at winter. And this is the great part for Ellie to shine, and instead, like what we have at the end of the show is like, we see the beginning of the episode with her kind of setting up shop with Joel all fucked up and sick.
Well, let's pause right there because okay, this is the end of episode 6, but okay, so this is actually episode 8 because now episode 7 in the show
you're right.
is the fucking DLC. Which
we gotta talk about 7. Which I said should have been like episode 11. It should have been like a tagged on at the end, like we're not done. Yeah, Chris proves my point. Game players should have watched the show. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can't silence us, Wes. No, you can't silence us.
That's why I say at some point me and Wes will have a long discussion about he knows more about PTSD than I do, obviously, and
for sure.
But in terms of like right now character arcs, and this is inside the game episode 8, but episode 7, and Wes, I know you haven't played the game. This is the DLC, which is
okay.
Even Drinkers, everybody. This is a massive filler episode. It's not bad in a sense, but it adds nothing to the fucking story.
I was kind of glad, and I don't want to sound like preaching too much on the homophobia or whatever or anything, but like I'm just saying, like I was worried that this episode was going to be also excessively like gay, but I'm glad they just kind of had a little first little kiss. And that was fine. But like, I was like, are we really going to have 2 expository episodes that just focus totally on like some homosexual relationships, which is fine. But just like, how many relationships are there in general? And the odds that they're all like gay. I mean, that's fine. But like, I'm glad, like I said, in hindsight, that was something I was worried about before I saw the episode, but it was definitely more innocent child, like, confused girls hanging out, preteens. And like I said, it's kind of like what they should have done with Bill and Frank, where Bill and Frank shouldn't have even been gay. They're just like 2 dudes like living together for a decade, and then they just like fall in love. Like that would have been better. It was weird how Frank just kind of, I know because I see your piano and I know you play these show tunes and therefore you're gay. It's like, I'm not gay. I do karaoke and stuff. Does that make me gay? You're jumping to assumptions. But like, with the mall episode, I mean, just in general, just comparing it to the game, again, like way more zombies. It's like one of those things where like they go to the mall to dick around and they learn very quickly it was a very big mistake.
Yeah.
Whereas in the game, it's like, it turns out there was like one zombie tucked away in the corner over there and nobody knew about it. And it's like, apparently she's been there turning stuff on all the time. Hey, greens.
Yeah, it's definitely
dude, Max is here. This is the guy I was talking about who works in the greens department.
Yeah.
We've been tearing through the show episode by episode. We're now at episode 7. The mall episode. Max, yes. I wanted to get your fucking full-blown opinion on the greens. Surely you've seen Last of Us by now, right?
Oh yeah, it's great.
And I'm sure you working in the greens department, that's all you're fucking staring at is all the plants in every shot, right?
There's a lot. That's actually a pretty extensive, especially like, for instance, that one scene where they're like in that fucking neighborhood in Kansas City. That was a lot of fucking greens.
Yeah. I mean, it's like so hard to not like notice like stuff that you work on, So I'm sure like every scene you're just like looking at all the plants and all the backgrounds, like in the concrete corners and shit. You're like, whoa, the greens department was like heavy at work.
Yeah, and it's all done in Canada too. So like,
oh, that's why you didn't get to work on it. Shit.
Yeah, it's all done in Canada. But everything there has to be able to withstand or at least look dead during wintertime, you know?
Right. Yeah. But as far as like what Wes said, like he thought Bill and Frank came off as two regular dudes that just kind of like to bang each other. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Frank definitely came off as more of the flamboyant type. But as far as like Max, what are your thoughts on the show and the game and everything?
I never played the game, but I definitely watched the show and I thought it was freaking great. I liked it.
Right. Yeah. That seems to be the opinion. Like, if you didn't play the game, it was great. If you played the game, it was good. You know. So, and we're kind of diving headfirst into that, like in the show, the mall episode.
Yeah.
Great. Fun stuff. But we were talking about how that should have been at the end of the series. Like, just tag it on at the end. Hey, bonus episode, prequel, how Ellie got bit.
It was definitely like fillered for like. It was 100%. Definitely like character development filler type situation, just to kind of explain the Ellie character more. I feel like is all that.
But in the game, they explain the mall scene very quickly when like Tess is first asking her about like what happened to your bite. Like there's a part where they hide out in some garage. This is the first time you find one of those weapon racks. And Ellie and Tess are talking about it. And she's like, yeah, I was in a mall. I used to go to the Fedra military school, and I snuck out with my friend, and we both got attacked, and that's it. And that's really all you need to know. And it's one of these things like the Curse of Hollywood, with like over-explaining backstories and over-explaining, setups to stuff that's just not necessary. But still, it was a fun episode. And like I said, I'm glad they toned down the adolescent, lesbianism. I'm glad we didn't get to see two minor girls just like fucking make out or fucking something great. That would have been weird. I'm glad it was just like a little childish little, my first kiss, me, and then zombies.
Yeah, whoever the gaffer was on that show, fantastic job lighting up all of that set. That was really aesthetically pleasing, the whole thing.
That's the other thing, lighting up the mall, and they establish like she does it all the time. It's one of those things where it's like you think somebody doing like a perimeter check of the city would be like, the mall's on again.
Yeah.
Like what's going on there? But it's also one of those things where it's like you're probably like one of those guards in the tower. You're like, I don't want to go find out what's over there. Sure, it's someone, whoever it is, whoever's turning on the mall, probably kill us for showing up. So I don't want to.
In the pure like amount of juice that would take to fill like to turn that whole mall on would surge everything else in the whole area.
Well, you missed where we were talking about Bill and Frank's episode, but one of the things I did like was they show Bill go to the gas plant and turn the gas on. It's like, it's really that easy. Really, it's really that easy to keep the power running. Really, I mean, especially for an extended period of time, assuming like you're the only guy using the power in that area. You got all the fucking gas in the world, really. But like I said, the problem with that episode was like everything was maintained too well. There should have been way more like rot and gross mold, and because Bill's a gross guy. Like they made Bill like look kind of like a overly neat OCD type like weirdo, whereas like in the reality he seemed more like a Rambo type character,
Yeah,
he would have been fine living in the woods, in a bushcraft type setting,
Yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, as far as episode 7, it's like not really a whole lot else to talk about except, the great lighting, great action set. I mean, and that's the thing is like I only played the prequel game part like once, and I remember being let down by how short it was. I thought it was going to be longer. It was basically just like one small level.
Yeah, if you look at like any gameplay videos, it's probably like an hour, pushing it maybe an hour and 10 minutes long. But they do. I mean, the show does copy it verbatim. But that's the thing. It's a good.
Less zombies though.
But it's a decent DLC. The curse of this is that we have 9 episodes, and technically this episode 7. So this is again an entire 45 minutes that we're not getting of Joel and Ellie. We're getting unnecessary filler.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like for every zombie in the game that zombie needs to be in the show, but like, how about for every 50 zombies in the game, we get like 2 zombies in the show? How about for every like instead of like 20 zombies in the mall, there's 2 or 3, just enough to where it's like these 2 kids are fucked, And that's the thing. It's like the danger. There's a lot of situations where it's got to be like, we didn't kill the bad guys and we escaped by the hair of our balls, but we're out and we're alive. There's got to be like at least like 3 or 4 scenes like that where it's like we didn't kill, we didn't attack, and we managed to avoid detection, and we fucking like a lot of like Jurassic Park, the fucking Velociraptor in the kitchen scenes, like stuff like that.
No, the one thing that the show and the game didn't do, to both their discredit, is I feel like, because obviously we're seeing the first time Ellie gets bit, and she knows that she's immune. Riley also gets bit, and Ellie later on tells Joel that my best friend, I had to kill her. I think, if they would have showed Riley turning, and the first time Ellie has to take her first life, would have added a lot more drama to Ellie's character arc, because she's like, I just had to kill my best friend because she turned and I didn't. Like, it would have been more impactful, because she tells Joe she had to kill her.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the game. And
yeah, but you never show it though, which would have been just that much like, oh shit, she just had to kill her best friend out of
they didn't
survival.
show it in the show either, though, right?
No, they didn't. That's what I'm saying. But
they showed it in the game though.
No, the game they never showed it either.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's one thing. I think the game and the show, it would have added a lot more drama to Ellie's character. Like, somebody that I fell in love with, and she was my first girlfriend. I had to fucking kill my best friend, and that's dark shit.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's one of those things. This is why it works better as a bonus episode, because at the end of the season, because like because like the idea is in the game, it's like she says, I was with my friend, I escaped, and we both got out, and I've never killed anyone. But like at the end, you find out, oh, I did kill her, and then episode after that, we can see the story. But like when you find out, exactly, it's like based on what the audience knows and doesn't knows, it affects the outcome of the drama, And like you said, like that's supposed to be, it should be like a big double reveal, like, yes, I'm going to lie to you, and yes, Ellie did kill that friend of hers, her girlfriend.
So episode 7 is not a bad episode, but it hurts. I do feel, for a 9-episode arc, and even the Critical Drinker said this, at this point we're 7 episodes in, we've already had 3 and 7 as pure filler. So we've only had like Joel and Ellie in episode 1. He meets Ellie for 5 minutes. So we've only got to spend like 2 hours with Ellie and Joel out of 7 episodes. It's like this point,
it is lacking on their like relationship dynamic, because we have so much.
At this point in the game, we're in the winter. You see the father-daughter bond with Joel and Ellie inside the game, but in the TV show, we're 8 episodes in. We're like, wow, we've spent 90 minutes with these two. We barely know them.
Well, like I said, in the game, like there's so much expository stuff just from like, oh, let's walk down this secret path to get this little bonus item that will give me exposition. But also the whole time we're going down there, me and Ellie are having dialogue that is more exposition, So like if you play the game the slow way, the real explorative way, where you get all the pickups and all the donuts, it could take fucking like 12 to 13 hours.
It's one thing I did agree with, is that at least so far, this part in the show, we're 8 episodes in. In the game, it feels like Joel is becoming a father figure, but in the show, even the Critical Drinker said he feels like an older brother at this point. He doesn't feel like any kind of like I don't see the attachment yet 8 episodes in. And considering the show is only 9 episodes, that's, like we've said, you've taken out a lot of stuff.
Well, I was pretty worried about the pacing of this show, especially, like I said, I thought at the end of episode 7, I was like worried, because I was like, oh my God, there's only 1 more episode. But I was like, oh, there's 2 more.
Yeah.
So that's better. But it was still like at the beginning of this episode 8, where we're like, we're seeing Ellie set up shop, and we're seeing her like struggling, and she's hunting a deer with a rifle that she barely knows how to use. But whereas like in the game, it's like fucking Joel gets stabbed, falls over, and then just hard cuts to winter, like a couple weeks later, maybe a week later.
Well, I love this part in the game right now. So they had to take this out because
I heard about this.
People on fucking TikTok, and I'm sure Wes will love this, but there's reaction videos where, of course, Twitch streamers, because we trust Twitch streamers, are triggered by Ellie killing a fucking.
So the scenes removed where the rabbits removed entirely.
Yeah, this scene is not in the show,
or it's not in the game.
No, it's in the game, but they can't.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying in the remake of the game for like PlayStation 5.
Oh no, but the point in the show is they couldn't show the scene in the show because this was triggering people on the internet.
Yeah, she took a rabbit from somebody, the Indian dude.
A girl who hasn't eaten in a fucking month kills a bunny rabbit. Oh no, heaven forbid. Like, fucking seriously.
Yeah, I guess the unfortunate part to all of this too is like the production companies for making these movies solely rely on what's going to get viewers to watch and keep watching. It's just, and that's all they care about.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like I think they're taking their advice from like the Twitter people, which they think represents the majority of the national public, where it's like they realize like only a minority of people are on Twitter to begin with. So when you ask Twitter, like, do you guys like this scene? then if you get 50% of Twitter saying yes, that means you're only getting like 10% of the actual population. If that,
it's where people's lines are drawn that, okay, so right now in the game, we're maybe 10, 12 hours into the game. So you watch the opening 10 minutes, a man having his daughter gunned down in his fucking arms, and your line being drawn is a girl killing a bunny rabbit.
Well, here's the thing why this scene is literally important, like literally narratively important. It shows the progression of time because now we're seeing Ellie, like we see a rabbit, we see snow everywhere. So we know there's been time progressed. We see a rabbit, wilderness, and then bam, arrow. So we know that Ellie knows how to use the arrow now. She's hunting on her own.
Yes.
And then what does she happen? She gets the rabbit, and then all of a sudden she sees a deer, and it's like, oh, I'm much better. This is much better. Like now I gotta go hunt a deer. Whereas in the game, she's like holding a rifle for the first time ever. And it's like she sees a deer. Your thought is like, she's not gonna hit that thing. You know, she's not gonna get that. It's a deer. She doesn't know it. She's like holding it like with the fucking rifle like under her armpit, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not we see this progression. Like she has taken the reins because Joel is out of commission. And it's so much more impactful when, you know, like she stalks down this deer and we don't even know where Joel is at this point in the game, you know? Yeah. So like I said, like if they had just gotten rid of that her setting up base in the garage scene, you know, show her hunting. That's where it cuts off. And then all this stuff with like running into David and this guy, like this stuff is all so accurate.
Well, the game starts off with David, and of course we get to see Troy Baker's in the show. So
yeah, this is Troy Baker's the guy who played Joel.
Oh.
And he looks so, you know, it's just like it's from the very first time you see him. He's like, who's this guy? He's got stage presence.
I mean, he's a little bit older, obviously, from the game, but you know, it's you can hear his voice. So yeah,
he'd be the right age for Joel, you know, present day, just like age him up 10 years instead of 20.
Yeah.
But anyway, like this stuff is all accurate, except it's very important. And you know, again, you could say this is more zombie fodder that's been deleted. But like the idea is, okay, we're doing the scene where it's like we're waiting. You have penicillin? Do you have something for someone who's sick? You know, you could tell she's desperate. She wants something. It's like, yeah, we do. We'll get it for you. We'll trade you some of this deer for that. All right, we'll handle it. But then a bunch of zombies show up. And it's now you've got this bonding experience where like this clicker shows up and the guy pulls out a fucking revolver and shoots this fucking clicker. And she has this line. It's like, you had a gun the whole time? And he's like, yeah. So it's like you trust this guy implicitly all of a sudden. And now her and this stranger go on this crazy, you know, like 30-minute adventure of like trying to not get killed by zombies. And she has to duck through some.
Like what Wes just said, which he's probably not wrong. People are fucked up.
I saw Open Range in the theaters 2002 when the camp was wiped out, 2 dead, no reaction. When the camera pans over to the dead dog, whole theater. Oh, yeah. People don't like when animals get killed, but a rabbit is different from a dog. You know, watching a chicken or a cow get killed.
I see where he's coming from, but yeah.
I know animals. Yeah. Animals and children, man, they're innocent. You know, you gotta love the critters, even the ones you eat, especially the ones you eat. You know, you gotta love all the little critters, right, Max?
Yep.
Sorry,
like
man.
You're saying, I watched some comparison videos. Yes, this part with Ellie and David, it's verbatim off the game. It's a really good scene.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just adding a couple. Like it doesn't need to be 1,000 zombies like in the game, but just like have David and Ellie fight a handful of zombies in this shed, so they have a bonding experience. Maybe a bloater. Maybe instead of like. Maybe there's one zombie and then a bloater, and just like, holy shit, these two have to work together to kill one bloater. That'd be a great bloater scene. And then now these two
dialogue,
and now they have this great moment. It has much more impact because this scene is taken directly from the show to the game, where it's like, yeah, everything happens for a reason, but they just went through hell. So it's like, hey, I finally trust you. And then he drops the bomb, like, you shouldn't trust me. And then she runs off.
Yeah.
And of course, this idea of like, hiding the horse in a random garage. And this is the first time we're seeing the base, and this is why it's more impactful not seeing her set it up, because it's like more we see Joel is actually fucked up. He's laying in a bed, he's sick. He's like, I got you some medicine, Joel. Oh, like I've been waiting for this. You don't know how long he's been sick, but it's been a while. And like, his belly's all red, and you know all that stuff is done in the show correctly, but like I said, just the little changes they make all the difference, you know. So it's one of those things where like, I think a fucking faithful adaptation would have been better. I'm sorry.
Well, so they do this part basically somewhere where Ellie tries getting away because she wants to get them away from Joel because Joel's too fucked up to defend himself, and Ellie gets captured.
Well, she sneaks out in this thing. She sneaks out and they catch her.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty scary because like she's sneaking, looking over here, and then boom, the camera pans left, and there's a guy like grabbing her off the horse, and it's like, oh shit, and she has to run, and that's when the horse gets shot. And it's very sad when the horse gets shot because we already went through the whole like Colorado adventure with the horse. The University of Colorado adventure with the horse. So you're kind of sad when the horse dies. And they show the horse dies. You're kind of like, oh, that sucks for Ellie. You know, you don't think, oh, the horse, I miss the horse now, you know. But yeah, so now she gets captured. And again, all this stuff is so accurate. And I do like how they confirm. Well, I mean, they confirm that he's a cannibal in the game too, but not until later. Actually, yeah, they confirm it ahead of time that he's a cannibal. But
so Wes just had a question.
Sorry. Do you guys think showing the zombies less like Jaws doesn't work cinematic wise? I do. As the game, no way. Well, like I said, yeah, I understand where you're coming at because like when we're going through it scene by scene from the game, it's like, yeah, there's definitely too many action scenes. Like I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot. And it's like, but
one thing, like you said, Spenzo, I may agree that Wes makes a good point, but also I see it where if you would have saw Ellie and David fighting together, it earns a trust aspect, and she's like, okay, I kind of trust this guy.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason why you should keep certain scenes and delete certain ones. Like for pacing, I understand. For budget, it's kind of whenever it's for budget reasons, I'm kind of annoyed. It's like, it's expensive to drop a fucking elevator into a basement full of water and zombies. Sure,
but I mean, it didn't bother me so far not having zombies in this sequence because like I said, there's time constraints and stuff, and it didn't impact the overall story because after that this is shot for shot from the game.
Right and again, this shot for shot stuff is so great, except the idea, one of the problems, like I said earlier, is like he says, oh, this is deer meat, I promise, and you have no way of thinking that it could be human meat. But earlier we are establishing that he is a cannibal. Whereas in the game, we don't find out until Joel breaks in. And again, this is like a part that's when we get to the end of this part, like that's something that they should have kind of kept in there. Like you could have lessened the zombie stuff before these two, you know, but this stuff where like Ellie has to sneak out, I broke your finger, and then like sneaking into town, sneaking out of town, this torture scene, like we said earlier, it's like in the show, Joel is way less brutal. Joel's done this before in the game.
Yeah, I've seen people on TikTok say that they like Pedro because he it's like weird where they always say that actors, it's like Pedro is mimicking the exact same lines as Troy Baker, but I don't know, it comes down to performance and something about Troy Baker, his voice, his mannerisms. I can say all day people say, Mark Hamill, what makes him so iconic as the fucking Joker? It's just because he does a Joker a certain way. And I feel like that scene, Pedro, he delivered the same exact lines as Troy Baker, but I watched the cutscene again in the game, and just like at that point, I'm like scared shitless of fucking Joel in the game. And I'm watching Pedro, and I'm like, I wasn't intimidated by Pedro the way he delivered the lines.
Especially the last line. I believe him, and hammer his head in. It's like he seems in our group I've heard just as many complaints about being shot for shot, just saying, I mean, it's one of those things where no one's going to agree on and there's no right answer, but
I just feel like this part, this sequence right there, Pedro should have been a lot more pissed off. He didn't look like he was angry. Like I don't know how to describe it.
In this part of the show, it's like he seems like he's just woken up from a coma and he's very like groggy, which makes sense, but at the same time, like that brutalness, that edge is kind of missing from Pedro. But like here it's like, so we've got like a dead deer corpse, but it's like we still don't know that this guy's a cannibal, and also we don't know the size of this town he's in. We just know that this guy, and also David, I gotta say, both David in the game and the show, it's great. The person that plays him, great performances, and David's a great enemy. David, and it was like Rainn Wilson caught some heat because he was like, they kind of turned him into like a preacher type character, and it's like, why, every time you got some kind of like, Christian type preacher character, they were always like a villain.
Yeah.
And Rainn Wilson, like, that was pretty crazy because he's normally pretty woke, and he said that, and it was like, wow, you just start noticing, and it's not like there's nothing wrong with making fun of white Christians. It's just like, come on, dude, it's getting old. It's like we've been doing it for a long time now.
But Joel, like, just like in the show, just like the game, he has to kill two guys, and he's going to go rescue Ellie. And this is the first time where Ellie, in both aspects, she can't rely on Joel because Joel doesn't get to her in time.
Yeah, and this stuff with David about to kill her, it's fucking great. is pretty spot on. And like I said, both of them. But then this whole thing of like Joel just waltzes into town in the show. In the game, there's definitely more of a conflict. Obviously, there's a middle ground. Have him just, have to kill one guy or something, not half a dozen every time. But this is the first time you find out that they're actually cannibals. You're like, oh, Jesus. And now you wonder, like, if that fucking meat that Ellie ate earlier is, in fact, human or not. You don't know. But a big difference here in the show and the game is, like, Ellie kills this dude with a machete and, he comes right inside, grabs her in the burning building, whereas in the show, she comes outside, kind of more collects herself.
Yeah.
And they kind of reconvene outside. And it's like,
but
I'm not saying one's better than the other.
Yeah, but they do show shot for shot comparison. She kills David the exact same way as the game in the show, and she brutally fucking
machete to the
rage,
head.
and like that's the part where I did give Bella credit for her acting because she mimicked. Yeah, she mimicked Ashley Johnson's arc, and inside the game, she's just rage and hatred and fucking beating David to death. You're like, oh shit.
Unfortunately, yeah, Max. I mean, there's no plants in this part of the show because it's all fucking snowy hellscape.
But that also, we have to do that too. The snow and all that.
Oh, greens the snow and shit. You do what? You do all kind of organic material like rocks and stuff too.
Oh yeah, all that, all the landscaping, all the scenic stuff, the dressing.
So it's just called greens, to be
funny. It's just a department.
Or is that something you'd call it?
Yeah, no, that's what it's called.
Okay. We're gonna call it the greens department from now on, bro.
Episode 8, I honestly, it's no complaints, really, just minor details.
At the beginning of this episode, I was worried about pacing, but by the end of this episode, I was like, okay, I'm not worried really. It's like we're on track to like wrapping up the show at the right time.
No, episode 8 is a very faithful adaptation.
We don't know. It's sus that there are no people responding to the fire, maybe because Joel murked them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, nobody's responding to the fire, and we see the size of the town with like a bunch of women and children. Whereas, like in the game, it just seems like it's a bunch of dudes. It's always just a bunch of dudes. There's no women and children in the game whatsoever, which would have made it more dynamic if you were like some of the raiders were women. It's like, yeah, kill them indiscriminately. They're all trying to kill you. Like, who cares? But in the show, they make it seem like all these poor people are like merciless hostages they're living under the rule of this Christian tyrant David, who's, they're all struggling together because it's a cruel winter. They got no meat. They got no crops, so they're eating people. It's one of those things.
Like Wes said, I did like David in the show. It was good acting. Yeah.
And in fact, all the best stuff in the second game is all the cannibal shit. The only redeeming stuff about the second game is all the cannibals. From what I've seen of passive knowledge of the game, not playing it, but like all that cannibal stuff is like interesting to me.
Yeah.
But any doubt of Bella's actressing? Go ahead.
It's like I'm reading what Wes was saying because he's like, any doubt of Bella's acting as she's in shock and can't articulate to Joel, then Joel holds her and says, "It's okay, baby girl." And much like the drinker would say, at this point inside the game, I feel like it was a lot more, I guess, impactful and earned because, like the drinker would say, we're 8 episodes in, and so far, I don't feel I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is, like I said earlier, it's like people understand the mimicking because he says it earlier and he says it then there, but it's much more earned, at the game when he's rescuing her from the hospital. I got you, baby girl, and they're doing like the expressive like symphonic music. Because in the show, I mean, we'll get into that in a second, but yes, as far as like, Bella is not. It's not like Bella Ramsey's not a bad actress. She's a great actress. She fucking kills in Game of Thrones. She was like one of the standouts in Game of Thrones. But like, I don't know if Wes was here earlier, but we were talking about how like in Game of Thrones, there's tons of beautiful people and ugly people. So a weird looking actress isn't as distracting. But when you have two leads, Pedro and Bella Ramsey, like my mother has said, like they're both like weird looking people, and you're just staring at them for like 90% of the movie or the show.
Can y'all see my dog back there?
No, let me fully screen you. Hang on. But as far as like, Bella Ramsey, she's a great actor. No, I don't.
You don't see him?
I do.
Murph. He's in there. Oh, I see him. I see his eyes.
Yeah.
Is that him? Murph.
Yes.
He looks like that. What's that? The toilet paper bear.
Oh, the Charmin bear.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, no, Wes isn't wrong with that scene. I feel like at that point, it's I feel like when he says baby girl, that's something in terms of the pacing of the show. If that was after 12 or 13 episodes, it would have felt a lot more impactful. Because as of right now, I just feel like because of episode 3 and episode 7, it felt very rushed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like again, three could have been one of those things, like I said, where we have this adventure with Bill and Ellie and Joel, and at the same time, while they're trying to get the battery out of the school bus, they're also going flashbacks and showing Bill and Frank. But like I said, my biggest problem, I don't know if Max wasn't here, but like I was saying, my big problem with Bill and Frank, like I said, they have this like these two gay guys get together and just create the perfect society, like this Wakandan type society where they're locked in, totally isolated from the rest of the whole world. They got all the resources. The fact that Joel and Tess show up. No, sorry. The fact that Joel and Tess go to dinner with them and move in or stay or, anything, like, come on, man. Yeah. Please let me stay here.
I'm gonna
we'll
jump
stay
off,
in that
guys.
house across the street. We'll be neighbors. Yeah, sorry, Max. Sorry we couldn't let you get a word in edgewise.
Oh, it's okay.
That was kind
buddy.
of another reason why I was glad that it was just yeah. I mean, it's okay, but I'm glad you popped in.
Hell yeah.
But no, but that's why 100%. I like people like Wes who didn't play the game because I do like the feedback. Because from his aspect, he's like, well, I've seen Ellie and Joel from this aspect, and I feel attached to them after X amount of episodes, and it's hard for me playing the game because it's like at this point going into episode 9, we're only seeing these characters for a couple hours versus like the game I've spent like 20 hours with these characters and shit. Like it's but
yeah,
it's good seeing different people. That's why I do like seeing people's opinions who haven't played the game, who've only watched the show.
No, and like I said, it's funny because like my Aunt Darla and my mother, they were loving the show and then they hated the ending. My Aunt Darla hated the ending. She said, I'm like, the ending's the best part.
Well, we're going up to episode 9, which is episode 9, the finale for the show. But now to the game, we're coming to the ending of the game.
I'd also like to say this has probably been the most like organized, Dorkside stream I've ever done. So thanks, man. I'm glad you're here. I think we have a good dichotomy because like you're very, you got a very chill voice and you're kind of analytical. And I'm very like, loud and stupid.
I've been hanging out with Dark Hour a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely because I'm looking at episode 9 right now. It's called Look for the Light. It's 54 minutes, and damn sure I feel like at this part in the game we have about 4 hours to 5 hours to go, and with the finale we're kind of rushing 4 hours of content into like 45 minutes. That's my
I mean, basically the big problem with this, the big difference is because like, and this stuff is all accurate. Where Joel and Ellie
it is.
Are, Ellie's distant. She's kind of not talking, and it's because she's like they're reaching the end of their journey.
On top of she's traumatized from fucking beating a guy to death.
That too. But it's been it's been a while, and she's killed before. But yes, I understand. But then we have the lovely giraffe scene, which was so perfect. My mother loved it. Everybody loves the giraffe scene in the Dream and the fucking show.
I give them credit because I initially thought because now with PETA and everybody, I thought it was a CGI giraffe because everyone's so scared. And they showed Pedro and Bella, they had an actual giraffe. And they just did right there, that back part, that's the same as the show. That's all green screen. But I was like, you guys used an actual giraffe in 2023. Holy shit. Like I was impressed.
It's so weird because it looks computer animated. I don't understand. Same thing with that bloater.
Yeah, like it freaked me out because I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, they had to use CGI. Then I watch behind the scenes, like, no, we use a live giraffe. I'm like, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the main difference between this episode, the finale of the game, to the finale of the show is like here, they kind of just like what happens? They encounter the giraffe and then they just happen upon the fireflies. I can't remember.
Off the bat, everyone was happy as hell to see Ashley Johnson's cameo as Ellie's mother.
Forgot to mention this expository stuff.
That's the open. My biggest criticism, and I gave some people laughed about this, is that okay, one of the guys at the end was like, hey, listen, everybody wanted to know for the longest time period what made Ellie immune. I'm like the drinker, and some people would say, we've talked about this. Sometimes over explaining is a bad thing, and nothing about The Last of Us, the show in the game, I don't give a shit why Ellie's immune for. She just is. She's just special. And the TV show tried making it where it felt like a very cheap rip off of Blade.
I literally hope that's not what they were trying to do, because like that was so stupid. I didn't even think of that. Like, oh, she got bit right when she was having her baby.
I'm like,
so
yes,
that's how she's immune. If that's really what they're doing, then fucking stupid.
That's what he said. They said this, and if you watch the after episode,
yeah, I'm glad I did it, because those would just pissed me off.
So this is now Ellie's immune because her mother was giving birth to her.
Blade.
I was like, has anybody seen the movie Blade? Really?
Blade.
It's
Blade.
And I feel like it's because we've all said this. Sometimes we're over explaining.
That's one of those things where I thought that was just like a dumb coincidence, and I was like, surely they're not literally trying to suggest. I didn't even cross my mind they were trying to suggest that. But hey, you're right. I'm sure a lot of people think that, and it's like that doesn't. Even if that explains it, that's a dumb explanation. You know what I mean? Like
before, whether it's Jason or Michael Myers or even the Joker, what makes a Joker so fucking dangerous is even Batman doesn't know his backstory. We don't need to know his backstory.
Backstories are overrated.
Why is Ellie the first person immune in 20 years? I don't know. I don't want to fucking know. Not because her mother was bit by a zombie while she gave birth to her.
But that's the other thing. People say backstory and they think we need to know the character's whole fucking life. No, we just need to know their motivations for what they're doing currently.
It's a new logic from Blade.
Yeah.
100% Wes.
Like as soon as I heard that, I'm like, Blade.
And again, and I'm not, listen, it was awesome seeing Ashley Johnson, and I did like the drama of seeing Marlene. Marlene later on says, I was there when Ellie was born. Marlene has to kill her best friend. That part's all well and good. It just, I feel like it was a cheap tack on to like, oh, this is why she's immune.
Yeah, like all that stuff with her being born and like her mother getting bitten. Like that's the thing. As I assumed she's bitten, so that means she knows she can't be the mother. So she's had the baby, she's been bitten, and now she knows that she die and someone else must raise the baby. That's kind of what that means to me. It doesn't mean like, oh, that's why the baby is immune. Why don't we have fucking pregnant people getting bit by zombies then, like on purpose? Like, why you're telling?
But also then also she lies to Marlene because then she gets bitten and cuts umbilical cord. She tells Marlene that I was bitten after I gave birth to my child.
You're right. They are explaining it. You're right.
They are over explaining it.
So stupid.
But okay, so that's the beginning. So yeah, we see Ashley Johnson. Let's move on.
That's such a great cameo that I'll allow it because.
Oh no, I had no problems with Ashley Johnson playing.
She's her own mother. You know, she plays her own mother. Yeah. Cool. I mean, that's a great cameo. It's like we can add that in just for the Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
but the thing is, guess what hurts it? This is a 54-minute episode. Right now, we are 13 minutes in until we see Joel and Ellie. So
the big problem is, so what happens after the giraffe in the show? Like they just encounter the fireflies, right?
Exactly. Actually, no. Yeah. The second we see Joel and Ellie, that's 20 minutes in out of a 50-minute episode. We already killed. After the draft, they're walking. And then, again, this is another thing, which hopefully sometime I'll talk to Wes about this. Now Joel tells Ellie the whole why he's half deaf for. And I watched this episode with my 15-year-old, and maybe my son's a different kind of person. He's like, Dad, why would, first thing my kid looks over, Dad, pause the episode. Why would Joel ever want to kill himself? Joel tells Ellie that, oh, the reason I'm half deaf for I got the scars because I wanted to commit suicide. And I'm like,
right, Jesus Christ.
When my teenager says, Dad, that's not Joel. I'm like,
well, see, there's a line in the show. I'm sorry, there's a line in the game. Drink every time I say show or game, and I mean the other thing. Fucking okay, like go back and there's like that's like 50 drinks right there. But anyway, there was a part in the game where they encounter like two dead bodies in a bathtub, two skeletons in a bathtub full of like black water. And it's like, it's in the hotel when they're trying to escape the hotel. And Ellie's like, so these people killed themselves. I guess they took the easy way out. And Joel, all he says is, believe me, it's not easy. Like it's better than having a clicker finish you off, but it's not easy. And that's all he says. And that's all it is.
And again, this is a character arc. Listen, I mean, I've lost a child later on, and I would never like demean anybody who lost a kid and went into massive depression or wanted to commit suicide. But that was my premise, is that Joel from the game never had any moments where he wanted to off himself, but at last second. So he says to Ellie that the last second I flinched and I missed. But like after Sarah died, I wanted to kill myself. And it's like, okay. I mean, I don't feel like it adds any more drama to Joel's character by saying
it does, but it's not like the right type of drama we want. It's emasculating, you know?
Yeah. So, but that was the extra tacked on line. And then the encounter of fireflies, which we are exactly, oh my God.
So how do they encounter the fireflies?
26 minutes in, they're walking the fireflies.
23 days, events a day off themselves. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I know it's like the worst thing ever. The statistics of that. And yeah, I mean, if anything, Joel would want to kill himself maybe years later after all the horrible shit he did, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, and Wes is right. I mean, that could be a big, long discussion. There are a lot of vets who kill themselves, but there are also a lot of vets who don't kill themselves. And it's like, it depends on the character arc. If this would have been Joel's character arc in the game, I would have been fine them adapting the exact same character. But
yeah, it's like you could tell that, like you said, like because Neil Druckmann was not involved so much in the first game, he's now getting to put his little stink, his stink all over.
Even the
it,
critical drinker says this is definitely softening Joel up for the second season of The Last of Us. It really is because everyone knows because The Last of Us Part 2 game, which the show is, it shits all over fucking Joel so bad.
To be fair, it would make his unceremonious death seem a little more. Hey, it's a guy who has panic attacks. You know, it's only a matter of time before someone got him. Joel seems like invincible in the first game. You know, especially because he kind of is because he can die 1,000 times and just come back because of save points. But you know what I mean. But what's interesting about the game? So we're approaching. This is like the final level. Final 2 levels. It's a final level divided in half. We have the zombie threat at the beginning half of this game, and then the human threat at the end of this level. And then we beat the game. Okay. And we don't realize we're approaching the end of the game. But when I say approaching, there's still a bit of gameplay left. But so we're about to get to where the fireflies are supposed to be. But before we do that in the game, we have to go through this tunnel. This tunnel is the final time we encounter zombies in the game, and they do not fucking hold back. Like we could have cut so much zombie stuff as long as we had this scene, because getting to the hospital is a nightmare. And like every resource you have bloaters, you have clickers. They've just been hanging out in this tunnel for who knows how long.
Yeah, we definitely skip all that. No, as Joel and Ellie are walking, they're talking to each other. They the fireflies come up behind them and they hit them with the
people who play the game should not watch the show. Yeah. Or you know, I just won't enjoy the show as much. I mean, again, this is like budgetary stuff. They cut this stuff for budgetary reasons because then they have to hog over this fucking bus. And again, this is like where the whole annoyance of Ellie not being able to swim, it comes into play right here thematically, because now the bus they're in fucking goes underwater and like Ellie basically, you know, has to fucking drown. And this is when they encounter the fireflies. And it's this great point where it's like hands in the fucking air. And he's like, he doesn't even care. He's like, she's not breathing. She's not breathing. He doesn't even care that they're at the Marlene. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like more impactful. And I hate to say it's better, but it is.
Yeah, it's in the show. They come up, they hit him with a flashbang grenade. They knock out Joel and Ellie. So
I remember. Flash grenade shows up out of nowhere, and they go.
So of course, and very similar, they wake up and Marlene's talking to Joel. So this is pretty much verbatim in the show.
The cordyceps grow in the brain.
Yeah.
But it grows all over the brain. Like it's like, and this is the thing in the game, this is the first time that's said out loud. I mean, it's up to us to kind of deduce that from what we're seeing. But like the word cordyceps isn't even said until this scene, you know? Yeah. And like we know there's some type of mushroom, and we know that they infect people through fungal spores, but like all this over explaining.
Yeah. So both interpretations come down to Marlene, because you're cutting out right now, dude. Both interpretations is Marlene talking to Joel and says that. Back.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's basically Marlene telling Joel that, listen, and this is something in the game. They said that there's a chance that Ellie could basically be the cure, the savior of humanity. In the show, it's kind of like it's a guarantee, which I'm like, okay.
Well, no, in the show they say it's a guarantee, but at the same time we see the scene with the blood magic not working, which is kind of like counterintuitive. But like in the game, they're very clear. Like Marlene is like, this scientist, he's going to do this. He's pretty sure. Like we have a scientist here, but it's like it's so fucked up because you know in the end that this scientist is the father of Abby.
I'll talk about that, but that's like, that was retcon. You know? But yeah, but this point in both of them, so Joel's like, so we have to do this emergency surgery, and basically to get the cure, we have to kill Ellie.
Do a total biopsy of her brain. I don't know if you know this, but you can't survive that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Joel's pissed off because Marlene's like, well, we put her to sleep, she didn't feel any pain. We have to do this, and he's like, you keep telling yourself that, you know, it's like
surgery's already happening. That's the best part. It's like ticking clock. Now the ticking clock. Fucking the final ticking clock of the story starts right now. But a big problem I had with the final scene was they put the montage in the wrong part. The montage, this is the big final action scene, the big final suspense scene. And this is in the game the first time you even get a fucking assault rifle, you know. So you get to unload all your wrath on some dudes.
Yeah.
And that scene was good, but because of the music.
And so, yeah.
Oh, am I cutting out bad? Sorry. Yeah. I don't know. I bought a little internet extender.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, what? I'll also point out. Sorry.
So.
People who have zombie fatigue now. Yeah. They didn't want when the game was released.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it's very similar. The only difference is obviously because you're playing a game. It's like Joel kills a shitload of people inside the game and the show, but in the game he obviously he kills more people. But it's the same. It's the same outcome.
But exactly, like there's definitely like the sense of danger right here up until you get to Ellie, because like he might not make it, and it's like you're fighting like military dudes, you're fighting these fireflies. And there's this sense of danger, but like I said, then you shoot the fucking doctor who turns out to be Abby's father, and then as you're running out with Abby in your arms, this is where you do the montage. This is where you do the music, and of course, like this stuff, everything after here is all pretty faithful. So faithful, actually, super faithful.
Yeah.
And basically, what's so funny is like
once this part from the show in the game, it's carbon copy. It's a perfect adaptation. Everything he says to Marlene.
I love that part where he's just like, you just come after her, and he shoots her without even fucking hesitating.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool because like, basically it's like before he shoots Marlene though, it's like he takes Ellie out of there. And of course, Ellie wakes up in the back of the car and she's like, hey, what happened and stuff. And Ellie and Joel in both the game and the show, he lies to her. He lies to Ellie about what happened because he gives a line of like, there were, it turns out like you weren't the only person that was immune. There was dozens of kids that were immune, all just like you. And the doctors couldn't find a cure. And even at that point, Ellie, she can tell in both versions that kind of lying his ass off.
But then like in the show, he lies a little too much when he says like, but then Raiders showed up and I had to save you and everyone's dead. It's like, okay, now I raise my both eyebrows at you, sir.
What Wes just said is 100% true.
My thoughts on the cure in 2020 with all the world resources, we couldn't make an effective cure for the flu, but ghetto doctors in the apocalypse can make a zombie cure. Yeah. That was one of the things about 28 Days Later, where one of the deleted endings, original endings was there was like a cure. They were talking about a cure and like Brendan Gleeson's character gets infected. And the original ending was like Cillian Murphy sacrifices himself because like the cure is you got to do a full blood transfusion. Every drop needs to get switched out and then you can get cured. So that Cillian Murphy has to sacrifice himself to save Brendan Gleeson to not be infected. But it's like one of those things where it's like, dude, this virus can infect you in 10 seconds with one drop of blood. How the fuck are you going to convince audiences that the cure works? This thing is like mushrooms growing out of your brain. How do you cure that? Even if you cured it, you would get a corpse.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not alive anymore because of the mushrooms in your brain, but now you're dead.
But after like Ellie he gets her change of clothes, they start walking back to Tommy's encampment, and then they show the flashback with Joe and Marlene, and it is a very powerful scene because even Marlene says in both aspects, she's like, Joe, she's like, after a while you're gonna start getting older, you can't protect her forever, and how soon before a fucking pack of clickers or a pack of raiders tear her apart.
Yeah, exactly.
And Marlene's not wrong, but Joel, and this has been so, Wes has obviously seen this as a non-gamer, but from gamers, the past decade, it's been why The Last of Us has been so legendary in gaming cultures, because what Joel's decision is for the past 10 years has been 50% of people are like, he was right. 50% of people are like, no, he's fucking wrong. And it's a moral question.
I think he's right. I think he was right to do what he did.
I'll wait for Wes to type this. Wes said this in our group chat. The something in college you go through, Wes, and about the whole moral dilemma of like is like what sacrificing one kid for like the greater good or something. And it's been a hot topic for the past decade. And I do respect the fact that the showrunners kept the ending exactly the same, because now we have people who didn't play the game. This moral question of Joel 10 years later is being reinvigorated, because
that's why I want to talk about it with my Aunt Darla, and people like that. It's like, you hated the ending. Why? And then when you start asking them why, they explain it and they're like, it's one of those things like after you play the game a second time or third time, you love it even more. It's like if you watch the show without playing the game, obviously. If you watch the show a second or third time, you'll like it more because the ending will make sense to you more theoretically. That's what it should do, because you know, I mean, that's the idea. It's like what I said is like you went through hell to save this girl, and now you find out they're gonna just slice her up like a guinea pig, and you don't even know if it's gonna work. But the fact that like I like to assume it would work, and it doesn't matter because like, you know, I love the kid. Doesn't matter. She, you know, one like the life of someone you love, like yes, one life for the greater good. You sacrifice one life for the greater good, but it's different when that one life is like your own child.
Exactly.
Your own child, you'll kill anyone to fucking save. You know what I mean?
Remember,
so it's like
when this game first came out, my brother-in-law, my nephew, now is he's 12, so he was about 1 year old, and my brother-in-law was like, dude, I would have did verbatim exactly what. Thank you, Wes, the Charlie problem.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law said, Chris, I would have did the exact same thing Joel did, but after the past 10 years and watching this recently with my girlfriend, I definitely had to talk about the moral dilemma of, technically speaking, Joel is selfish for what he did, because you are putting the life of one girl over the fate of humanity. However, I do understand why Joel did it, because if it was because it like West of the Charlie problem, it's like, is my son more important than 10,000 kids? In the grand scheme of things, no. But to me, my son's more important than 1 million kids.
Right. And the thing is, it's like 28 days later, or some of these other, 28 days later is bad, but like the world's already fucked.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, we can come up with a cure, but at this point, it's like, yeah, you could pull a switch on a trolley track to make a runaway train hit one person instead of 4. But yeah, I mean, yeah, of course you do that, because if you don't know any of these people, then yes. But if you know the one person, then no. I mean, it really is like a case per case basis. Also, like, what are these people? Who are these people? You know, like if I do know the person, but they're a shithead, then yes. You know what I mean? Like,
that's why, like, sometime me with you and Wes saw Swordfish with fucking Hugh Jackman and John Travolta.
Titties.
Yeah, but when fucking John Travolta gives Hugh Jackman that speech about sacrificing one child, and Hugh Jackman's like, yeah, you're right. What about one child? What about 10 children? What about 1 million children? And I love John Travolta in that movie. But that speech he gives to Hugh Jackman about the moral dilemma of sacrificing kids, it's like, that's some deep shit, man.
Yeah, and it's like, what if that one person was going to cure cancer and the 4 were pedophiles? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. How do you know? I mean, that's what I was saying. It's like case for case basis, and you don't know. But also, like, you know, like, what if the fact that like this person's shitty, but you save him and 4 people die to save him? What if that like sends his life in the right track? Like, what if he turns his life around? Because, you know, like, there's so many variables here. There is no right answer. That's the thing about these. It's like with the Kobayashi. Is that what it's called?
The Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, there you go.
See, that's one thing about the game that I felt like the game. I sided more with Joel because the game said it wasn't a guarantee, because Marlene says we may be able to cure this May, but the show, they make it a guarantee. So I feel like
they don't really, because did they actually say that it's guaranteed? No.
Let's say
they say, hey, we got a they say pretty much the same thing in the game. Like, we have a scientist who's doing research, and they think they can synthesize the cordyceps that are growing in her. They've mutated. We can synthesize them out of her and synthesize a vaccine. And it's like, it seems like she knows what she's talking about. But the problem with the show is they've already established, like, mixing the blood doesn't work. And I know it's not supposed to, but to the layman, it's just like that grain of doubt, just that grain of sand of doubt would be more than enough evidence for Joel to say, well, fuck it, it wasn't going to work anyway.
The thing Marlene says to Joel, it's 28 minutes in, she says that you produce a chemical messenger, it makes normal cordyceps think that she's cordyceps. It's why she's immune. He says he's going to remove it from her, multiply the cells in a lab, produce those chemical messengers, and she says, and then we can give it to everybody. So she's telling Joel that he thinks it could be a cure, Joel. So
yeah, it's not even a cure; it's a vaccine, which is even better.
Yeah.
You know, preventative. You know, but like you said, it's like Joel. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Joel has convinced himself that there's a 5% chance it won't work, so therefore everyone else needs to die. What's the fuck? And that's the thing, is like in the show, you're adding like a dozen bodies on this like pretty small top pile of bodies. Yeah. You know, he hasn't really killed a lot of people in the show. In the fucking game, it's like, what's another dozen people? Who cares? I've killed fucking 100 people so far, you know? I had to. So it's one of those things where, like, again, one of these things where it's like, I hate to say it, but like more brutality, more violence. It is heroic. It can be heroic to kill, especially if it's portrayed in a, you know, correct light, and if it's, you know, in the right circumstances, yes, it is heroic to murder. I'm sorry to say that. And it is heroic and stoic to be brutal and to be unflinching in your violence. And that's the thing. It's like, to be God tier, to be like king level, it's like you have to be capable of great violence and constantly deciding not to do it.
Yeah.
But
and this is why everybody be looking forward. People like the Critical Drinker, and even like Wes knows this, well, we're all Drinker fans. He made this video 1 year ago. Remember, the video says like Joel did nothing wrong and the importance of ambiguity, and Drinker did this whole 10-minute video of like why Joel's decision wasn't bad because of all the backlash from Last of Us 2, because Last of Us 2 makes Joel out to be the fucking villain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what Marlene says, if Ellie Cordyceps could fool the zombies, they would have ignored her during the attack, so there is no cure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's the other thing. The dogs didn't notice her. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, the thing is, like, they show, you know, they add certain things, and they choose to omit a lot of stuff. And like, granted, they are omitting a lot of action, but what they don't understand is by omitting that action and that violence and that murder, literally that murder, by omitting a lot of these murders, you're lessening the effect of this, I swear, at the end. Because at the end, like when you've gone through so much hell, like in the game, you've died 1,000 times. The game is hard, man. It's a hard fucking game. And every time I finish the game, I've played it like maybe 4 or 5 times all the way through. And every time I want to stand up and fucking clap. And at the end of the show, I definitely had more of this like feeling of relief that it wasn't nearly as rushed as I thought it was going to be, especially in the first 2 or 3 episodes. I thought we were going to be omitting a lot of like story-wise stuff. But
well, it comes down to Joel. Joel does, because she's like, swear to me what you said was true, and he says, I swear, and he's lying his ass off. But that's also the more question of like, I'm a parent, I know Wes is, and I'm not sure about you, Mr. Benzo, but you know, as a father of a 15-year-old, sometimes you have to lie to your kids.
For sure. And that's the other thing. Does Ellie even know he's lying? That's also up for debate.
I mean, everyone said like, I agree that I feel like she can tell that
she doesn't care.
Well, it's like, well, she's lying to herself to believe that he's telling the truth, but deep down she knows he's full of shit. But she's like, you know what, I gotta believe my dad.
They would rather live together happily in a lie than fucking, you know this horrible truth. And it's one of those things. Also, Ellie wasn't given a choice. They were out of time in combat. You have no time for a committee. Joel made the right choice, not without cost. See, this is one thing that me and Wes do agree about on the show. Finally, that Joel definitely made the right choice. 100%. Kill everyone who's trying to fucking. As soon as you find out that the operation is fatal, it's like after everything you went through, you crossed the goddamn country. You crossed a country over fucking 7 to 8 months. A zombie-filled Holocaust. Only to find out that she's going to get her fucking head biopsied at the end? No, I'm not going to do this.
And that's why I said, like, it's not me shitting on the show, because I do actually like a lot of the show. But as a Critical Drinker said, at this point now in the game, if you're going to play it through, skip away the gameplay videos and stuff, but playing through the game, you spent a good 15 to 20 hours with Joel and Ellie. And even the Drinker said, we're 9 episodes in, and take away the fillers and the stuff they've taken away. We're 9 episodes in. We've spent maybe 4 episodes with these 2 characters, so I understand that it doesn't feel as impactful as, you know, it is. Time is a factor, you know. Spending 4 hours for 2 characters versus 20 hours 2 characters, it's a difference of like, it feels, his decision feels that much more, you earned it when you actually play through the game.
Right. He also, Wes is saying, he lied so she would not have to carry that.
100%,
yes, exactly.
I agree with
exactly. You don't want to know, because also if you tell her the truth, she might fucking sneak out on her own. She might sacrifice herself for the greater good, you know? And it's like, he doesn't want her to do that. But for me, like in the game, like in the show, like the baby girl part at the after the burning Colorado resort, that's the part where he realizes like he loves her, you know, he's got to be with her. But for in the game, like if you really want to improve the show, like, and you want to do this panic attack thing right here, this is where he has a fucking panic attack, you know, as he's getting thrown out of the elevator. And he is kind of having a panic attack as he's getting walked out of those stairs. But at the last minute, he like takes control of the panic attack and fucking just lays waste to everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the part where he's like,
And that was
gonna get baby girl.
That was my criticism, and said one day I'll talk to Wes about this, that I was worried that because this episode 6 came out, we didn't get to episode 9 yet. I was worried that the panic attack, the PTSD Joel, if they would have kept that character arc, that character in episode 6 could not have done what Joel in episode 9 did. That was my concern. Is like, I was like, the hospital scene, are we going to see
the crying, you mean?
Well, I worried about, like, as we've seen Joel, and this was perfect copying the game, but it's like during the show, would he be having PTSD moments and hesitate and fucking up and messing up? Because the Joel inside the hospital scene, this is a Joel inside the hospital. So listen, he has no time for self-doubt. He's not doubting himself. He's not doubting his ability to protect Ellie. This guy is like Wes said, he's going fucking robot mode. He switched off. I'm gonna go save my fucking daughter. Nobody's stopping me. The Joel in episode 6 was, I can't protect this little girl. I'm a fuck up and a failure. Episode 9, Joel's like, no, I'm going to get this little girl. I'm going to kill as many motherfuckers as I have to get this little girl to safety. And that's what I was worried about when episode 6 aired. I was like, dude, this guy, that's like he said, he tells Tommy, I'm older now. I'm slower. I'm half deaf. I'm not as good as I used to be. That mindset will not get you to save Ellie at the end of the episode 9. So,
right.
Push now. What's the show?
I mean, I agree. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like Watchmen. It was probably like one of the better adaptations we could have hoped for. But yeah, it's just fucking shitty because we are just getting. So Wes hasn't played the first game. I assume he hasn't played the second game, so he doesn't know what's coming. But like, if you like this first season, you're in for some fucking shit, buddy. You're gonna. I can't wait to see. That's what I can't wait for. Is like I said, I've said it 3 or 4 times already. Like I can't wait for all these people who love the first season, haven't played the game. They're going to jump ship the second season because it's going to start being totally faithful. Watch how faithful the second season is. Watch how faithful and perfect and like extended. They'll do the full 15, 13. I think, did you say they're going to stretch it out on multiple seasons, the second game?
Supposedly, according to all sources, that now, of course, Druckmann says he wants to make season 2, game 2 into like 2 seasons. And I'm like,
now I haven't played the whole second game at all. Have you?
Did. Oh, yeah.
Now, is it a bigger game? Is it a longer game? I heard the mechanics are basically the same. The gameplay hasn't really improved.
It is. Like, it's
like I heard on a gameplay level, it's not even enjoyable sequel.
No, it's just, it's exactly. I mean, the only difference is, like, you can't deny the graphics and the mocap is even better, obviously, because it's improved. A sequel. But it's the exact same length. It's like there's no way the second game deserves multiple. It's if you're gonna fucking rob the first game of just 9 episodes,
all these awards,
they're the same.
Oh, Unforgiven and Logan, those are amazing. But I mean, Unforgiven and Logan, I mean. That's the kind of thing where it's like you have the guy unleash at the end and it's like it works. But like the thing is with Unforgiven and Logan, there isn't like the montage music, the wrap it up music isn't playing during the fucking conflict. The wrap it up music should be playing like after the final enemy has been vanquished and we're now walking out of the hill with the prize, That's the root, because like there's no danger whatsoever when the swelling orchestral music is playing and Joel is just mowing down people mercilessly.
Yeah. I would just say, because I do want to what's games come out now. I do at some point want to have a long discussion with Wes. When people say that, people mentioned in the past with Logan, I felt like with Logan, it's Wolverine was still Wolverine. His body was failing him, but his spirit stayed the same. And I felt like
Logan's one of the second best X-Men movie besides X-Men 2.
But it's like Wolverine was still Wolverine. He couldn't. Obviously, his body was fucking up. I feel like for me, game Joel to show Joel is like Luke Skywalker. It just. I don't know. I felt like Luke. That's why people hated Last Jedi.
It was only in certain episodes. I mean, you got to say it wasn't like the whole time. It wasn't like they totally ruined him. They definitely softened him up a little bit, and you soften him up here and there. It kind of softens him up all around, Yeah,
but then some people like the 5 people who liked the Last Jedi say, okay, well at the end, Luke finally became Luke when he came out and stood in front of the Empire and Kylo Ren. It's
just one of these things. It's like this trope where we want heroes and male protagonists, but they can't be. Stoic. Absolutely stoic and threatening and intimidating and dangerous.
Well, everybody,
sexy. I'm sure Wes
agrees. We all loved John Bernthal's fucking Punisher in Daredevil season 2 in his own show. Why is everybody so concerned about John Bernthal and Disney Plus getting hold of the Punisher? Because we all know they're going to water him the fuck down. It's like, we're not going to get the Punisher that we've seen in Daredevil season 2 and Punisher season 1 of season 2. In Daredevil, we've already seen what She-Hulk did at Daredevil.
It's kind of what they say about like, yeah, it's escapism, you know. I know these characters aren't realistic. These John McClanes, not even John McClanes, these John Matrixes, you know, these John Matrix type characters from Commando. These guys are so unrealistic. They don't work as characters in terms of like arcs and development, but God damn it, it's fun to see dudes who don't take no shit from nobody and they fucking just like they got it.
I know what Wes agrees. Well, I'm not sure you. So everybody just fucking watched John Wick 4. I didn't see John. It's like nobody watched John Wick 4 for the pure realism of how John Wick was, but it literally just broke franchise fucking records. And
I mean,
there's never
it is being marketed as the last one, right? So I mean, people are kind of like, gotta watch this one, you know.
But I never seen John Wick in Part 4 saying, you know what, Winston, I can't do this anymore. I'm too old. I'm too slow. I'm past my prime. I've been doing this for too long. John Wick was like getting incinerated.
They knew how to end it on a bang. But the thing is with the other stuff with the I agree. People who played the game should not watch the show. Yeah. But that's the thing. Is like if you'd played the Mario game and you watched the Mario movie, I'm not talking about the new one. I'm sure the new one's going to be good.
Yeah.
Good-ish. The Sonic movies.
I think Sonic 2 was fucking Jim Carrey. Oh my God.
I just got around to watching them because you guys had recommended them.
I love Sonic 1 and 2.
It was either you or Dark Hour was like praising the shit out of them. Dude, and I was like, I'll check it out.
I own them both. I love them both. I think they're great.
Would you say that's a better video game adaptation than this?
Oh man, that's hard to tell.
Because they're so different, you know, radically. But just like on a base sensory level, like obviously I'd assume this is better because Sonic seems silly.
Technically, Sonic isn't a good adaptation in a sense because Sonic is in our world. In the Sonic games, he never enters our world.
You know what I mean? So it's like they do like a good like little kind of like the Lego movie where Sega, he lives in a video game world until now.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. No, it's like you said, people, before Wes joined this, that, you know, Last of Us, in terms of adaptations, these guys, and anybody can YouTube this, they have copied verbatim side by side fucking shots right from the game. So it's like there's certain adaptations that are in certain scenes that are fucking perfect. That's why.
Plus, like, this will be the first video game adaptation to even be nominated for like awards, let alone maybe win some, you know?
Well, it is. But Wes seen this in the group but overall, this is, I never expected out of any IP to come out there, The Last of Us to be so toxic because it's either one extreme or the other extreme. If you criticize it at all, you're a piece of shit. But it's like, it's either the greatest thing ever made or the worst thing ever made. And I'm like, no, it's like,
I agree.
I think I still, as somebody,
I definitely appreciate Wes watching and giving his feedback while he's at work. It's awesome.
Like I said, I mean, my girlfriend watching that episode, she liked it, and I actually liked watching. I did like watching this show with her and with my son. There wasn't one episode where I disliked. I didn't dislike any episodes. I had criticisms, but there wasn't one episode where I'm like, dude, this is shitty. Because I've seen people as in Hill's versus Babyface, guys, episode 6 is shit. I'm never gonna finish this show. I'm like, it's not that bad, dude. I still like 7, 8, and 9.
I didn't say this earlier. I was trying to say it, but the thing about these as dudes and some of these like fandom menace type guys, some of them, like they really like, it's like you think like they don't want anything to be good. Otherwise, like they feel like their YouTube audience is going to dwindle if they're praising stuff. They got to be shitting on things.
I've already watched the Drinkers review of Last of Us, and as usual, this is why Drinker is my favorite guy on YouTube, because like me, I think he is as fair as possible. And a Drinker, he did like it, but he also criticized it. And even Mahler told me, he's like, I do like the show, but Mahler's like, I think the game is better. And that's that's the fairest assessment. In the West, there's so many fucking books out there. People have said, whether it's Terminal List or Reacher, Invincible, The Boys, we can be here all fucking day. People have said, hey, Walking Dead, I like this show.
Walking Dead is so fucking inferior compared to this. All right. I'll tell you, Walking Dead sucks, man. It's so drawn out and long and morose and
But I mean, I met people who said, like, whether it's Stephen King, how many Stephen fucking King books are really shit, but the movie's better, or the movie is better than the book? Exactly. Yeah. So no, I think The Last of Us, this is a overall step in the right direction.
Yeah. The debate is this show fair, good, or excellent? The debate isn't like, is this show shit or awesome. You know, it's like, is it fair? Is it good? Or is it excellent? It's one of those three. It's not like garbage. I definitely wasn't like I said, like even like the Frank and Bill episode, like me and my mother liked it, but we definitely weren't crying during it. Me and my mother were like kind of laughing during parts of that episode, but it still had the same, you know, still had some good positive impact. But once you find out Bill's dead at the end, you're kind of like, oh, that was kind of a waste.
But I think what Wes said, Wes is pretty accurate. And I would say that anybody, I've known friends that say, Chris, I didn't play the game. I want to watch the YouTube videos. I do think that if you watch the show and now go watch a gameplay walkthrough video, you will appreciate the story more because it doesn't feel like, because we both said it. This is not an episode.
I'm not a fucking gamer, Wes. That's the thing. It's like, I'm just a guy who loves movies, who played The Last of Us. Because if you like movies, you should play The Last of Us. That was what I was told back in the day. And it was one of those things where it's like, this would be a great movie. And it's like, to do a faithful adaptation, it's like, it would be surprising to the gamers. We would all be praising it and shocked about how amazing it is. And, but then on top of that, it's like the people, the soccer moms who don't play games, they would get the same experience pretty much, because replaying the game has a fucking rewarding experience, you know, just on the story level. It's a good game, man. It's a good story. It's a good setting.
It is.
It's a great ending. It's a great character arc.
I overall, as somebody who played the game on PS3, PS4, and PS4 Pro, the biggest mistake they made was 9 episodes.
We banned 10 members of this group because of arguing over the show. Were they specifically arguing over episode 3 about like why the gays are?
Yes,
probably.
We talked about West. It's like, that's like people. Even
I got nothing wrong with the gays. I got no problem with the gays, guys.
I was honestly shocked as well at how many people were pissed off by that episode. I'm like, my issue is like, I don't care if it was Frank and Bill or just Bill and Tabitha.
I assume Frank and Bill were gay in the game, but we didn't need to spell it out.
Well, no, that's it. If Bill was with a woman, it was a point that my criticism was like giving a 10-minute character a 50-minute arc. That's all.
Especially like it would have made sense if Nick Offerman showed up at the end of the episode. All right, now Nick Offerman has joined the ranks and they're going to go on an adventure to get the battery. That would have made it so much more rewarding. Because then when you find Frank's hanging body at the end, you'd be like, oh no, you know. But also like the whole murder suicide thing, suicide packs. Yeah, I don't really get down with the suicide packs, you guys. Like if you're dying of cancer, I will put you out of your misery. And even if you're my wife, I love you, but it's like, I must go on. Human perseverance. And that's like the point of The Last of Us. That's the name, the title, The Last of Us.
It is.
We must endure. We must go on.
It is weird though, like, because Wes was saying about arguing and stuff. Just out of every adaptation I've seen, whether it's video games, comics, books, TVs, movies.
Someone's always going to call it trash.
Well, no, but about everything I've seen though, the amount of fucking like vitriol is for The Last of Us. I never thought The Last of Us would be a thing where we're banning people who want to have discussions, because we can talk about books and comics all fucking day, but why The Last of Us? Even video game? I don't know.
You understand? You guys run a Facebook page that's already been nuked. So, like, I understand you guys are like hesitant around certain buzzwords or trigger words and certain like rhetoric will get the page nuked. So I understand that you probably got a zero tolerance on that kind of shit. Also, I understand, like, you know, we're in the middle of a culture war. We've been in the middle of a cultural war since fucking 2016, and certain people, like, it's okay. Like, I don't know. It's like a fine line between criticizing this stuff correctly. I hate to say that word, but like, besides, you know, there's certain of these, like I said, we're talking about Az's and some of these other guys, like, they're just reactionary. Their job is to be negative. Their job is to shit on shit. Their job is like, oh, you know, misandry, reverse racism, you know, and I understand, like, I'm not saying that stuff isn't happening, but also it's like, don't, you know, you're bringing it up in the wrong places here, you know?
Yeah. Like the drinker would say, take something like Velma. Velma is universally unified the internet. Everyone hates Velma, but then like the Little Mermaid, Little Mermaid's getting 5 million downvotes. It's weird how certain adaptations everyone hates. The Little Mermaid.
I shared that caricature of that poor girl, and I was like, the internet is not going to be kind to this lady.
Even my sister said, and Wes doesn't know my sister. My sister, her favorite film of all time is Little Mermaid, and she's like, Chris, I just turned 40 years old, and she's like, it's my favorite film of all time, and she's like, I feel so bad for this young actress Halle Berry, because the shit she's gonna have to go through because of this. And
again, it's like, if you don't want a fucking weird looking girl to get made fun of, don't hire a weird looking girl to be in the fucking star of your show.
Symbolism, symbology.
I hate to say that.
Yeah, I'm drunk.
Chris knows how to use vitriol, but doesn't know symbolism and symbology are different.
Fucking, I just Google it.
So funny. Well, symbology would be like, subtle, like subconscious, like masonry images, Pizzagate stuff you see in the background of shit. That's symbology. Symbolism is like metaphors and meanings and moral lessons you can take from broad stories. Am I correct? I'm guessing here.
That's what I love Wes for. Wes fucking, he's one of them guys where just he has no problem keep people in check, and yeah.
Wes, I was joking earlier. We were talking a long time ago, a few months ago. Someone was joking about live action Duke Nukem. Who should play Duke Nukem? I was like, this guy, Wes Kelly. I don't know if you guys know him, but he should play Duke Nukem. Fucking A. Put a cigar in his mouth and some sunglasses, give him a flat top. Yeah. There it is. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of his great lines? Like, I mean, greatest line from Thiv. But he's got better lines, I'm blanking here because I'm not gonna lie. I did so much, like, I don't want to say research, but I definitely like did a cram session last night on The Last of Us. Like after me and my cousin watched Encino Man, and then I started just like taking all those stupid screenshots we went through. And I also watched all of your videos, which are great. I hope to see your episode 9 with your lady friend.
Yeah, hopefully tomorrow. So definitely when this was first announced, like I seen a picture of Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, and because of the history of video game adaptations, I did expect it to be total fucking dog shit. And no, I will say, jokingly, not jokingly, 9 episodes, I did enjoy most of it. I mean, I have criticisms, but I would tell anybody who didn't play the video game, go watch Last of Us. I did have a fun time watching the show.
Oh, the reason why we banned 10 members was they would not shut the fuck up about the game versus the show. A lot was undercover homophobia and incel bullshit being chronically online. Yeah, I understand. I mean, that's the thing. Is there a fine line? There's a fine line. And it's one of those things where usually I'm the guy who didn't read the book. Usually I'm the guy who didn't play the fucking video game. I didn't play The Witcher. I don't fucking know, but this is one of the few times where I did do the source material. So, and like it's impossible to not compare it to the source material, no matter what the adaptation is. If you're one of the people that knows the source, it was like, dude, my friend Tony was so excited when they were turning Game of Thrones into a show. I remember him telling me about it a year before it was a show. He's like, dude, they're turning my favorite book series into a show. I can't wait. And then he was watching it, and I didn't even get into it until like season fucking 5. And he was already into it for 5 years because like that was 5 years later after he told me he was excited about it. But then watching the show, I would play Duke Nukem as an aging tortured vet with PTSD. And like Duke Nukem legacy. Duke Nukem's got to turn his daughter into the new Duke Nukem, raise her to be the new Nukem.
As he's drinking soy lattes and vegan milk and shit, and like.
It's like that scene in RoboCop 2 where they fucking reprogram him and make him like all, super polite. There's like the little leaguers like robbing the store and he does nothing, but then there's a guy smoking and he fucking like opens fire on him. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it always comes down to whenever you do adaptations at anything, books, video games, comics. Like I know sometimes Wes, like the guy Gary Nerdrotic triggers him, but Gary has said that he's a massive fan of the Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. He's bragged about it endlessly. But he's like he knows pure Tolkien fans who've read them books front to cover, back to back, that totally hate the Peter Jackson trilogy. And
well, the reason why I understand why here's the thing, I understand why the Tolkien nerds don't like the Peter Jackson show, because he turned the Peter Jackson, like this is the exact opposite of The Last of Us, where it's like they dulled down the action quite a bit. Peter Jackson totally amped up the action. He turned those books into action, because in the books, I don't know if you've read the Lord of the Rings books, but it's just like pages and pages of expository information. It's like, now we meet the elves. Here's all the elves' language and where they live and what they dress like and what they look like. And it's just like, I was obsessed with Tomb Raider since 1996. Oh, back when the old triangle titties. I didn't bleed from my man pussy when it was ruined in 3 films. Just saying. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, I'm the same way with the Man of Steel movies. The fucking Superman movies suck my balls. I hate them. I'm the hugest fucking Superman fan. Man of Steel, Superman's my boy. But
And I
It's
met
like one of
people
those
who
things
love
where
Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who love Man of Steel. It's like,
Oh yeah, and I've definitely talked to these people, and for me, it's like it's the Kevin Costner scene, the tornado scene. That's the problem. If that scene had been changed,
I
where
agree though.
have him survive the tornado,
Yeah.
you save his ass, and then he dies like of a heart attack fucking years later. But Gary needs to. Yeah, I agree. I don't like Gary and Nerdrotic and the Phantom Menace dudes. I'm Comicsgate. Ethan Van Sciver, John Malin, Cecil, that Star Wars girl. I love those dudes.
Yeah.
Those guys are my crew. When it turns to like and Critical Drinker, I don't ever watch his live streams. I loved his happy hour, not a happy hours. The where they talk about the specific movie.
Yeah.
Happy hours. I love the happy hours, but the on taps. Like I loved Mahler, but like I do not have the time to watch the EFAPs. They're too long.
No, I don't.
I want to watch the EFAPs of The Last of Us now that we've done this.
Oh.
I didn't want to get too versed on other people's opinions before I did this. I kind of just wanted to watch your videos, kind of refresh my memory on the game, which I'm glad I did because, dude, it was crazy. Yeah, Lord of the Rings books are dry as my grandma's vagina. The movies rocked. Exactly. Yeah, the books are just... like I said, you meet the trolls, and it's just like, oh, the trolls and their history. And
that's what it always comes down to. It comes down to anytime you adapt anything, it's like, how many fans can you please? You can't please everybody, and it's always it's always opinionated. But I feel
it's just why we got to do original shit. It's just why we have to do original shit. Batman tore Soup's a new asshole. Batman versus
he really did. Yeah.
But then, of course, all you had to do was just say the word Martha at him, and it's just like so weird. And dude, the fucking most disturbing fan base I've ever seen are these Snyder Bros, who are like,
I definitely agree.
He's got a grand vision to at least 5 movies. Like they're looking at the statue, the fucking poster. First of all, they're doing like some weird Comic-Con event where they're gonna fucking charge a bunch of nerds overpriced money to screen the fucking Zack Snyder extended movies, and it's like. No offense to anyone who likes those movies, but like I fucking hate them. You get Superman wrong 3 times, and it's literally because of that tornado scene.
That's one thing, like you said, you can talk about like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers says like, guys, I respect anybody who loves the Snyder films. I fucking hate the Snyder films, and so
Jeremy likes those movies. That's the thing. It's like I don't, I used to watch Jeremy and back when like him and World Class Bullshitters and Jesse and Cecil and Ethan, they always used to do the High Council every Tuesday, talk about Star Wars bullshit. This was like right after The Last Jedi. Yeah, everyone was like trying to make sense of it all, and every Tuesday we do the fucking streams. Oh, those were so fun. And then around the pandemic, like the Phantom Menace kind of broke up. Drinker and Mahler are great. I love Mahler.
I honestly 100%. I've listened to because I know Wes said the last it was open bar. He had Gary on and the guy from Midnight's Edge. Chris Gore popped in the last half hour, and every time Chris Gore comes on to Drinker's Open Bar, I love Chris Gore. Like Chris Gore, he amped up John Wick 4 for me that much more.
And Chris Gore is that gray-haired like fat guy who's like a professional movie critic, right?
Oh my god! But he just like Chris Gore.
I love him.
Yeah, exactly. The way he was amping up 2 weeks ago, John Wick 4, and after seeing John Wick 4, I'm like, Chris Gore he's fucking awesome. I like Chris Gore.
One guy that I keep talking about who's not involved in any of these live stream circles, he's like solitary, isolated in this circle of YouTubers, but Collative Learning, I keep bringing him up. He doesn't do any live streams or anything. He's all just like pre-recorded, like he does transformative analysis where he'll be like, dude, like his video, like I saw his video on the Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and how it's all about just female jealousy. And just like every other movie is just like the metaphors, the symbolism, like fucking Wes likes to say. It's so insane, dude.
I think overall YouTube is becoming this thing where you're not going to agree with everybody on everything, but it comes down to try to find people that you agree with and trust. And so far, I've been lucky enough with a Critical Drinker. I have agreed on every one of his videos, but Wes, like we bust balls, but I have said this in the highest regard. Whenever Wes has ever said, Chris, watch something, no bullshit, 100 out of 100 times the guy is spot on. Like he said, Chris, watch Banshee, fucking fantastic. Chris, watch Reacher, fucking fantastic. Chris, watch Mayor of Kingstown, fucking like Wes is so far 10 out of 10. Everything he's recommended to me, I'm like, this guy knows his fucking television.
Yeah, man. And that's the other thing is like, the thing about YouTube for me, I mean, right now, the idea of making money off YouTube is so like far removed from my brain. Right now, it's just like you have unlimited storage space on this platform. If you get 100 subscribers, you can basically put hundreds of thousands of hours of video onto this website for free.
Yeah.
So what the fuck am I doing here? I'm going to use every fucking bit of bandwidth I can here. I mean, this is like, I'm not going to waste money. You got fucking servers. Dave Cullen. Is that the guy from, is that Uncle Joey from Full House? No, it's Dave Coulier. Sorry.
I've heard a couple of Dave Cullens. He's pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I love collative learning, and I love, Drinker, obviously. That's how I know all you guys are a Drinker fan page. And then Mahler's great. Like his like I've said this before in our group chat, like the Mahler one-off film analysis, the 9-hour Black Widow video, it's like legendary. He's like God tier, dude. I don't understand the time, the effort, the fucking, what does he do? I mean, you see a picture of what Mahler looks like in real life, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's got a fat voice. It's funny they call him. It's funny they call. Oh, he's a big, fat, bald, blonde British dude, pale.
Wait, how's he blonde? How's he blonde or blonde and British and bald? Like, he's bald.
Yeah. He's got like definitely the receding hairline, short hair, like the square-shaped face, head,
Jesus,
cube head. But it's one of those things where they call him the long man. But like when you hear, like, as a fellow fat man, I can hear fatness in voice. I can hear it. Yeah. Like he sounds extra nasally, like he snores very bad, like he probably has sleep apnea. And but he's got a great deep voice, and it's sexy and it's cool. But he's one of those. That's why he's never gone on camera on all the years, because he's not good looking. You know what I mean? He's a weird troll looking dude. It's one of those things where if you saw what Mahler looked like, you would lose respect for him a little bit. Because it's like, no offense to bad looking dudes. This is why I'm always on cam, because I don't want you to be thinking I'm fucking good looking for my velvety voice.
I've said it for longest, and definitely agree with Wes with this and the Critical Drinker. Out of everybody, I do like these guys in spurts, like whether it's like Friday Night Tights because I'm at work all day, or like Doomcock. But I think that everybody out there is that he's not reactionary, he's not biased. The Drinker, hands down, which is why he has the highest subscription count. He's by far the most fair.
But to me, this is why like Drinkers, like his live streams are, because like he's, your live streams are fun, but it's like for me, for a live stream, like you got to be fucking funny. Like you got to be cracking jokes all the fucking time. Cecil's hilarious. Ethan Van Sciver, that motherfucker is one of the funniest fucking guys I've ever fucking heard. He's born for radio, and he's a comic book guy.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing with me. People tell me, like when I'm just talking to them at parties, they're like, "Do you do stand-up comedy?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Like, I just talk.
I am Mahler.
Spoiler, I am Mahler.
That's a fucking Wes.
I'm gonna start working on my Mahler impression so I can like.
Well, I've said it for the longest time period. YouTube's a fucking, and Drinker said himself in endless live streams. I listen to every one of his. That the fact that you don't have 10,000 people watching right now. Even he says, Drinker's like, guys, I don't understand this. I'm doing it for as long as I can. Who knows, man? I've seen people on YouTube have fucking 3 million subscribers and nowhere near as funny or as articulate as Drinker. How they have 3 million subs, I have no idea. It's
I mean, usually what happens is you get lucky with some like random short video. This is why like I'm not even trying to get viral until like after I have like 40 watches in the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to be like, oh, this guy has a funny video, and now it's like, I've watched all of his content in half a day. Like I said, it's like I know me and Russ have talked about it where it's like there's no right way to do it. Everyone's got their own plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's like, because I know how much time and effort goes in these short videos you guys make. Like a 6 minute, like me doing these 4-hour lives takes way less effort and time than make a 6 minute fucking super edited, tight, review video.
I agree with Wes.
If not for the Drinker in the group, I would have never gotten on YouTube and never met Chris Dark Hour. Yeah. So like, that's the thing is like, I started getting into it right before The Last Jedi. It was Comicsgate, the your boy Zach videos, talking about the comics book stuff. The Milkshake Grew and Heather Antos and all them. And then I started hearing about Ethan Van Sciver because they were talking about how he was a Nazi, and the guy is basically like a fucking show tunes aficionado. You know what I mean? He's just like a weird old timey guy. He's like not a fucking racist bone in his body. He's a very nice guy. And then right around that time, the Gotham pizza vandalism incident happened where Ethan Van Sciver was signing some autographs there, and the building was like damaged. Some windows were smashed, and as a response to that, because Ethan Van Sciver is a Nazi. And then right around that time was when The Last Jedi had come out, and like I was like looking for sense in it all, and I started watching these hilarious videos of a guy who was talking about The Last Jedi and why it sucked, and he'd also done a great video about Superman. It turns out that he was a professional comic book artist, and it turns out that it was Ethan Van Sciver, the guy that they were talking about. I was like, oh. Wow. And then shortly after that, it was like stumbling upon Cecil and that Star Wars girl, and then Critical Drinker just kind of, I don't even know how he popped up in, but then like shortly after that, Baller. It's just like, you know, you just start finding people that are like, you're not alone. You know, these movies are terrible. Where do I come to? Who do I? It's like a support group. Yeah, it's like It's like our fight club. You know, our support group for men.
It's what Wes just said. Drinker meeting West, and eventually Dark Hour Russ, and that's what I told Russ a million times, that, you know, and not even just being a friend. I truly feel like, like most people, the more videos he's doing, he's getting better, funnier. He's finding his fucking niche. And I do want to see Russ hit like 10,000 subscribers. Will he? YouTube's a funny algorithms. I've seen people that don't have a fraction of Russ's talent have fucking like 10 times his subscribers. It's a weird system.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing where it's like, you know, it's easy to get discouraged, but it's like, it's one of those things where you just keep at it, and and you know. Oh, I thought I was crapping out for a second again.
Yeah, you were.
We
mentioned comments
like for a minute, but I was like,
every time we do live stream with fucking Wes has me laughing my ass off. Like even in group chat, I'm laughing. So it's like, but I mean, what's the system to having? I've seen people like I watch sometimes Friday Night Tights. You get
how long have you guys known each other in terms of like, you know, time?
I mean, at least 2 years, if not 3 at this point. But maybe it's
I got into the fold just very recently because I was like, you know, I should start following these pages on Facebook, you know, like, like,
I mean, I joke, but like Wes is one of the guys where you ever have that friend where like you known a friend for 6 months, you feel like you know him a decade. Wes is one of the guys where it's like I feel like I've known Wes for 10 times longer than I've actually known him. It's just because we had that camaraderie and stuff. But same thing with Russ now. I've been talking to Dark Hour for only a matter of months, but it feels like I've known the guy for like 5 years.
I mean, same. I mean, like you know, just starting getting on these streams, and you know, like I said, me and him are going to do bits, and that's another thing. It's like Boogie Nights is it's almost 25-year-old movie. You know what I mean? You know,
I'm flat,
and it's like you couldn't go to a bar or a fucking party and be like, hey, who wants to talk about Boogie Nights right now for 3 hours? Like that movie came out 20 years ago. I don't want to talk about that. You know? Like. But no, it's like with this shit, it's like, dude, let's make a date. I'll go in my man cave and you go in yours, and I'll pour myself a big drink, and we'll just fucking just jerk off and talk about fucking Boogie Nights for fucking 4 hours.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, Dark Hour was awesome. That's something too. Is like, and I noticed that, and this is why I keep saying the Drinker inspires me, because you never see drinkers saying, "Oh, I'm pissed off that Gary hit 600,000 subs or more hit like 300,000." And I'm the same way. I want Wes.
When I see Dark Hour getting 50 more subs, I'm like,
I'm happy as fuck.
Potential subs for me, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not even thinking like that. It's just like, dude, it's like, you know, everyone in our group is just like, it's all just like a group party, you know. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, today the party's on my fucking house. Today the party's at my house. Tomorrow the party will be, you know, somewhere else on, you know, fucking June. Yeah, what's it? What month is it? The 4th of April. There we go. That's what month we're in. That's when I'll be on Dark Hour's channel talking about Boogie Nights, and you know, and he's talking about some other. I was watching Rocky Marathon, and one of the Drinker's early videos. Yeah, the Rocky video is good, where he almost unrecognizable critiques Rocky. Then I found a group, and
100%.
Tom recruited me,
and I've said that we all joke about the Drinker, man. Watch videos from 5 years ago to today, and you can see the fucking progression in his quality. Same thing with Russell, and even myself. Like I mean, I'm still going on 1 year, but even I can hear my own, you know.
Nice. I won't read that out loud.
Oh yeah. I mean, giggity, but
yeah, but it's good that we got this, like, you know, this party. And that's the great thing about YouTube. It's like my end goal isn't even to like, get 1 million subscribers and get a bunch of YouTube money. It's like, dude, hopefully maybe I'll get on the fucking Drinker stream. Like that's really like where I'm thinking, like maybe one day I'll get invited on the EFAP stuff or that's, you know, one of the Jack shows. To get invited on the Jack show with Cecil and Anna and all them would be so fun.
That's why I think the most realistic thing is because, you know, I mean, we're all older people now that none of us, you, me, Wes, nobody here is 15, 16 years old.
I have a job.
And
you know what I mean? I'm doing this shit for fun, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care.
That's what Drinker said. Drinker's like, hey, listen, Drinker, come on, the guy's pushing 40. He's like, I never thought 5 years ago I'd ever have a fucking million subscribers. I think if you go in with the mindset of like, have fun, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. And the thing is, even if it doesn't, like, I have such a fucking already just in this fucking year of doing these We Watches videos, I have such a I know how to like, I can edit videos. Here's my resume. Look at these stupid shits I make on the fly. Like, it took me 8 hours to record, edit, and release the Relic video. Like, you know, I mean, that seems like a long time, but really, grand scheme of things, it isn't.
Yeah. No, 100%. Every time like Dark Hour and West, I'm asked to join something. I'm never just like, oh God, I have to fucking log on. I'm excited as fuck to log on.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about also networking. It's like everyone's got their own talents. Like, for instance, you have the voice, man. You got such a smooth voice. I would love for you to do. Oh yeah, and you're a great drinker. You got the alcohol connoisseur. Like with me, like, dude, if you ever need some like intro video nonsense or like a PNG or a logo, like fucking dude, knock me out. Hit me up, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I can knock that shit out real quick if I'm not working, you know.
But Wes has got the fucking comedy. I'm telling you.
Yeah, right. Wes is definitely like the wild card. I like his, no, for real.
Yeah.
Like I would like to think that I am the, I'm a wild card to a lesser degree. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here to fucking have fun. I
definitely think that Russ Dark Hour is the most organized, but even see Wes sometimes in group chat busting my balls. Like, I'm the unorganized drunken douchebag, but Russ he knows how to fucking pilot the ship. Yeah.
I would be like the point man, dude. If you tell me to do something specific, I can get it done. If I say something, I'll do it by a certain day. I'll do it, man. I'm one of those guys. I can figure out how to do it, And for me, it's like I just like to, I've been in this culture war. I've been in the paint, arguing with my friends about fucking Star Wars movies longer than most of y'all. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, I remember just talking about the early Man of Steel movie, like just that being such a huge deal for me.
Yeah. Wes said, you better chat with us tomorrow.
Yeah. What's going on tomorrow? There's something Tuesday.
I forgot. I asked Wes. I'm drunk.
There's another drinker, another on tap, right? A dork hour.
I can't remember.
Is that right? Let me look it up. Because I want to get everyone, because I mean, obviously, I put blue collar. I put your name.
Wes is gonna kill me. You forgot you idiot. Yep.
Oh no, there is one tomorrow. Yes, I did say I would be there too. Sure, I'm here.
I'll try to remember.
Was I supposed to be invited? I mean, if I'm not invited, I won't come. But I mean, if you send me the link, I'll show up. No problem. That's the thing about me. It's like I have I work from home, and I don't really work hours per se. I have deadlines, and I'm very good at meeting my deadlines. So it's very easy for me to pop in on a fucking stream randomly for a few hours because, I don't care. But yeah, send me the link to StreamYard, man. I'll pop in, man. I'm always available. And like, like when Dark Hour was like wanting to do a one-on-one movie with me, I was like, you name the movie. And first movie he suggested, Boogie Nights. I'm like, I'm down.
And also, before we head out, because it's getting almost 4 hours, he even says, like, hey, Chris, don't take it personal or get mad that because so far we've done everyone together. I said, dude, by all means, if you do it with Stupenzo, I'm not being chapped like, Russ, you piece of shit. Why didn't you invite me for? Like,
nobody else came in here tonight. I don't fucking care. It's like, no big deal. And if someone did, it's like Max, I felt sorry for Max because like, that was kind of what I was saying earlier. Is like I was kind of glad it was just me and you for a while because like me and you can fill up the fucking 4 hours. We don't need fucking 4 other people that were just like yelling over, like because like I said, I would hate it. It would have been awkward if it was just like us explaining to Max, you didn't play the game. Wes, Wes was the one like arguing with us, like you guys are comparing it too much to the game. It's like you're right.
That's what I like about Wes because he can keep me in check. But so in terms of the whole Boogie Nights thing, honestly, I haven't watched Boogie Nights in so long. And I said, Russ, I'm going to be in chat watching you and fucking with you guys. But I said, dude, by all means, do as many as I'm always going to be there to support everybody. It's not like, oh, well, it's you and Stupenzo and I'm jealous of you guys. No, have fucking fun. I'm be with you guys watching.
No, exactly.
So.
And exactly like it definitely like I always watch my, you guys, the streams after the fact that I'm not involved in. I always just, anytime a stream's happening that I'm involved in or want to see, I just save it in the CG playlist. And I have, I've got like right now, I've only got like 5 in the queue that I haven't watched yet, which is good. Sometimes like when I go out of town, I come back into town and I've got like 15 like 4-hour podcasts I have to watch. It's like, Jesus, plus like all the little 20-30 minute videos from like the people I follow, it's like, but I definitely binged through like most of your channel last night. It's good stuff, man. Yes, tomorrow, Chris, you wet brain. Yes,
he's not wrong.
I know I had mentioned interest in going to this in the CCP page, but
last time he mentioned me doing too much marijuana. It's between marijuana and alcohol.
I'm the guy.
I'm on something. So
Chris is the drinker, man, and that's what I like about Chris because you always say finish you. First of all, I don't know if everyone else knows you're a bus driver, but it's so funny when you end your videos with like, well, now I got to go to work because I know you're fucking gonna ride a bus.
I've never gone to work drunk or tipsy. Never.
I know that. I assume it's a joke. But it's just so funny. Yeah, it's a joke. Wink, wink. But I assume it's so funny how it's just like you end every video with like, well, gotta go to work. And it's like when you know what you do for a living, it's that much funnier.
Yeah. But no, so coming up on 4 hours now, I have to, after we take a piss break, I do have to finish editing my John Wick 4 because I wanted to finish John Wick 4, but honestly, and Wes was, I had to watch it. I had to watch John Wick a second time because it's so fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I'm also glad. Yeah, it's another reason why we started. We are doing a thing, bringing up a random group member.
Awesome, yeah.
And bringing in. Oh, okay, okay. I thought they were saying that me and you were bringing up random group members. I was like, what? Yeah, and 4 hours was perfect. That was a good reason why I started earlier today because it's like I know you're on the East Coast, and it's just one of those things where I knew this was going to be a long stream. Chris apparently drank too much toilet.
It's Mr. Boss. Look at that the whole fucking thing is gone with shit.
Well, no, because I know that Dark Hour likes to stream on Tuesdays. Yeah. So I'm assuming he's streaming on most Tuesdays unless specified otherwise.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna work on tomorrow my Last of Us finale video. But to Wes and everybody, before we head out, overall though, I think it was a very good show. It was a very good adaptation. I'm critical, but I would recommend it to non-gamers. And I do think I do have criticisms. I do think it could be better, but I didn't hate it by any means. That's it.
I would just like to say that I'm hoping that this fucking 4-hour stream. I mean, I haven't watched any of the Critical Drinker streams about the show. I haven't seen the EFAP stuff. I'm hoping that we addressed pretty much everything that needs to be said. I'm hoping that we had some fresh takes, some hot takes.
Yeah.
Some controversial takes, maybe.
And honestly, I watched some of that episodes. I watched them again with my son and my girl. I did like it. I didn't hate it.
No. It's definitely, like I said, it's like the debate is the show fair, good, or excellent.
Yeah.
It's not the debate if the show is shit.
It's not shit.
Or not.
No.
Yeah, it's no. It's
this
definitely.
Like I said, I'm not reactionary. This show is not garbage. It's not a bad adaptation. It is a very good adaptation. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Like I was saying with these, like I said, these Phantom Menace types. It's like it's got to be trash, or we won't sell our YouTube. We won't make our theoretical YouTube money. Yeah, it's like that's the problem. It's like the blessing of. It's like the curse of monetization.
Yeah.
Like once you get monetized, like everything's got to be. Oh, thank you, Farrell. Good show, man.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Farrell.
you. Thanks for sticking around.
I'm going to take a quick after this pee break. I'm gonna probably upload another hour my John Wick 4 video and had a ton of fun making it. Hope you guys like it.
I'm excited. I'll watch that for sure.
Check it out.
My Leprechaun 3 video finally got uploaded this morning because it's like that was another thing that was a debate, like with monetization. Like you're under the impression that when you get a copyright claim, your video's blocked in all countries because you put Leprechaun 3 in your movie, and you're like, oh no, I gotta redo it. And it's like, no, just publish it and just put your copyright thing, your fair use excuse, and 48 hours later, your video will be available.
Nice.
And you might get a copyright claim, and they'll be like, okay, you can't make any money off of it. But I did that for just one of the guys, and they were like, Sony Pictures, they released your claim. Nice. Sony Pictures literally said, like, you're not doing anything wrong. Fuck yeah. Every one of those I get, I want to eat them all up, gobble them up. I want to collect them and put them all on a mantle.
All right.
Like,
I'm going to finish my video. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. But I got a whole fucking, a whole bottle I got to piss out right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll sign us off, dude. Don't worry.
Anytime, man.
Great talking, man. I loved this episode. It was good shit. We've got it all off our chest.
Them 4 hours fucking flew by.
No, it always does, man. These things are fun. That's why I do them.
Yeah.
If these things dragged and were boring, and I was just kind of like biting my fucking nails,
that's
I
why
do them.
that's why I love West for.
Yeah, game players should not watch the show.
All
You're right.
I'm gonna go pee. All
right, man. Well, good stream, buddy. On that note, yeah, let's go ahead and let's pull up our theme music. We got it over here, right? Oh, did I close it? Let's see here. Well, whatever. On that note, that was fun. Yeah, I can't type and look at the same time and talk. Yes, I am live right now. Let's go to history. We'll pull up this video. All right. This thing. I like this music. I might get a copyright. All right. On that note, you guys, thank you, Wes and Farrell, for watching. Yeah, I had fun. The Last of Us, good show, great game. The Last of Us 2. Oh my god, I can't wait. I can't wait for that shitstorm. But hopefully that won't happen for another year or two after the banking collapse, after after Trump becomes president again. You know, we'll see. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Y'all take it easy.